Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice, Paradise by Sword of the Gods Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course, luffyxharem. I don't own anything. Adios. I am really sorry for neglecting his channel. From now, I will be constant in this channel also.
The once victims of the warlord Gecko Moria rejoiced his downfall, the sun they had longed to see for so long finally shining above them. None of them were aware, but Thriller Bark had been on the edge of the Florian Triangle for some time, so Moria falling on the rudder's control in the final battle had pitched the island ship just enough to send it out of the dreaded waters. Of the pirates that had challenged Moria, Luffy, Jin, and Mary were out cold. Luffy and Jin only had to sleep it off, but Mary's state was a little harder to determine. She had taken a pair of bad falls during the Straw Hats' battle wars, making her spirit too weak to maintain its physical form, so she was currently trapped in her wooden heart. Usopp held said heart, tending to its cracks as well as he could while thinking of ways to chastise his little, adopted niece-daughter for her recklessness. However, just when it appeared that the war was over, a new enemy revealed themselves. Yes, that is correct, a calm bass agreed, the voice cutting through the cheer like a sharpened sword through paper. The warlord Gecko Moria has just been defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates, but only by Straw Hat's underlings and not Straw Hat himself. Everyone in the vicinity froze, slowly turning toward the voice to see a second warlord sitting calmly on some rubble. "I see," another voice responded, this one coming from the transponder snail in Bartholomew Kuma's right hand. "In that case, eliminate every pirate you can. Bring Straw Hat to us alive so he can be an example for future pirates, but kill the rest of his no-good rabble." Understood. Kuma let the snail fall asleep before gently tucking it away and turning to face the group. "I presume you heard that? My orders are to kill you all, but killing a wounded group would give me no pleasure. If I return with Straw Hat only, that should be enough to satisfy the world government. Hand him over to me." "That's super ridiculous," Frankie responded, clicking his T-bar between his arms as the rest of the crew joined him in answering the warlord. "We'll never betray our captain, no way in hell." "Then you will not comply?" Kuma placed his Bible down, one hand pulling his glove off his left hand. "Shave!" Coby yelled, vanishing, only to reappear with his swords pushing into some pink mounds on the palms of the warlord's hands. The Zone didn't have time to voice his confusion before he was shot backwards, rubble caving in on him. "Coby!" the crew cried. Grace dashed forward, a spray of black paint splattering over Kuma's left thigh. "Stay here and take us on," Grace ordered, expecting her betrayal black to make Kuma leave. Kuma stared down at her, his pants and leg bubbling from the acid in the paint, before his hand came down to smack her away. The redhead rolled across the ground, collecting a plethora of scratches, scrapes, and bruises before she crashed into a wall. "What are you?" Zoro demanded as Frankie fired off a coup de burst. Kuma deflected the compressed air without a twitch in his expression, his eyes turning to Zoro. "I ate the paw fruit and became a paw-palmed human," the warlord answered, showing off the paws on his hands. "I can repel anything I wish." "Repel this!" Sanji shouted, a burning leg arching down on a path toward the warlord's head. Kuma didn't so much as flinch as Sanji's foot connected with a blast of heat, one hand coming up lazily to grab the chef's leg and throw him away with the force of a cannonball. Sanji spun uncontrollably, slamming into a wall headfirst. Brook attacked next, his lighter form appearing before the warlord with his rapier aimed for Kuma's neck. The paw-palmed man leaned out of the way, the blade severing a tiny ball of black curls from his hair. Again, Kuma's hand came up to smack his opponent away, sending Brook over a wall and out of sight. Thunderbolt tempo. Nami called, electricity firing downward. The warlord finally moved, dodging the blast of lightning and appearing before the navigator. Nami stepped back, bringing her Kleem attack up to block, but Zoro appeared between her and their absurdly tall adversary. Two sword style, draw and resheath. Rashomon. Kuma's face remained expressionless, blasting both swordsman and navigator away with just a flex of his hand. Zoro's attack carved a trench in the ground behind the warlord, but Kuma ignored it completely. Firebird star. 10,000 kilogram press, heavy gong. Kuma assessed his opponents as their attacks neared from the left, top, and right respectively. Coming to a decision, Kuma lifted one hand toward the sky and the other toward his right. The first caught Amy, bouncing her up and away like a strong trampoline, the girl crashing into and through the remains of a tower. The second stopped Chopper cold, blasting him back into a crowd of rolling pirates. Usopp's Firebird star impacted the warlord's back, searing through the jacket, shirt, and fake skin there to reveal the sturdy metal underneath. "Why, you're a cyborg?" Usopp gaped, only barely finding the right frame of mind to roll away from the missile of pressurized air the giant man sent his way. Mary's heart fell out of his satchel as he moved, bouncing across the ground a couple of times before spiritual energy leaked from it and condensed into the form of a little, white-haired girl without clothes. Usopp was in front of her in an instant, his ghost hunting cloak covering her modesty. Kuma eyed the new appearance like one would gaze upon an exotic animal in a zoo, his eyes lingering on her horns and straw hat tattoo, before the cloak covered it. "A new member of the Straw Hat Pirates," Kuma acknowledged. The description agrees with the report filed by Vice Admiral Garp. Designation: Ghost Ship, going merry. Bounty: 15 million. "Leave her alone," Frankie ordered. "There's only one super cyborg around here, and that's me." Strong hammer. Kuma caught the shorter half-machine man's punch with a forearm. The shipwright only had time to gasp before his vision was filed with paw-covered hand and he was rocketed into the castle. "Ocho Fleur," Robin called, 8 arms blooming around Kuma's neck and grabbing onto some part of his head. Snap! The arms pulled as one, attempting to yank the warlord's head to the right in order to break his neck. The attempt failed, Kuma's head turning only to watch Robin directly. "Lay off my family," Mary ordered, ducking around Usopp and charging the warlord. She threw her hammer, the wooden mallet bouncing off the cyborg's broad chest with a thunk. Kuma opened his mouth, a beam of light building in his mouth before shooting toward the approaching fairy. Mary dove out of the way, the beam blasting a trench in the ground behind her and blowing rolling pirates and Thriller Bark survivors away. Apparently tired of fighting, Kuma reached his hands toward the heavens, ripple of air taking the form of a giant paw above him. The paw rippled, shrinking a few inches. "Run!" Lola ordered, finally breaking out of her shock. Her men heeded the order instantly, fleeing from the battlefield with the unconscious Straw Hats they could reach. "Run while you can." "Mary," Usopp called. "Come back here," but Mary tried to protest, Kuma's attack growing smaller and smaller. Realizing how dangerous it truly was, she called her hammer to her hand and turned to retreat. Damn it. Usopp didn't chastise her for her language, scooping her into his arms and starting to run just as Kuma's attack reached the size of his head. The paw of pressurized air shrunk to the size of his hands shortly after, his hands cupping it and blocking most of what seemed to be light coming from the paw. He opened his hands, letting the paw-shaped attack float forward toward the center of the courtyard. Ursa shock. The destruction was complete and absolute. No stone remained on any other within the courtyard, that is to say, about 3/4 of the mansion surrounding said courtyard ceased to exist. Pirates were scattered every which way, slumped over the ground in a way that would confuse Moria himself as to if victims. The tyrant looked over the devastation without an ounce of emotion, his eyes coming to rest on the prone form of Monkey D. Luffy. He took several large steps forward, covering the distance between himself and his target in less than a minute. He stopped briefly, his hands ready to take Straw Hat and leave. One sword style. Death Lion Song. Kuma finally stumbled, a gash tearing its way across his left shoulder and revealing the gears and mechanisms therein. A panting Zoro slowly sheathed Wado Ichimonji behind the large cyborg, having rescued his captain for a second time. "A cyborg and devil fruit powers?" Zoro panted. "You'd think I'd start feeling like you had an advantage over me." "I am no mere cyborg," Kuma corrected, turning to face the swordsman that had somehow managed to not only remain conscious after his Ursa shock, but still attack him faster than his sensors could detect. "I am called a pacifista, the first of an experimental line being created for the world government by Dr. Vegapunk himself. To give you a frame of reference, it's said that it will take the rest of the world 500 years to begin developing the technology that Vegapunk is creating now." "I don't care," Zoro growled, trying to stand against Kuma and feeling his legs give out. "This is embarrassing," he grunted. "My legs won't listen to me, but that doesn't matter. You want Luffy's head, right? I'll give you a head, but it sure as hell won't be my captain's. Take my head instead." Kuma showed no reaction to Zoro's demand. "And why would I accept that?" he asked. "Because I am the man who is destined to become the world's greatest swordsman." Zoro paused, his left hand gripping the handle of Wado Ichimonji before his determined eyes glared at Kuma. "Luffy will be the king of the pirates someday, and it's a shame that I may never get to see it, but what is the worth of my ambition if I can't even save my captain? What are you waiting for? Show me you have some honor." "What the hell do you think you're doing, Mosshead?" an irritated voice demanded, Sanji shoving a couple of displaced blocks of stone off himself and getting to his feet. Bypassing the shocked swordsman, the chef placed himself between his crewmate and the warlord. "If you want a head, take mine. I might not be worth a lot yet, but you'll regret not taking my head later if you don't do it now. This is your only chance to take on Blackleg Sanji." His tone softened, the blonde tilting his head back only a fraction of an inch. "Hey, Mosshead. Tell the others I'm sorry to leave without saying goodbye for me. And tell them I'm sorry to leave them hanging." Looks like you all will need to find a new coup. He trailed off, his mouth opened in a silent scream as Zoro bashed him in the side with the handle of Kitetsu 3. You son of a, he didn't finish, his form crumbling. There, Zoro stated, what are you waiting for? Me. The swordsman didn't have time to turn around before something collided with the top of his head. As he fell, he was able to make out black hair before he joined his rival on the ground in the sweet embrace of unconsciousness. Electric Devil Jin, Kuma announced, eyeing the only now conscious man before him. Worth 100 million, it is believed that you ate the Rumble Logia fruit, though you have been untruthful as to its origins. What do you have to offer that could top this swordsman beneath you? I killed God himself to take this power, Jin responded, his eyes shadowed by his hair. I claimed this power to save myself, but I accepted this power to protect my crew. And now, I offer you this power for that same reason. Take my head, take my fruit, in exchange, leave my family the hell alone. You straw hats, Kuma sighed. First the swordsman pins me in a corner by putting my honor on the line. Now you do the same thing. Allow me to ask you this. How are you standing? If I recall, you were unconscious for the final battle like Straw Hat himself. Yet you are now awake when he is not. Why do you wish to throw your life away for this man? I'm assuming Don Anami fired off an electric attack or two because the ambient electricity was enough to wake me up. As for your second question, Don Luffy is the man who will be the king of the pirates. I have no doubt in this statement, nor will I ever. Just as I know that Sanji will find the All Blue one day and Zoro will defeat Mihawk. I know that Don Anami will complete a map of the world and Grace will become a world-famous painter. Chopper will cure every disease and Robin will learn the true history. Every one of my friends will reach their goals, it is only a matter of when, not if. I have no such ambition. My only goal was to sail the sea, to conquer my fear of it, and to reach the end. If this is my end, then so be it, I shall die saving my family, for Don Luffy, for the Straw Hat Pirates. Very well, Kuma agreed. If you are to take his place, then you must take it fully. The warlord lifted Luffy gently, pressing one hand against the team's chest. A paw-shaped bubble-tinged pink around the edges grew from the pirate's back until it overshadowed Kuma himself. The warlord then replaced Luffy on the ground before picking up Zoro and creating a much smaller bubble, this one slightly green. The second was only about a third the size of the original until both bubbles combined. What did you do to them? Jin demanded. My fruit allows me to deflect anything I wish. Attacks of course, but also pain, exhaustion, ache. This is the accumulation of agony Straw Hat went through in his battle with Moria tonight as well as some of what Roronoa went through. To take their place, you must bear it all. Only then will you truly replace either. Allow me to give you a taste. Kuma swiped his hand through the bubble, a comparatively tiny piece floating toward and into the logia. Jin gritted his teeth and screamed as pain the likes of which he had never known racked his body. He collapsed as most of the pain subsided to a strong ache. Do you still wish to continue? Jin scowled in response, pushing himself to his feet and throwing his tonfa at the warlord's feet where they stuck out of the ground mere inches from his shoes. I picked the place. Let's go. Sanji and Zoro awoke at the same time to the sounds of a cheering crowd and their captain's happy laughter. A quick glacé showed then that Luffy was his usual self, bouncing around this way and that as if the night before hadn't happened. It was morning, the shining sun above them saying that it was almost midday. You moron, Sanji growled, grabbing the front of Zoro's shirt, trying to sacrifice yourself. You tried to, too, Dark Bro, Zoro shot back, but I didn't. What? Zoro forced himself to his feet, leaving Sanji in the dust to chase after him as the swordsman raced into the woods. But Zoro was faster than Sanji for once, the cook losing the swordsman in the trees. It took Zoro far too long to find Jin in the forest, over 15 minutes, but all Zoro really did was follow the scent of blood and ozone, even if he did get low air, turned around a couple of times. It was a gruesome sight when he did finally find the man who had taken his place in taking Luffy's place. Jin's clothing was nothing but scraps and his eyes were tinted red. Blood and scorch marks covered everything in the clearing. The grass that wasn't covered in red was black and charred beyond recognition. Zoro had no clue how, but blood still dripped from the logia in the center of it all. You idiot, Zoro yelled. What did you do? What happened? What did I do? Jin repeated in a dry voice. What happened? Oh, nothing special. I was only doing my duty. It was a party that now filled what remained of Moria's mansion, music and singing drifting through the air as alcohol of every kind passed between hands without discrimination. Brook had uncovered a piano in the corner, the instrument surviving untouched by some miracle of fate. Only Jin was unable to take part in the festivities, the man still unconscious from his stunt the night before, and it was only thanks to his logia powers that he hadn't bled out from the combined pain and damage of Luffy and Zoro. What happened to Jin? Luffy wondered aloud, taking a break from the party to look over his injured crew. Chopper had assured him that Jin would make a full recovery with time, but Luffy was still worried about what had happened while he was unconscious. His crew had mentioned another warlord, but none of them were able or willing to offer any more than that. We can tell you, A pair of voices answered the captain, the team turning to see a couple of pirates. One was skinny with a ginger afro and what seemed to be a black eye while the other was heavy set with a mask, hat and 2 buck teeth. We saw the whole thing. Who are you? We're the Risky Brothers. Luffy blinked, not sure if he'd heard of them or met their zombies. You wanna know what happened last night? Luffy moved to answer, but his sources of information were quickly dragged away by Sanji and Zoro, much to their distress. Luffy shrugged, turning back to the party and the buffet of meat calling his name. Alright, Sanji growled as the quartet reached the center of the destroyed courtyard, releasing the red-haired brother as Zoro pushed the other on his butt. Spill, what happened? We don't want Luffy to know, Zoro said before either brother could question their motives. It would kill him to know one of us almost died for his sake. Well, the smaller brother began, after the guy with the tonfa knocked you out. He gave this awesome speech about you all. Then Kuma picked up you and Straw Hat and pushed these bubbles out of you. He said that they were your pain, damage, and agony from last night. Yeah, the bigger brother agreed. Just a little bit of that stuff had him screaming like he was being murdered, but he got back up like a badass and demanded to pick the location. We followed them to this clearing where that guy stared at the ball of pain for a while. And then, suddenly, he jumped into the ball. We couldn't see the next part. There was a flash of light, a boom of thunder, and then he was just screaming. It was terrible. He wouldn't stop screaming, the larger brother shivered. At first, lightning was shooting out of him as he screamed, burning everything. We had to retreat because the lightning hit the tree we were hiding behind. Then he ran out of lightning or something and started bleeding. But he wouldn't stop screaming, not even when he started going crazy, like he turned into a monster or something. His voice got deeper and he stopped flailing around, but he did start smashing stuff with his bare fists with this big grin on his face. Even as he kept convulsing, it was scary. Then it was over, the smaller brother finished. He never fell, not even when he couldn't scream anymore. Kuma left eventually, saying something about D's. Don't know why, though. Thanks for the info, Zoro nodded, suddenly holding both brothers at sword point. Don't tell anyone what you saw, especially Luffy. But, no buts, Sanji denied, taking a puff from his cigarette. Jin didn't try to sacrifice himself for recognition. He did it because we all believe in Luffy. So not a word of this, or we'll make sure you never say anything ever again. The Risky Brothers nodded quietly, the action prompting the other duo to head back inside. They're so cool, the brothers gushed behind them. Unknown to all parties involved, a single ear vanished into a pair of flower petals as the chef and swordsman walked away. Sanji and Zoro returned to the image of most of the guys of their crew making fools of themselves, dancing to Brook's music on top of the tables. Usopp was regaling pirates with stories of their adventures, edited to give him a more prominent role of course, while Amy was sitting at a table next to them, correcting him, and Mary laughing at her uncle's fumbling denials. Chopper, Frankie, and Coby were dancing a can-can on another table, Grace laughing at them with a box of rice crackers. Robin had taken a position watching over Jin while the others partied, a drink in her hand. Sanji split off from Zoro quickly, returning to the grill to start replenishing the food Luffy had eaten in their absence. The captain and navigator were over by the piano, talking with Brook as his music floated through the air. Zoro shrugged, walking over to join them just as the Brook's part of the music stopped with a dissonant chord, falling out of sync with the tone dial set before him. Brook chalked, trying to continue the music, but only doing so with a slow, inconsistent tempo. He's still there? Laboon's still waiting for us at Reverse Mountain? Has been for 50 years, Nami confirmed, Luffy's arm around her shoulder. Crocus thought you all had run away and forgotten about him, but Laboon never gave up on you. Tears leaked from Brook's eye sockets, falling on the ivory keys. I'm so glad to be alive, Brook cried. I'm so glad I never gave up. I'm so happy. His voice fell to a whisper, the skeleton looking over to Luffy. By any chance, is that offer to join your crew still open? Luffy grinned, his teeth shining. Of course. What? Coby, Usopp, Sanji, Grace, Amy, Chopper, and Frankie gaped. Zoro, Nami, Robin, and Mary had no such reactions, having expected something like that. Just like that. Despite their surprise, most of the crew abandoned their positions and rushed Brook, dragging the skeleton from the piano bench and tossing him in the air. Nami, Robin, Grace, and Zoro sat this out, laughing at the fun the rest of their number had. Brook pulled away rather quickly, flipping back toward the piano. He landed in a crouch, pulling a faded and torn page from his tattered jacket and smacking it to the floor. The pirates could just read "wanted" beneath his finger bones. My apologies for not introducing myself properly last we met. My name is Brook. Once upon a time, I led a battalion in my homeland's army. After my retirement, I sailed the seas as a musician with the Rumbar Pirates, eventually succeeding Yorkie as the acting captain. With a bounty of 33 million bears on my head, I'm a wanted man known as Humming Brook, and I now pledge both my life and unlife to my Captain Monkey D. Luffy. That is to say, I'll work myself to the bone. Yo ho ho ho. The party fell back into rhythm after that, not stopping for a whole 2.5 days. Jin awoke on that second day, complaining of a pounding headache and unable to move his limbs. Chopper assured him that he would be fine after some food and rest with the help of his logia powers, something about his battery running dry that only he, Jin, Usopp, and Mary understood. With some painkillers stuffed into him, Jin then pulled Chopper aside for an examination he seemed private about. That night, however, was not amusing. There was no sign of any of the original inhabitants of Thriller Bark anywhere to be found, not even Moria, so Amy had commandeered Perona's room for her and Grace to sleep in rather than hike all the way back to the Sunny, a task Grace refused to take part in. Coby had offered to give her a ride, but Amy had shot that down instantly. Sure, she'd come to terms with the possibility of them being together at some point in the future. She shivered at the thought of her sister growing up, but she wasn't going to make it easy for Pinky. And so, the sisters shared Perona's giant bed, free from the snoring of all the other pirates downstairs. Luckily, the Grand Line weather had made them light sleepers as the sound of the door creaking open woke them, the light from the torches outside casting a flickering shadow over the floor. They starred the intruder to make themselves known. The shadow grew, its owner approaching the bed with heavy, uneven footsteps. Amy and Grace were certain it must be someone from the TBSA. None of the crew walked that heavily. Because of this, Amy had no qualms with waiting until the person was right next to the bed before punching them with an increased mass punch. The person flew across the room, their body smashing a drawer to kindling as Grace reached over and flipped on the lights. Jin? Amy blinked, eyeing the man in the pile of broken wood. What the hell are you doing here? Jin laid in the rubble, his body quivering, but it was not the Jin the sisters had come to call Nakama. The most different thing about him were his eyes, his dark pupils sharp but unfocused. The man's mouth was stretched into a bloodthirsty grin, the ends twitching as he sniffed the air like some sort of bloodhound or hunting dog. Or some beast. Kukukuku, Jin chuckled darkly. Kukukuku. He pushed himself up, his unfocused eyes landing on Amy. With a growl, the man lunged forward at the blonde who grabbed her parasol from beside the bed. Jin didn't slow down until he impaled himself on the accessory, little sparks dancing away from where the umbrella skewered him. Still, he struggled, reaching for the older woman. Stop it, Jin, Amy begged. What's wrong with you? Jin gnashed his teeth at her. Color trap. Drowsy dark blue. Navy paint splattered on the out-of-control logia, his movements slowing for only a moment before redoubling in ferocity. One hand brushed past Amy's cheek, leaving a tiny electrical burn. She growled, kicking him off her parasol and back into the wreckage of the drawer. I don't get it, Grace Whisper yelled. I was able to get my sleep paint to work on Jin shortly before we entered the triangle. Why didn't he fall asleep? He's already asleep, a new voice answered, Chopper rushing into the room with Jin's headband in one hoof and most of Usopp's rubber bands of doom in the other. Changing into heavy point, Chopper quickly subdued the resisting Jin, leaving him with his arms and legs bound together with rubber and his headband firmly keeping his powers in check. What do you mean he's still asleep? Amy demanded. He looked pretty damn awake when he attacked us. Chopper huffed, taking various readings of Jin's vitals, the man struggling all the while. I might be breaking patient confidentially with this, but I feel like everyone on the crew will need to know. I think whatever happened with Kuma has given Jin multiple personality disorder. What do you mean? Grace questioned, her voice wavering. Before this, Jin had something of a berserker state he'd warned me about in case I ever needed to sedate him, Chopper explained. Since joining the crew, he's only used it 3 times. Whiskey Peak, his battle with Eneru, and on the Bridge of Hesitation in a much milder sense. Okay, Amy blinked. And you think that's somehow connected to this? She gestured at the struggling lightning man. Yes, Chopper nodded. Like I said before, he'd warned me. He said it was like this tiny voice in the back of his head. He could ignore it easily most of the time. But Jin told me after waking up this morning that the voice was gone completely. He seemed happy about it, but it got me worried. Looks like it was a good thing I decided to check up on him. What now? Grace asked. We'll have to tell the rest of the crew that this other Jin isn't afraid to attack them. He demonstrated that only a minute ago. And what will we call this alternate Jin? We'll figure that out tomorrow, Chopper answered, smacking Jin over the head with a fist. The man crumpled, falling unconscious completely so the doctor could heft him onto his shoulder. Please get back to sleep, Luffy said, we're leaving tomorrow. Amy and Grace watched Chopper retreat into the hallway before glancing at each other. Both of them knew going back to sleep would be no easy feat, Grace offering her drowsy dark blue with an uncertain shrug. That's the last of it, Usopp panted, dropping the last crate in the hold before returning to the deck of the Thousand Sunny. The sun shone brightly on the ship as its crew prepared to leave Thriller Bark that day. All of Moria's treasure had been left on the ship from when Perona had tried to steal it, so it was only the food that had to be replaced on the ship. The sniper blinked away the sunlight as he stepped out on the grassy deck to take in the scene. Luffy, Nami, Amy, Grace, Brooke, and Mary were all relaxing on the deck itself, the navigator all but passed out on a pile of riches. Luffy rummaged through it, pulling out an armband and throwing it on without preamble. Amy all but followed the navigator's example, using a lawn chair to tan rather than have a cash coma. Grace was painting her, something about contrast between the dark backdrop and her sunny disposition that no one understood. Brook basked in the sunlight, a soft melody drifting from his violin. Lola watched all this with a hint of confusion, as if she couldn't believe that they were free or that this carefree bunch was the group that freed them. "Where did you say you were going?" the female pirate captain asked, shaking herself out of her daze. Luffy turned to her with a smile. "We're going to Fishman Island," Luffy answered. "That marks the halfway point to the One Piece." "Fishman Island?" the smaller, risky brother questioned, popping up over the railing. "I remember that place," the larger brother added, joining his brother. "You've been there," Luffy gasped, boggling. Usopp appeared out of the kitchen where he had been helping Sanji set booby traps to protect the food, drawn to the discussion like a moth to a flame. "Sure have," the first brother laughed. "I will never forget it, those mermaid beauties are beyond compare." "Mermaid beauties?" Sanji demanded, bursting from the kitchen. "Yo-ho-ho," Brook laughed. "I wonder if they'd be willing to show me their panties." Within seconds, Brook and Sanji were dancing a can-can whist singing about mermaids. "No, you idiots," the larger brother admonished with a lecherous smile. "Think about it, mermaids don't wear panties." Sanji and Brook gasped before their dancing redoubled in intensity, now including the risky brothers. Lola shook her head with exasperation before turning back to the captain and his wife. "So you've been to Fishman Island?" Nami questioned, ignoring the morons with practiced ease. "Then what are you doing back here?" "Oh, no," Lola shook her head. "We came to Fishman Island from the other direction. See, my crew originated from the New World on the other side of the Red Line." "Wow, really?" Luffy's eyes sparkled. Lola nodded, reaching into her back pocket and pulling out a small piece of paper. "You all are headed the direction, so I'm going to give you this." She signed a bottom corner before tearing away part of the paper and handing it to Luffy. "What is it?" Luffy asked, Nami peering at it over his shoulder. "It's my mama's Vivre card. She's a powerful pirate in the New World, so if you see her, tell her hello and that I'm doing well. She should help you if she knows we're friends." "What's so special about it?" the captain wondered, the paper slowly growing. Vivre cards are special papers that only one island in the world can make. They're able to infuse part of a person's soul into these little papers so they reflect the life force of a person. See, this one is whole and growing, so mama is alive and well. Also, she held out her hand, the paper inching along toward her fingers. They are drawn to their original owner, so you can always find them by following their Vivre card. "Hey, Luffy?" Nami began as Luffy handed her the card. "Did you already have one of these?" "You have a Vivre card? But they're only made in the New World?" Luffy nodded, digging out a card from within his hat. Unlike the card Lola had given them, this card had a red tinge, nearly a fourth of it having disintegrated. "Who?" Lola began hesitantly. "Whose card is that?" "My big brother's," Luffy answered solemnly, staring at the card as if trying to make a decision. "What does this mean?" "Your brother is in terrible danger," Lola responded, equally solemn. "If the paper burns away, then the person has died." Luffy nodded before tucking the paper back into his hat securely. "Are we going to go after Ace?" Nami questioned, Lola jolting at the name. "Nah," her husband waved off. "Ace wouldn't want me to interfere with his adventure. He's been in plenty of tight spots before, I'm sure he'll be fine. He'd never live it down if his little brother saved his life." "If you're sure," Nami relented. "I'm sorry," Lola interjected, "but did you say Ace, as in Fire Fist Ace?" "You know him?" Nami asked over Luffy's. "Yeah, only in name. Mama wanted to recruit him after he gained his logia fruit, but Whitebeard snatched him up first." "Oh well." Luffy laughed, his jovial attitude returning in an instant. He snatched a handful of gold from the pile behind him and handed it over to Lola. "Here. We don't need all this to ourselves and you'll need to buy food or something." "Don't give away my treasure without permission," Nami roared, not taking the gold from Lola. Lola swallowed. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, sure, whatever," Nami pouted. "Luffy, we should leave soon. Frankie should be done fixing up Brook's old ship for the rolling pirates in about an hour and, from what I can tell, the weather will be good for sailing until nightfall at least." "All right," the captain cheered. "All hands on deck, prepare to set sail." The Straw Hats left Thriller Bark with many goodbyes and farewells, waving until the island of the dead was nothing but a spot in the distance. They continued forward for another hour or so before Chopper called them together in the dining room. Everyone was present, even Jin, despite him still being unable to do any heavy work until Chopper deemed him healthy enough. It was a good thing too, for his participation was necessary. "All right, Chopper," Zoro muttered, breaking the ice. "I was in the middle of training, so this better be good." "I'm not sure if good is the right word," the fluffy doctor responded, his eyes meeting with Jin's. The Logia nodded, allowing the zone to take a deep breath and press ahead. "As I'm sure you all know, Jin was heavily injured during our fights with both Moria and Kuma, two of the warlords of the sea. Injured more so than the rest of us. Are you going somewhere with this? Sanji asked, breathing out a puff of smoke. It's something to do with the voices, isn't it? Mary questioned before Chopper could respond. I remember the conversation you two had just after Alabasta. Voices? Usopp all but demanded. What voices? We aren't haunted, are we? We're haunted, aren't we? We're not haunted by anything, Long Nose, Amy grunted. The closest thing we have to a ghost is the lemon-hating bonehead we call our musician. Ghosts? Said Undead yelped. Oh, you mean me? You almost scared me out of my skin, Ms. Amy. Not that I have any skin anymore, yo-ho-ho-ho. Can we get back on topic, please? Coby asked. I believe Mary said something about voices? The voice had been with me for most of my life, or it feels that way at least. Jin spoke up, pulling everyone's attention to him. I never knew my mother, but my father tried his best to raise me alone. We lived in a small, coal mining town on a small island in the East Blue, and that's where I stayed for the first 16 years of my life. I was almost 17 when it happened. The mines exploded, killing every worker inside including my father. His death, it hit me hard. Gave me nightmares and made it hard to sleep. Still does sometimes. Jin blinked, the bags under his eyes seeming suddenly more pronounced. It was during those long, sleepless nights that the voice first showed up. It nagged me, yelled at me that the explosion hadn't been an accident. It ordered me to track down the person who owned the mine and to beat the answer out of them. To get my rel, and he turned away from Luffy, a single tear sliding down his face. I held on for a week. It was my 17th birthday when I tracked her down to the next town over. No one questioned me or asked where I was going. To them, I was just another kid going out to practice with my weapons in case pirates attacked. I can't even remember the woman's name, but I got her to confess. Looking back, I wonder if she just said that so I'd end her pain. And then Krieg appeared, his crew pillaging the town. He found me like that, covered in human blood, the still warm corpse in front of me, all alone in the world. He swept me away, told me I had a special gift, a little friend that would help both me and him. I sailed the East Blue with him for almost 6 years before we made for the Grand Line and met Mihawk. The voice stayed with me, always urging me to fight and kill. I listened to it, obeyed it, until Don Luffy and Sanji saved me from the path I'd accepted. Since then, I tried my best to ignore it unless I knew I could control it or direct it. Whiskey Peak, Eneru, Eni's Lobby. Those were the only times I ever gave in. But the voice is gone now. I thought that was good news, but he raised his eyes, glancing around at the shocked looks of his crewmates. Chopper, what happened? The doctor was silent for a few moments, trying to find the phrasing needed for everyone to understand. The damage you sustained when we fought the warlords far exceeded any of us. We had mostly physical damage, but I don't know what you did, but it wasn't good. The voice you mentioned, it's still there. Jin slumped, but he did not interrupt Chopper as he pushed ahead. The trauma you experienced has somehow caused this voice to manifest itself into another personality altogether, one that acts while you're asleep. It tried to attack Amy and Grace last night. A heavy silence weighed down on the crew at that revelation. None of them knew what to think. Jin was Jin to them, but this information was nothing less than disturbing. Don Luffy, no, Luffy stared at the logia, his gaze serious. But I said no, captain's order. You're not leaving this because of some stupid voice taking over your body. We'll find some way around this. Guys? The captain glanced around at his crew. I'll get to work on his hammock, Frankie nodded. It should super hold him still. I'll start work on some booby traps to wake him or us up if it gets out, Usopp nodded. I'll help you, Uncle Usopp, Mary added. I'll make my paints stronger than ever, Grace promised. And I'll dig through my books, Chopper finalized. There might be some medication that can keep the voice at bay. Everyone, Jin sniffed. Why would you go so far for me? You're one of us, Jin, Robin smiled. You're a Straw Hat Pirate, and we take care of our own. Jin would deny it until the end of time, but he absolutely cried, until Robin finished. Besides, if we did not, then tonight you would rampage through our ship, possibly killing most, if not all, of us and ending our journey prematurely. Robin. Bah ha ha ha, Mary laughed, clapping her hands in a way that attracted the others' attentions. Funny as that is, we should have a better name than Alternate Gian. Why not Rum? Amy offered. Jin sent her a questioning glance. Your name might be pronounced, Geen, but it's spelled, Gin like the alcohol. Rum is alcohol, but very different. Jin shrugged. Sure, why not? And, thank you all. Unknown location, Grand Line, Bada Bada Bad UP. Bada Bada Bad UP. Bada Bada Bad UP. The first mate of the pirate group almost missed the sound of their Den Den Mushi ringing on account of the fiesta the rest of the crew were enjoying. How his brother, the captain, could nap with such noise confused him, but he was grateful. Should something wake his brother while in the middle of one of his siestas, someone would not have a good day. Bada Bada Bad UP. Bada Bada Bad UP. Sie lick. Hola. Quien estás? "Is this the Amigo Pirates?" the tired voice on the other side of the snail asked. "Si," the man answered. "Who is this? Am I speaking to Captain Largo?" "No, Z Capitan is indisposed at Z moment." He paused, turning to the fiesta happening in the rest of their submarine. "Silencia, idiotas." The men quieted, all staring at their vice captain as he turned back to the snail. "Z's is Vice Capitan Cordo speaking on his behalf." "Very well," Snail sighed. "I've called to inform you that Captain Shaki has decided to accept you into his alliance as the 51st Division. Congratulations. It's about time." But the snail continued, halting the men before they could resume their fiesta. "There is a condition that must be met before you can officially join. A mere formality, you see." "Uncondition?" a new voice asked, a man with a guitar rising from a rope hammock to stare at the transponder snail. "Do tell." "It's a simple retrieval mission. Make your way to Cansorn Island." Grace grunted, sweat dripping from her forehead as she pushed herself, the room around her having steadily risen in temperature. Her pink hat, red jacket, and yellow shoes were thrown off to one side of the crow's nest, having been left there since the beginning of her exertion. Now, her purple tank top clung to her body, soaked in almost an hour's worth of sweat. Each noise she made was accented by the sound of her flesh striking over and over. "That's it, Grace," Coby urged, meeting each of Grace's movements. His shirtless form shone with the sweat from the hot room, little drops of the stuff sliding down the crevices of muscles honed from months of training. The tan vest and light blue shirt of his was thrown next to Grace's discarded clothing, his swords, and her paints. "Come on, harder, can you feel it?" "It hurts," Grace exclaimed through her panting. "We've been at this for almost an hour, I'm ready to drop." "Do you have a paint for killing pain?" "Painkiller purple," Grace answered, a particularly hard hit making her flinch. "I don't, think it would work for, this with the amount of sweat. It'd probably get, washed away." "But you've gotten better since we started," Coby pointed out. "Remember the first time we did this? You didn't last 10 minutes. "And I'm still sore from that," Grace complained, shifting her legs. "Why did I agree to this?" "We're almost done," the male insisted. "Just a little more, almost there." Grace groaned as she reached her end. Her shaking legs gave out beneath her, making her collapse. Coby caught her gently, making sure she didn't fall to the floor. Grace panted, her breaths coming in great heaves. "I think that's enough for now," Coby commented, his own breathing a little heavy. "That was a good round. Relax for a while." Grace was still for a minute, trying to catch her breath and waiting for her body to stop trembling. Finding her footing, Grace shuffled to her clothing, her muscles clearly aching from the unfamiliar trails they'd just gone through. "You're getting more used to it." "I wish you didn't have so much stamina," Grace moaned, rubbing her abdomen. "I can barely stand and my stomach hurts so much, I don't know if I'll be able to eat anything at dinner." Coby paled. "Sanji can't know about this," he said with a tinge of worry. "If he knew what I was putting you through, he'd kick me from here to the East Blue and back." Grace giggled at the horrified look on the Rosette's face as she dropped her hat on her head and tossed him his vest. She pat her navy-colored tights which rubbed against her legs uncomfortably. "I think he already knows," the redhead muttered, making Coby gasp fearfully. "It's not that hard to tell when we've been disappearing before coming to lunch and dinner covered in sweat. Not to mention the argument he and Zoro got into when we kicked Zoro out of here the first time." "I'm still a little angry about that," Zoro interjected from the other side of the crow's nest, 2 100-pound dumbbells in his hands. "I was in the middle of something." "We're sorry about that, Zoro-sensei," Coby replied, "but I promised to teach Grace how to fight and this was the only place I could do that without Sanji getting in the way." They were in the crow's nest, training room so Coby could make good on his promise to train Grace in hand-to-hand combat. Obviously, supervising them were Zoro, Amy, and Chopper, each for their own reasons. Amy had refused to not be present for any training Grace went through with Coby. Chopper was there in case the painter pushed herself too far, and Zoro just wanted to buff up his ego and see how his student taught. This time, Coby had her punching padded gloves and working on her reflexes as a cool down from her earlier workout of push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. "You're improving quickly," Coby stated as Grace wandered back over, "especially since this will only be a supplementary skill for you. Only 2 sessions a day and you can almost push me backwards already." "That's impressive, but I guess the analogy about correct angles helped a bit." "A lot, actually," Grace responded, picking up her jacket to try to hide the blush adorning her cheeks, noticing anew the way her shirt clung to her budding curves. "When you said finding the right opening was like finding the best view for a picture, everything just kind of clicked." "Why are they like this?" Amy moaned, the back of her head resting against the wall from where she was sitting on the floor. She was wearing bright yellow as usual, but this time it was in the form of a short-sleeved shirt and a light jacket. Covering her legs were a pair of 3/4-length jeans. A wide-brimmed sun hat rested next to her with her parasol as the blonde fanned herself with a lemon-patterned hand fan. "Every time they end with the flirting and I don't think they even know they're doing it." "You've certainly mellowed out about it," Zoro chuckled. His body dressed for summer weather in a Hawaiian shirt. Not that they knew what a Hawaii was, and dark slacks. I remember a time when you'd have stomped over there and threatened to castrate him. He's grown on me, Amy admitted. It's hard to not like him. Anyone on this crew, really. That doesn't mean that I won't murder him if he makes the first move. Ha, Zoro laughed. That'd be the day. Let's get out of here. I'm getting hungry and the shit cook should have prepared something by now. Sanji. Luffy's voice echoed from outside the room. Meat. I don't know what you all were talking about, Chopper jumped in, but I'm hungry, too. The trio walked over to the pair of teens before the group descended the mast to the deck. The rest of the crew seemed to have heard their captain's demand, those who hadn't been on the deck finding their way there. Brook and Usopp were fishing off the port side and, though Usopp had already pulled in, Brook's line was still out. The skeleton moved to wrap it up, but a swift tug caused him and Usopp to both grab the pole and pull. It's a big one, Usopp yelled, Chopper and Luffy jumping in to try to help pull it in. Here it comes, Chopper cried, a shadow beneath the water breaking the surface and flying into the air. The original crew members were able to identify the fish as an elephant bluefin tuna, Sanji and Jin prepping to catch the fish as it fell. Unfortunately, it never fell. Before the eyes of every crew member, a great shadow passed over the Thousand Sunny, its owner grabbing the elephant tuna in its jaws and flying away, swallowing it whole. Jin blinked. Excuse me, but what the hell was that? Jin had followed Zoro in fashion for the time being, sporting a loud pink beach shirt with green palm trees and khaki beach shorts. His tonfa were secured to a sturdy belt around his waist and one of his headbands kept his hair out of his face and his powers in check. It stole our food, Sanji yelled. So cool, the kitty trio and Mary gasped, their eyes sparking. Mary had taken the time to fill the little girl role Usopp had wanted, wearing a soft, red dress that hung down to her knees with short sleeves. She had on a pair of jean shorts underneath and Nami had loaned her a pair of gold armbands that sparkled in the sun from her wrists. Plain beach flats rested on her feet, easily removable should she so choose. Finally, tucked behind one of her horns was a red bow that matched her dress and contrasted well with her white hair. No, Coby denied, whacking Luffy in the back of the head. Not cool, that thing just ate our fish. Don't you care, Captain? Said thing made a U-turn, flying back toward the ship. Now that the pirates were aware of it, they were able to tell that it was a giant Hercules beetle with a brown shell and a small mane of pink hair. Flanking its massive horn were two curved tusks on either side. A white marking stood out on either side of its neck, but the pirates could not tell what it was. It's coming in from the front, Frankie called from his post at the wheel. I'm gonna make it join our crew, Luffyrus the Grassdag to join Frankie at the wheel where the big bug was headed. Every time, Nami moaned from a lawn chair, every damn time. Foo, Robin chuckled beside her, not offering any consolidation as she continued to read her book. In the front of the ship, Luffy jumped onto Sunny's mane, staring down the approaching insect. Said insect locked eyes with him and began to glow red, the glow condensing in its horn. The beetle roared, blasting fire from its horn. It shoots fire? Luffy gasped with awe, not acknowledging the cook that jumped over him to, somehow, kick the fire away with his own flaming leg. The bug's eyes widened, the beetle pulling up. Luffy's arm stretched upward, wrapping around the base of the insect's horn and pulling him to it. The pirate captain latched onto the beetle's hard shell, said Beetle attempting to shake him off without success. She. Luffy laughed as the bug circled back toward the Thousand Sunny. Join my crew, bug. Graua. The bug roared in denial, flying erratically in an attempt to dislodge its unwanted rider. Captain Luffy, Coby cried, shifting into his hybrid form. Don. Jin called, reaching for his headband. The beetle rushed over the crew, Coby and Jin grabbing on as it passed. Usopp got carried along unwillingly, one of the insect's tusks snagging the back of his shirt. Mary jumped in with a big smile, grabbing the sniper's legs. The logia's headband fell to the deck, the beetle and its 5 passengers shrinking into the distance. After them, Nami ordered. Toward that island. The navigator pointed to a small island in the distance with great cliffs that rose out of the ocean. When did we get close to an island? Don't know, Zoro shrugged, unconcerned. Is that our next stop? It's not on the log pose, the captain's wife responded, but we'll have to help them. Still. Nami leaned over the edge of the ship to eye the waters. Frankie, activate Sunny's paddleboat feature. Judging by the currents, I'd say there are some dangerous reefs around that island. You got is, sis, Frankie agreed, pulling the needed lever. Let's go, Channel 0. I hope they're alright, Grace fretted. Yo-ho, I'm sure they will be, Brooke assured her. I guess I'll follow them, Amy sighed, opening her umbrella. Usopp had patched the holes that Koby's zombie had put in it on Thriller bark before giving its propellers a tune-up, so she wasn't worried about it failing on her. The blonde jumped, catching herself and floating after the quintet of Rubberman, Dinosaur Person, Cowardly Sniper, and ship girl that had ridden away on a giant, fire-using beetle. Why was that a statement she had to take seriously? YEEHHWWHHHOOOOO. Luffy yelled, his feet securing him on the back of the giant beetle's shell. The other four held on for dear life, 2 because they couldn't swim, 1 because he was a coward, and the other because she didn't want to swim after them. Usopp wailed, tears being snatched from his eyes by the wind as quickly as they formed. The wind pushed his legs back, allowing Mary to transfer herself from his leg to the front left leg of the beetle. Don, Jin cried, clinging to the insect's back left leg. Don Luffy, this is a bad idea. I agree, Coby voiced from the center right leg, having shrunk back into his human form. I don't, Mary laughed, the air whipping her hair around her face. This is super fun, bahahaha. Captain, Coby screamed, the island growing closer by the second. The beetle's gonna ram that cliff. Look out, Usopp, Luffy laughed, his rubbery arm hooking onto Usopp and pulling him back just before the giant insect did just as Coby predicted. The impact jarred the pirates, all of them losing their holds on the beetle and staring to fall. Luffy would have none of that, one hand grabbing the base of the beetle's horn, which was now lodged in the cliffside, and the other wrapping around each crew member. She, up we go. Luffy swung, dropping his 4 subordinates and friends on the top of the cliff before slinging himself up. What the hell was that? Usopp demanded, grabbing the captain by the collar of his shirt and shaking him while Coby, Jin, and Mary tried to get their feet under them. You could have killed us. But we didn't die, so it's all good, Luffy argued with a smile, the sniper releasing him with a huff. Get away from boss, a young voice demanded. The pirates turned to find a little girl with choppy, dark red hair with a small, over-the-shoulder braid under a marine cap worn backwards. A much too large marine coat was draped over a pale red shirt and tan pants. She glared at the pirates with big, brown eyes, gnashing her teeth at them from the entrance to a cave in the stone behind her. Jin blinked. Who's the squirt? Boss is with me, Marine Girl yelled, running forward. And he'd rather die than become a pirate. The girl jumped, latching onto the back of Luffy's head and biting down. Luffy screamed, the roles of him and the beetle now reversed for the girl and him. Help me, Luffy cried, running every which way in an attempt to get the girl off him to no avail. Yoko, a man yelled, a group of people exiting the cave. Stay back, the girl, Yoko, growled through Luffy's hair. These people are pirates. Pirates? The group gasped, most of them bowing low to the ground. Please have mercy on us. What? Usopp asked. Hold on, an old man said, the only one of the crowd to not bow before the pirates. If I'm not mistaken, you all are part of the Straw Hat Pirates, correct? No way, one member of what the pirates assumed were villagers muttered. He's right. That's Electric Devil Jin. And that pink-haired guy is Tri-Horn Coby, another man announced. And the guy with curly hair, he's Long-Nose Usopp. The sniper let out a long sigh, Mary's consoling pats ineffective due to her quiet snickering. And next to him, that's Ghost Ship Going Mary, the ship that became a girl. Oh, Mary gasped, clapping. Ghost Ship, I like that. Yoko, the old man from before ordered. Get off that man's head, the Straw Hat Pirates are welcome here in our town. 2 men rushed forward, dragging the still growling marine girl from Luffy's head. Give boss back, Yoko yelled. He's with me, he'll never be a pirate. Luffy blinked, a look of understanding flashing across his face. The teen stepped to the cliff and glanced down at the giant beetle still stuck in the rock below. Without a word, he threw his hands down and pulled the beetle free, placing him by the villagers. Marine girl ripped herself from the villagers, running to the beetle. Yeah, sorry about that. Luffy apologized with a smile. I didn't know he was spoken for. I hope I didn't hurt you too badly, she. Graw! Boss, the beetle roared back, a red glow around him pronouncing his crookedly bent horn. Hurt boss? Yoko scoffed. These are just scratches, he'll be all better after sleeping underground tonight. That's so cool, Luffy, Usopp, and Mary gasped. You think that's cool? Boss is gonna molt tomorrow. Then he'll be even bigger and stronger than he is now. Wow. While Luffy, Usopp, and Mary spent time talking to Reed, being yelled at by Yoko until she mounted boss and the 2 flew off, Jin and Coby turned to the villagers. Did you say we're welcome in your village? Coby asked. Not to be rude or anything, but we are pirates. It's not often that we're welcomed so openly. Ha ha ha. The old man laughed. You pirates are an exception around here, please, follow me and I'll explain everything. Coby and Jin glanced at each other, shrugging, as the villagers led the way into the cave system. The pirates followed, entering the mountain just as Amy landed. What the? She questioned. Hey, wait, what's going on? These are some huge tunnels, Coby awed, his eyes roving over the blue rock that made up the twisting tunnels inside the mountain. Indeed, Fabre, the old mayor, responded. They don't have much use, but they're a labyrinth if you don't k great for losing pirates that are chasing you. You make it sound like that happens a lot, Mary commented, walking hand in hand with Usopp while being cooed at by some of the villagers. Well, everyone here is in pretty good shape if that says anything. Fore laughed before turning to the captain. Oh, tell me, are pirate hunter Zoro, Black Leg Sanji, and cat burglar Nami still with you? Yeah, Luffy smiled. They're back on the ship. Would you please call them? The mayor asked. Please, have them meet us on the other side of the island. But tell them to beware of the reefs coming in. We'll explain outside of the caves. Oi, Amy, the captain called, catching the blonde's attention from where she was conversing with the crew on the ship through her baby transponder snail. Tell Nami, Sanji, and Zoro to meet us in the village on the other side of the island. Why? Nami asked through the snail. Don't know, Luffy shrugged, but these guys seem cool and want to meet you. There was no response from the snail for a few seconds before a quiet sigh. We'll be there in 15 minutes. Nami hung up, prompting Luffy to turn back to Fore. Hey, old guy. Do you all have any meat? Of course we do, the old mayor laughed. Anything for the most famous rookies of the East Blue. You want me to cook your face? Sanji questioned, one flaming leg staining against Kidetsu 3. I don't know any recipes for moss, but I'm sure I can come up with something. I'd like to see you try, Zoro scoffed. You couldn't cook me even if you somehow beat me. Your head's got no worth other than being a dartboard. Want to say that again? I'll say it as many times as I want. Nami sighed, feeling a headache coming on as Zoro and Sanji bickered in the background. They were within the Thousand Sunnies docks, swordsman and cook arguing outside of Dock 2 where the Ladybug was stationed. Nami, refusing to ride with them in a small vehicle, had chosen to take her waiver instead. Leaving the angry morons behind, Nami entered Dock 1, her waiver floating in a small pool of water. The door to the dock opened, allowing the navigator to hop on her transportation and zoom off. The trip was somewhat dangerous, the captain's wife being forced to slow down the closer she got to the island on account of the reefs around the island. Zoro and Sanji left the ship in the Ladybug sometime after her, but Nami felt no responsibility for them. Hopefully, Frankie had bashed it into their skulls about the importance of keeping their ship undamaged. The front of Kansorn Island was beautiful, a crescent-shaped beach growing upwards into a green island of mismatched buildings. The beach was an almost complete circle encasing a shimmering blue bay that lacked any of the dangers from the outside reefs. A small group of people were waiting on the sand, waving banners. Welcome to Kansorn Island, Nami. The crowd roared. At the front of the crowd were 4 boys who were literally vibrating with excitement. The letters that spelled out Nami's name were stitched into their shirts, one for each, leaving the young woman with an uneasy feeling. She sped forward, grounding her waiver as the crowd surrounded her. One man, a taller fellow with dark hair, pushed his way to the front and bowed. Welcome to Kansorn Island, the home away from home for all those from the East Blue, the man began. Your crewmates are on their way from the cave with the mayor and his group, so let me be the first to introduce you to what we like to call Little East Blue. Little East Blue? Nami parroted. She could vaguely hear Zoro and Sanji arguing in the distance. That's correct, the man nodded. See, everyone on this island came from the East Blue or was born here to East Blue residents. Huh, Nami blinked, taking in the surroundings. A breeze blew by, bringing the smell of growing citrus with it. The Grand Line never ceases to amaze me. Are those tangerines I smell? Indeed they are, the tall man confirmed. Transplanted here over 20 years ago, those trees are from Kokoyashi village which is known for its tangerines. I know that, Nami pointed out, I'm from there. Nami-sama. Nami-sama. A quartet of voices called, the group of boys pushing their way to the front. One of them, a thinner boy with brown hair, stepped ahead of the rest. We, the members of the Nami fan club, want to take you on a tour of the island. Nami opened her mouth to decline, but sudden shouting from farther out in the bay caused her to glance back at where the Ladybug was drawing closer, the 2 men arguing at the top of their lungs. Sure, she answered with a fake smile, turning away from the bay. Lead the way. The 4 boys nodded eagerly, leading the orange-haired woman up the hill before the swordsman and cook had a chance to land. She followed them through the crowd, shaking any hands offered to her with some confusion. Luffy had said the people of this island wanted to meet her, Zoro, and Sanji, but she hadn't expected this level of hospitality. Or a fan club for that matter. The group of 4 boys and Nami reached the entrance to a cave system off to the left of the village proper just as Luffy, Coby, Jin, Usopp, Mary, Amy, and the group leading them exited. Nami. Luffy smiled, reaching forward and wrapping his wife in a hug. She smiled, hugging him back. The Nami group cried in the background, mumbling something about losing their idol as if Luffy had just stolen her from them. Nami turned to the boys. Thank you for leading me this far, she told them, but I think I'll stay with my husband. Yes, Nami-sama, the boys cried sadly. She'd only been with them for 5 minutes. Leaving the boys at the entrance to the caves, the group strode into the village toward a large windmill with a stone monument next to it. Wow, Luffy cheered. You guys have a windmill, just like my home village. That's so cool, Mary gasped, stars in her eyes. But of course, Fabre laughed, indicating the stone monument beside the windmill. This windmill is something of the pride of this island. The entire thing was brought here intact from Fuchsia village on Goa Island. He paused. This island has had the luck to be only inhabited by people from the East Blue, so we've taken to calling it Little East Blue. That's highly unlikely, Coby complained. What are the odds that everyone who settled this island would be from there? Coby, Jin sighed. Where in the world are we? The Grand Line. He paused. Point taken. Luffy, get back. Nami stopped, her husband now climbing up the side of the windmill. Usopp just managed to stop Mary from climbing up after him. Oh, whatever, he'll be fine. Anyway, Fabre cut in. We've got sections for just about every island in the East Blue, so feel free to go track down your island kinsman. I suppose a walk down memory lane couldn't hurt, Usopp agreed. I'm not from the East Blue, Amy spoke up. What will I do? You can come with me, Jin offered, his face a little pink. Amy pretended to think, making Jin squirm. I guess that works. Do you mind if we explore the island? Nami asked, making Fabre shout out a deep, hearty laugh. Anything for the most famous rookies of the East Blue, knock yourselves out. The Straw Hats of the East Blue split up, each to find their own biomes. Well, except for Luffy. Nami grabbed him when the windmill came down and dragged him off toward the tangerine orchard. Something about a marriage bucket list. The others, minus Amy, weren't sure they wanted to know and decided to avoid the orchard as much as possible. Coby wandered off toward the coast, all but certain that the people of Moan Island that were here would build their houses where they could fish easily. It was a short walk, 10 minutes at most, before the Rosette saw the first signs of small, thatch roof huts that were common in his home. Each hut had a rack connected to it, most of them holding large fish to fry for preparation. 1 or 2 huts boasted an elephant bluefin tuna, though they were by far the rarest fish to be seen. Over 24 men and women of all ages were down by the water either in boats just offshore or shoeless in the sand and surf of the beach, each and every one with a fishing pole in hand and a line in the water. Though he had not been to his home or practiced its traditions in well over 2 years, that did not mean he had forgotten them. Alvida had beaten the habits from him and, though he knew Luffy would not have prevented him from practicing his old customs, such things weren't that important away from his home island. Respect and manners were paramount for dealing with the people and fishermen of Moan Island. Hello? The Zone called, catching the people's attention as he stopped where the grass met the sand. He bowed toward the oldest person, a woman with long, white hair. May I have permission to enter? The people blinked, surprised that someone outside their number would know to ask permission to enter a beach where others were fishing. The woman eyed the pink-haired young man who remained facing the ground. You may enter, the woman responded, allowing Coby to raise his head. Who are you that knows our customs and asks permission? Coby did not answer until after slipping off his sandals and placing them on a small wooden platform where over 20 other pairs rested. It was impolite to trudge on the sand of Moan with shoes lest you separate yourself from nature and ruin a good catch. He marched onto the sand, but kept his distance from the waves. I am Tri-Horn Coby of the Straw Hat Pirates, he answered, bowing once more. I hail from the island of Moan within the East Blue, thus I am aware of the necessary customs. The woman smiled and gestured to a row of poles off toward the side of the beach. Please, Tri-Horn Coby, grab a rod and join the school collecting the bounties of the sea. It would be an honor, madam, but I must decline. Oh, why so? Slowly, Coby shifted into his hybrid mode. As you can tell, I have eaten a devil fruit, one from which is derived my epithet. I must be careful around the ocean. He changed back. I have given you my name, so may I know yours? I am Primilda Econ, leader of Little Moan. It is an honor to have you, Tri-Horn Coby. And it is a pleasure to be here, Madam Econ. Tell me, Primilda ordered. Do you know the names of your parents? You seem familiar to me. No, madam, Coby answered. They died in a pirate raid when I was young. I have since forgotten their names. I know you, the old woman said, a flash of realization coming to her eyes. I recognize that pink hair of yours. It belonged to your mother, Margot. You knew my parents, Madam Econ? I should hope so. I was the godmother to your father Rubier. Coby almost broke posture in his shock. I'm saddened to hear that they are gone, but it seems like you have grown into a fine young man and that's all they wanted. Thank you, Madam Econ. School of Little Moan, Primilda called, pulling the attention of all fishers minus a middle-aged man wrestling with a fish on the end of his line. Fall in. Today we celebrate the return of a wayward Mawani. Rejoice. Rejoice. The people echoed. Rejoice, Coby smiled, reining his emotions, as a trio of young children, 2 boys and a girl, left the surf where they had been learning to fish from their parents to swarm him with questions about his crew and his life. Roan, Primilda called. Prepare us a bountiful lunch. I'm sure Mayor Fabre will do the same in the town proper for dinner. We shall join them. Yes, madam, The man replaced his fishing rod, collected his shoes, and headed toward the small village. Until then, we shall celebrate here in Little Moen and listen to the tales of our guest. She turned to Coby. I'm sure that you, as a sailor and a pirate, have plenty of stories to share. It would be nice if you would regale us with some while we await our midday meal. I do and I will, madam, Coby responded with the utmost respect that was expected when speaking to the Ballina, the head of the village and typically the oldest member who could still reliably fish. I have many stories, tales as true as I who stands before you today, though they may sound as if they were nothing but fantasy. We have lived here in the Grand Line for many years, Pramilda responded. Some among us were born here on the island. There is little we would not believe. May I have permission to speak candidly for the purposes of storytelling? It would not be a good pirate story if you removed important details for manners' sake, the Ballina responded. Coby grinned. Then let me start with how I met the man who will become the king of the pirates, my Captain Monkey D. Luffy. While Coby took off toward the coast, Jin and Amy headed toward the mountains, the logia insisting that the people of his home island, if there were any, would be near there. Amy remained suspicious but, with nothing better to do, followed. They wandered through a path in the trees for 10 minutes or so before the woods spit them out on a hill over what seemed like a massive campsite. The ground, which had many patches of grassless land that was far too flat to be natural, was littered with tents the size of small houses. On average, the large tents were colored white or tan which faded to black around the entrances and at the bottom edges. Most tents were painted with various colors and designs over their doorways, but only one or two for each tent. People in gray jumpsuits walked through the tents with the ease of familiarity, waving and calling out to each other. Part of the mountain loomed on the other edge of the tented village, an entrance carved into it spitting out a single pair of train tracks. It feels like home, Jin muttered with a sad smile, his dark eyes roving over the numerous tents. I don't understand, Amy muttered. You, people from your home island live in tents? Usually, Jin shrugged, beginning his way down the hillside and into the village. They're easier to escape and remake if an accident happens. What sort of accident? Hey, wait, Amy jumped off the hill, her umbrella carrying her weightless form over the distance Jin had made between them. A group of 4 people, an elderly woman, 2 adult brunette women, and a little boy stopped their conversation at the sight of the duo entering their part of the island. The women had this gaunt pallor to their skin that reminded Amy of Jin, like they were perpetually sleepy, and all of them, including the boy, had tanned skin. Even the old woman greeted with a heavy accent and a wave. She had graying hair on her head and wrinkles along her cheeks, but she stood with an air of confidence and wiry muscle. Who are y'all? Oh, no one, really, Jin waved off. Just a couple of travelers looking to stay for a few hours before we have to leave. Oh ho, one of the younger women chuckled. A couple of travelers are a travelin, couple. She and the other woman giggled. The little boy looked up at the woman Jin and Amy presumed to be his mother with a confused stare. A couple of travelers, Jin coughed through a blush. He sent a quick glance at Amy to see that she too was red in the face. Stop teasing de poor dears, the old woman chastised the younger, causing thankful smile. Now what brings you folks round here? Most travelers stick to the main part of the island. Wanted to see the sights, Jin began, his childhood accent starting to come back without his notice. I've been gone a long time, years actually, and I thought it'd be a fine day to catch up with the home folks. I mean. He trailed off, Amy giggling from somewhere shortly behind him. A native of Virgio Island, the old woman deduced. Don't try to hide it, son. Speakin's comin' back. Nothin' to be ashamed eh? I guess, Jin coughed. Sorry. When I left, several of my crew members tried to give me crap for my accent, so I tried to suppress it. Amy cooed. I think it sounds kind of cute in a country bumpkin sort of way. The electric devil straightened, eyes wide. If he hadn't been wearing his rubber-lined headband, he would have sworn a bolt of lightning had run down his spine. The 2 young, native women shared a glance and giggled again. Jin cleared his throat. I'm Jin, he introduced, trying to keep his accent in check, and this is Amy. Jin? The boy's mother questioned. As in the electric devil ode East Blue? That's this loyal puppy dog here, Amy laughed, knocking on the side of Jin's head and ignoring his indignant, I'm not a puppy. I'm Amy Pallant, the weightless woman. Ooh, the boy gasped in wonder, hiding behind the old woman's legs. So the Straw Hats are really on the island, the other young woman blinked. Ya ain't plannin' to rob us none, I hope. Not at all, Jin waved off. We're here because a huge beetle attacked us and Don Luffy wanted to recruit it. It was spoken for, though. Ya met boss, the boy exclaimed with stars in his eyes. Boss? Amy asked. You mean that beetle? The boy nodded quickly. I haven't introduced myself, have I? The old lady cut in. I'm Mafuta Hopkinson, these 2 are my lovely daughters Sammy and Danny. The women waved while Mafuta picked up the boy. And this boy is my beautiful grandaunt Jason, Danny's boy. Say hi, Jason. Hi, Jason. The little boy laughed. So what's your specialty? Amy asked. She jabbed a thumb at Jin. This one hadn't said anything about his home until a couple nights ago. Coal and other minerals, mostly, Mafuda answered. Ya can get a whole lot from the land if ya know how ta. Most Oda men are down there now, min and fair cooking coal. Wait, Amy muttered. You cook with direct coal? Sure do. Mafuda chuckled at Amy's surprised face. Gives the food this smoky taste. But that's incredibly unsafe, the blonde cried. That's why we live in tents, one of the women, Danny, shrugged. Virgio Island didn't have the money means ta get other stuff, so we made do with what we got. Tents catch fire sometimes. They're easy ta remake. But overexposure to smoke and heat can cause your skin to. She trailed off, finally noticing the similar skin types between Jin and the women and linking their gaunt appearances to smoke damage from escaping burning tents. Oh. I'm getting tired standing round here, Mafuda yawned. Come join me in my tent. I'll make us some lunch. That sounds great, Jin agreed quickly. Sanji's cooking is good and all, but I haven't had coal-smoked food in years. It'll be good ta taste it again and compare it ta dinosaur and the water meat from Water 7. Dinosaur? Jason gasped. I wanna hear about that. Ya can have story time while Sammy and all remaking lunch, Mafuda urged, gesturing toward a 2-story tall tent nearby. Come. And so, with the tyrant defeated and the war over, the angels of Godland Skypia celebrated for over 3 days. Coby finished his 7th story with a flourish. We found the devil fruit of Eneru in Nami's tangerine orchard during the party and held on to it, but not for long. For you see, we left Skypia after grabbing all the gold we could in Konus, the angel I mentioned before, summoned a sky octopus for us to float down on. Little did we know that we would soon find ourselves inside the impenetrable fortress of Marine Base G8. Navarone. The crowd around the Rosette gasped as the boy moved into his next story seamlessly. Did you die? The trio of children asked, an edge of worry in their voices. They really couldn't tell if he was going to live. We survived the fall, Coby answered ominously, but we soon had to abandon our ship to avoid capture. Now, Jin was still injured and we had forgotten about him in our panic, but guess what? What? The children parroted. He wasn't alone on our ship. The children oohed, entranced. The Marines were coming. They boarded the Mary and covered her in tape, but they didn't find Jin. See, we didn't know it at the time, but our little caravel had come to life beneath our feet. The children, as well as some of the adults, gasped. It's true, I promise you, Coby insisted to the people with doubtful looks. The Going Merry had developed what's called a Klabouterman, a wood fairy born out of the bonds of love and camaraderie between its crew. Apparently, as stopping 2 wars together formed enough bonds that she could manifest herself into a physical, ghost-like body. Not quite, a new, female voice interrupted, causing a group of adult men to screech and fall out of their chairs. Bahahaha. Speak of the fairy and she shall appear, the zone chuckled, said Fairy using Sanji's leg strength to flip over the food-laden table. Coby had been telling the story around. She swiped a salad bowl after landing and plopped down on the edge of Koby's seat. You're correcting me? Yeah, the girl nodded. Her bouncy hair, which had the same volume and consistency of Nami and Robin's hair, drew the Moan people's attention to the horns that curled out from her head. I could make a body before the end of the Skypian War. It was actually the shared trauma of taking the knock upstream that let me manifest. She chomped down on a celery stick from the bowl. Though one gashot be able ta do that wi, a smaller crew cuz it wash so sh carry. Don't talk with your mouth full, Coby chastised, nudging her off the chair. You're as bad as Captain Luffy. I'll take that as a compliment, not that I'm not happy to see you, Mary, Coby began. A wheezing Usopp finally wandering into the little sub-village. But why are you here in Little Moan? Uncle Usopp and I got tired of talking to the old woman with the fake mansion, so Captain Luffy and Mrs. Nami sent us to check in with everyone. They said the townspeople are going to have a big dinner for all of us and wanted everyone to be there. That it? Yeah, that's it. Now I have to track down Jin by the mountains. See ya. Mary scarfed down the rest of the vegetables before dashing off in a white and red blur. Mary, Usopp called, trying to run after her. She's going to be the death of me, I swear. Jin and Amy sat in the tent of Mafuda Hopkins with her daughters Danny and Sammy Hopkins and Danny's son Jason. The pirates had, in overlapping stories that sometimes finished each other's sentences, told their stories as members of the Straw Hat Pirates. This method of storytelling, however, had not convinced the daughters that Jin and Amy were only a couple of travelers. Nevertheless, the talking had switched to covering the traditions of Virgio Island, a place that seemed fanciful for the West Blue native. Whoa, 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 Amy muttered, her hands emphasizing her need for the others to slow down. Let me get this straight. Women dominate your society? Typically, Mafuda answered with a shrug before taking a bite out of her coal-roasted fish. Ya see, Virgio sees it de family runs through de women. We avenue de babies, ya know. So women run de houses and avenue de family names. De men, on de other, and Sammy put in, Ray Feiskley stronger, so they do lifting and mine work. That's why you never told us your last name? The blonde demanded, rounding on Jin. You never had one? Ah never saw the need, Jin defended, his accent thick. Ah wago some woman pregnant, ah probably never meet the kid anyway, so what be the need fair a family name? You're a damn moron, you know that, ah done, see wah? That, as ta do with anything. Sides, I'm not the only one on our crew done, got a family name. There's Coby and Frankie and Brooke and the Donna did it, Avenue one when she joined. Still, Amy huffed. If you wanted one, I would have been willing to give you one. Ooh, the young women squeed. What just happened? Amy questioned nervously, turning to see a floundering and red-faced Logia. You, Avenue no idea wha, ya just did, do ya? Mafuta asked with an amused smirk. Offrin, a family name is the same as a proposal round here. What? Amy cried, causing Danny, Sammy, and Jason to cover their ears. I didn't know that, so it doesn't count, right? Fraid not, dear, Mafuta smirked. We see it takes lots o' respect to offer a family name. Respect that'll turn to love. It'll stay out until this one, she gestured to the still shocked Jin. Accepts or denies. As she finished her declaration, Jin's eyes rolled into the back of his head and the shock knocked him out. Jason peeked out from around the table, crept up to the pirate who had fallen out of his chair, and poked him in the cheek several times. There was no reaction. Gen, a familiar voice called from outside. Aw am my why. Damn it, the blonde hissed, Danny covering her son's ears, with her ears. I heard that. Mary laughed, sticking her head in the flap of the tent. Ooh, I can't wait for Mrs. Nami and Robin to hear about this. You little rat. Amy yelled, throwing her umbrella in embarrassment. The fairy nimbly dodged. With a laugh, Mary ducked out of the tent. Get back here. Amy rushed out the flap, leaving the unconscious Jin with the Hopkins family. The live oa pirate sure is interestin', Mafuta laughed. Sammy, why don't ya help the feller wake up? He's gonna need it. Fact, why don't we start headin' in? The mayor's probably gone throw a party or something. Jin gurgled in his sleep. Bahahaha, Mary taunted, her speed easily faster than Amy's natural speed. The blonde, however, was not out of the race, using her powers to jump great distances toward the Klabouterman. Each time she did, Mary would deftly hop out of the way and keep going, chanting. Ami and Geen sitting in a tree. Get back here, boat bitch. Bahahaha. The two rushed out of Little Vergio, leaving the massive tents and Jin behind as they raced into the trees. The foliage gave the wood fairy another advantage, the plants impairing Amy's sight and weightless abilities. Through the leaves, Amy saw Mary shoot rope from her sleeves and rocket forward out of sight. Growling, Amy lowered her body into a running position and increased her mass before shooting forward. With Amy's new density, the trees in the way between her and Mary stood no chance. Mary exited the forest just before Amy did. Two trees bouncing away from her as Mary used Sanji's leg strength to jump away from the blonde's grip. There they are, a voice laughed, forcing Amy's attention from the annoyance of a ferry to the rotund mayor of the island. He and the majority of the islanders, as well as most of the crew, were scattered around a buffet of all different kinds of East Blue food. Weren't you with Electric Devil Jin? Amy blinked. Crap, she yelled, turning back toward her trail of destruction. I'll go get him. Maybe I should go, Mary offered with a smirk. Who knows what you and Jin might get up to without supervision. Shut up, Amy demanded, lunging for the girl. Mary rolled out of the way and dashed back into the forest. Damn it. Come join da party, Luffy's voice ordered through a mouthful of food. Amy sighed, resigning herself to her fate of endless teasing, before turning toward the buffet. She noted the captain and Usopp sitting on a table, stuffing their mouths, while a Nami with somewhat tousled hair talked avidly with a purple-haired woman nearby. Sanji was a couple tables down, deep in conversation with a thin, black-haired man with an extra-tall chef hat. Zoro, as usual, was as close to the beer as he could be, laughing with a thick man with a long, square chin and a karate gi. They were watching the field where children were climbing over a triceratops who was playfully throwing them off. Wow, the blonde muttered, walking over toward Zoro to grab a mug of booze. Pinky's good with kids, who knew? Not that big of a surprise, Zoro chuckled. I might have turned him into a swordsman, but he's still soft and squishy on the inside. If I remember right, the long-chinned man interjected, doesn't he have a 65 million berry bounty? Sure does, and I haven't had him for even a year. Your teaching skills are incredible. Are you going to ask for an autograph? Amy questioned, blank-faced. The man shook his head, a dopey, starstruck grin on his face. I already got one. While the party went on below, one person on the island watched the proceedings through a handheld telescope with contempt. A notebook was splayed open beside her, the girl writing in it while talking out her reasoning to herself. She growled as she observed the people of her island laughing and dancing with the Straw Hat Pirates. So what if they were from the same sea? She'd done her research. There were members of that crew who were murderers. The Electric Devil and Nico Robin primarily, but the pirate hunter had killed plenty as a bounty hunter, even if his victims were wanted. The blonde had been an assassin for Gota's sake, and she wasn't even from the East Blue. They must have some hypnotist in their group, Yoko muttered angrily. It's the only explanation for the old mayor and everyone else welcoming them. Her telescope roved over each pirate until settling on the orange-haired navigator. It must be her. She's married to the captain. How do pirate marriages even work? And the pirate hunter referred to her as a witch. Grr, if boss weren't molting, then we could take them easily. Her scope turned on the forest as the girl with the horns appeared with a family from the tents of Little Virgio, the Electric Devil being dragged behind them from his shirt balled in one of her fists. The old woman of the group had a yellow parasol in her hands. I saw her before, Yoko muttered to herself. She's a pirate, too. But she's just a girl like me. Who cares if she has a wanted poster? They must have kidnapped her. She must be so scared, having to act so happy when they'd threatened her. I'll save her myself and use her testimony to prove that the Straw Hats are bad. Having decided on a course of action, the young girl collapsed her telescope and worked her way down the side of the cliff she had been crouched on. She had to be careful. One misstep could give her away and provoke the pirates' attack early. Planting herself behind a bush, Yoko carefully planned her route. She couldn't let the pirates see her, especially not the captain, first mate, or the hypnotist, but she needed to get the girl away and convince her to admit what those vile pirates had done. The captain and long-nosed pirate were still stuffing their faces in an attempt to destroy the island's food stores, no doubt, but they were sure to still be on the lookout for her. The captain's wife was covering her husband's back, pretending to laugh with a purple-haired woman who lived near the Kokoyashi tangerine orchards. The witch was wheedling information out of her judging by the map the pirate was drawing. Between her line of sight and the captain's, they really limited her chances, but the odds didn't matter. The pirate hunter, the blonde, the Electric Devil, he had to be faking his unconsciousness, and their hostage were by the beer kegs with the dojo's owner and the Virgio family, but it looked like the girl was making an attempt to leave. Yoko had to admit that the white-haired girl was an amazing actor. She punched the Electric Devil, saying something that made the pirate hunter laugh and the blonde W and swing at her. She ducked under it, the umbrella hitting the pirate hunter and forcing him to spill his beer all over himself. The girl faked a laugh and started making her way through the taller adults to the buffet where the captain was. This was the chance Yoko had been waiting for. The pirates' views of their hostage would be obscured by the islanders. A quick glance told her that Tri-Horn Coby had turned away briefly, prompting Yoko to dart out from her hiding place and race toward the horned girl. A hand covered her surprised gasp. Yoko couldn't blame her for her shock at the sudden rescue, and the native began dragging her off. Shush, Yoko hissed in her ear, thankful for the indistinct chatter the adults were providing around them. I'm here to rescue you. The pirate's hostage's wide eyes sent her a look of confusion. The poor thing must have been hypnotized so much, she'd started to forget her capture. Still, she became silent like Yoko had wanted. But the brief exchange had caused her to lose sight of where she was going. The two girls bumped into someone and Yoko bit back a curse when she looked up into the eye of the pirate's cook, the only one who didn't have a wanted poster. She'd written him off as a non-combatant and forgotten all about him. Oh, Mary, he said with a blink. Wink? It's good to see you're making friends your age. A proper young lady like you shouldn't be spending so much time with people like Mosshead. Such things are sure to ruin your mind. What was that? Shit, chef. The pirate hunter yelled from across the party. It's better Mary's spending time with me over you. You tried to turn her into a perverted lump like you. What? The long-nosed man jumped in. This was far too much attention for her plan. Yoko needed to get out with her rescued victim now. She carefully inched her way toward the caves while the three men argued, pulling the girl, Mary, along. The two had just excited the party, Yoko tucking them behind a tree, when a blast of fire exploded from farther down the open field. Worried, Yoko relaxed when she saw that none of the islanders were anywhere close to where the chef, first mate, and Long Nose were fighting. Step right up and place your bets, folks. The witch's voice called. She must be a witch for her voice to have that much power and reverberation. Who's going to win this showdown? We've got 2-to-1 odds for both Blackleg, Sanji, and Pirate Hunter, Zoro, as well as 100-to-1 odds for the sniper, Long Nose, Usopp. Why are my odds 100-to-1? Yoko turned her attention away from the fight and removed her hand from the mouth of the other girl. She was shaking, probably out of relief from finally being away from those murderous pirates. You're safe, Yoko began. You're under mine and boss's protection now. Those villains can't hurt you anymore. Are you alright? Mary opened her mouth to answer, but Yoko forged ahead before she could get a word out. I know you're probably still shaken up from the fear and that woman's hypnosis, but you don't have to be afraid of me, alright? Now tell me what those pirates have done to you so we can expose them for who they are and drive them off the island. Mary stared at her for a second, her eyes blinking slowly, and Yoko wondered if the broken hypnosis had made her miss what she'd said. The native opened her mouth to repeat her request, But the girl threw her head back and started laughing, catching her off guard. Bahahaha. Bahajajaj. What are? Yoko muttered before she had a flash of understanding. Oh, I get it. You're laughing so you don't cry from hysteria, right? Just let it out. She patted the girl on the shoulder. Mary didn't react for half a minute, her hysterical laughter dying away to leave tears in her eyes. The white-haired girl wiped them away with the back of her hand, prompting Yoko to push ahead. Your name is Mary, right? Or was that a name those pirates gave you? No, she shook her head. My father gave me my name. Nice to meet you. I'm Yoko, but I think you knew that. How old are you, Mary? I don't really know. Where are you from? Syrup Village on Gecko Island. Just like the old lady from the mansion, Yoko nodded along. That's not a mansion, Mary offered hesitantly. It's not the mansion from Syrup, either. My aunt owns that and my dad works for her. Yoko looked down at that information and started scribbling in her notebook, muttering to herself. Kidnapped from Syrup Village for ransom. Probably was not paid. She turned back to her interviewee. How long have you been with the Straw Hats? She bit out. Almost a year now. Mary froze as Yoko hugged her out of the blue. I'm so sorry, but I promise you, their time has come, and with you as a witness, we can drive them off of Little East Blue and get you back to your dad. Why? Yoko's enthusiasm ground to a halt at the simple question. Was Mary still under hypnosis? She released the hug and stared Mary in the eye. Because those bastards kidnapped you. We had to show the island what they've done. They didn't kidnap me. Dad gave me to them. What? Yoko began writing as quickly as she could. Witch's hypnosis is strong enough to break familial ties. She looked up. Don't worry, Mary. I'll save you from this hell. Thanks. You do know I'm with them of my own free will, right? Impossible. No child would want to be on a pirate ship. Captain Luffy did. All his life for the most part. Uncle Usopp, too, though that's because his father is a pirate. Did you just call one of the pirates, Uncle, yeah? Yoko turned back to her notes. Brainwashing a parent. Has been forced to play in one of the pirates' twisted fantasies. I can hear you, Mary deadpanned. Yoko, you need to know something. There's a reason I'm traveling with the Straw Hat Pirates. I know. They kidnapped you, not at all. Mary laughed. See, I'm not human. These horns? She gestured to the ram-like horns poking out from her hair, knocking on one. Totally real. I'm a Klabouterman, the spirit of a ship. Impossible. Yoko denied. Plenty of weird things exist on the Grand Line. Giants, long arms, long legs, and devil fruits. But ships coming to life? I don't believe it. Besides, the figurehead on their ship is a sunflower. Yoko stood triumphant, as if that argument had disproved everything Mary claimed. I'm not Sunny, Mary chuckled. She's way bigger than I was. I'm the spirit of their first ship, the Going Merry. That's me, the East Blue caravel that survived on the Grand Line. Until Water 7, that is. Mary shrugged, pulling a small, wooden heart out from under her dress. This is what's left of my original body. Then what are you? Yoko demanded. This girl couldn't be telling the truth, but for a story like that to come from hypnotism of any kind. The wood fairy hummed, tucking the heart back where it came from. Good question. I've been talking to Chopper about that. So far we think I'm like a poltergeist. You know, a ghost that can touch stuff? Aren't those supposed to be evil? Yoko questioned. More mischievous, Mary answered with a so-so hand gesture. I guess it works. I did scare the piss out of some Marines that second time I manifested. She chuckled at the memory of Navarone. Anyway, I'm like a mixture of the whole crew from back then. Mostly the first 7 since I started waking up after Reverse Mountain, but still. Trust me when I say this. The Straw Hats aren't bad people. We just don't like rules. So, you're not a hostage? Mary laughed again, her tone almost mocking as she took amusement from Yoko's confusion. She moved to answer, to say that she was the personification of the Straw Hats themselves, but a different kind of explosion sounded from the field. Hola, hijos de putas. Bring out Z-Beetle and no one will die. The pirates enjoyed the party the villagers of Little East Blue had thrown for them until a massive explosion tore through their conversations. All attention was dragged toward a stout man in luchador clothing, said man dual-wielding a pair of giant, 5-barreled miniguns. Behind him in a single file line were mariachi-dressed men, each with a rifle aimed at the islanders. Hola, hijos de putas. The man in the front called. Bring out Z-Beetle and no one will die. There was no movement after his declaration, the shock holding the natives in place. The man seemed disappointed at the lack of response. His eyes narrowing at the islanders, he swapped out his minigun on one hand for 4 shakers. He tossed them into the air, unexpected force sending the percussion accessories flying out toward the beach where they exploded into a plume of fire and smoke. The islanders jumped at the sonic boom the explosion caused, part of a sign falling from the sky along with a frying pan. It could have said BA or RA, but there was no mistaking the blue on yellow of Little East Blue's replica Barati, the main causality of the bombs. A man in chef wear by the name of Mitsuboshi stared at the rubble as if it were a slain child, his feet carrying him beside it. He fell to his knees and cradled the singed wood, several tears leaking from his eyes before they were suddenly replaced with rage. He grabbed the frying pan and launched himself at the attacking band. "Hey, wait," Sanji tried, but it was too late. A single grunt turned his gun on the chef and fired, lodging a bullet in the native's shoulder. The force sent him sprawling, grasping at the wound as blood stained his white shirt. Sanji ran up to him, checking over his health with what little first aid Chopper had drilled into each of the pirates. "Now that I avenue your attention and that Z distraction has been dealt with, hola, victimas. You are now under siege by Z notorious amigo pirates. You avenue 2 optiones. Either you bring this Z giant beetle, or we kill one of you every 5 minutes until you do, or until you're all dead. Honestly, I don't care either way. No me importa." "How dare you?" a human Coby yelled. "You better beat it off this island before we beat you off." "Oh," the man chuckled. "Look at this, boys. This Niño Rosado has the balls to call us out." Several of the grunts laughed. "Who are we dealing with, shrimp?" Zoro yawned from the middle of the crater-filled field. He, Sanji, and Usopp had been fighting in. Usopp bravely cowered behind him, his slingshot kabuto aimed at the attacking pirates. "That's Corto of the Amigo Pirates," Coby stated, the named man stumbling in surprise. "These guys would be more than enough for this peaceful island if we weren't here, but it looks like their captain is missing. Between Corto here and his brother Largo, their crew only has 65 million to its name." Not worth my time," Zoro shrugged, much to Corto's ire. "You can take them, shrimp. They add up to your bounty anyway. Now someone get me a drink." "Quin Cres que eres, bastardo?" Corto demanded. "Who do you think you are to challenge us?" "Hey, Coby," Luffy interjected. "You want to take these guys? They're distracting me from my meat and ruining our party." "Why not?" The Rosette shrugged as he began marching toward the pirates. "I wouldn't mind a test of my skills." "Not without me, you aren't," Mary called, rushing out from behind a tree. Yoko stumbled after her, crying, "No don't, you'll get yourself killed." "Hey, Mary," Coby greeted, meeting the girl's fist with his own. "You want the grunts or short and ugly?" "I'm right here," Corto yelled. "My last fight was a one-on-one," Mary responded. "I don't mind trying my luck against the grunts." Corto's anger shifted to satirical humor, the man throwing his head back to laugh. "Ha ha ha. This is the best this island can throw at us? 2 little children? SOS Decepciante." "I don't know what you just said," Coby admitted, "but I feel insulted." "He called us disappointing," Mary offered. "Robin knows a language similar, so I can understand it well enough, too." She turned the pirates. "Oi, chico, tu madre era un hamster y tu padre olía a saco." "What did you say about me, madre? I'll skin you alive." "Change of plans," Coby shrugged. "Have fun." He transformed into his Dino mode and charged the line of mariachi men before they could react, crushing a half-dozen into unconsciousness before the others could ready their weapons. Corto didn't seem to care about that. His eyes fixed the white-haired girl who had insulted his parents. "Eat lead, puta," he yelled, his 5-barrel shotguns whirling into action. Mary rolled out of the way, the ground she had been standing on exploding behind her. "Mary," Usopp gasped, moving toward the battle. Zoro stopped him by grabbing his shoulder. "She's a big girl and a pirate, Usopp," he said, taking a mug of ale from a villager who offered it. "Let Mary fight her own battles." Mary danced around Corto's bullets, rope falling endlessly from the sleeves of her red dress. Realistically, Mary should not have been able to carry that much rope without anyone noticing, a fact made evident by the dropped jaws of the islanders, but Mary's ball of rope continued to grow until it was half her size. Corto began to sweat a little from a combination of the heat of his guns and the intimidation factor of a little girl swinging around the equivalent of a giant flail of ship rope. The Klabouterman rushed forward, her lean form dodging each volley of ammunition her opponent threw at her. A couple of bullets shot through Mary's ball of rope, but its fibers were too dense for the projectiles to do any real damage. "Mierda," Corto cursed, the barrels of his guns glowing red. He was forced to stop his assault by the overheat of his weapons, but this only gave Mary an advantage. "Gordian's knot," she yelled, spinning around to smash her woven weapon into Corto's side. He let out a cry as the ball bashed him to the right, laying him flat over a trio of downed mariachis. "That hurt, bitch," the luchador growled, pushing himself to his feet in a showing of resilience. "I don't know who you think you are, but así que ayúdame, I will kill you for getting in our way." "I just knocked you around like a piñata," Mary rebuffed with a smirk. "Do you really think I'm scared of a one-trick pony like you?" She paused. "Wait, I'm sorry. I misspoke. One-trick phony?" Coby barked out a laugh from somewhere to Mary's right, his humor overtaking the sound of a grunt's grunt of pain. "Grr," Corto growled, lowering his weight to charge. He did just that, his gun still glowing as he rushed forward faster than Mary expected. Suddenly worried, Mary pulled her ball of rope between them as a shield. Cordo slammed into it without time to dodge. His hands all but stuck in the rope, the glowing barrels making the surrounding fibers blacken and smoke. Cordo noticed this just as a small flame bloomed into existence and began eating away at the Gordian knot. Scowling, Cordo kicked the now burning wrecking ball back toward its origin. "Shit!" Mary cursed, diving out of the way. "Language," Usopp demanded, Zoro whacking him in the back of the head. The ball rolled past the Klabouterman, bumping into a table. Coming out of her roll, Mary glanced back. She was ready to take control of her weapon again, but the tablecloth next to it caught fire, the heat between it and the rope making the fire between them leap up. Her brow furrowed as Cordo laughed. "Ha ha ha, why a hurricane? What will you do now, girl?" Coby, switch. Large he may be, but Cordo was no novice when it came to fighting. Therefore, he was not caught off guard by the stampeding dinosaur that tried to tackle him. As Coby sped past, the luchador breathed out an instinctual "Olay," the word getting out just before the Cretaceous creature batted him with his tail. "I'm getting real tired of this," Cordo muttered as he rubbed his sore stomach, Mary running past him to deal with his Remaisted around, transitioning smoothly from 4 to 2 feet as he changed into his hybrid mode. "So am I," Coby responded, unsheathing his swords from a crouched position. 10-barrel, Cordo of the Amigo Pirates. Wanted for 28 million bears. You're nothing compared to our crew." "And why is that, brat? You don't know who we are, do you?" Coby questioned, ducking as an unconscious mariachi flew over his head. "Let me spell it out for you. That girl you were fighting? She's ghost ship, going Mary, wanted for 15 million, and she has the lowest bounty of everyone in our crew. Last we heard, the rest of us range from 20 and 300. Our top 3 bounties are over 100 million. The blood drained from Cordo's face. "We're the Straw Hat Pirates, and you're getting on our bad sides." Coby charged forward, punching Cordo before he could raise his guns. While Cordo went one way, Mary came back from the other, trapped in a net of thorns, stems, and roses. "Hijo de puta!" She cursed as she hit the ground, the thorns digging into her back. Scowling, she ate her way through the net, wincing at the points. The man that had put her in the net stood next to the downed form of Cordo, frowning. The man seemed to personify length, every part of him naturally stretched. He was tall and thin with a long, pointed chin. Beneath his long nose was a thin mustache and upon his dark hair was a large blue sombrero. His clothing matched that of Cordo and a large guitar was slung across his shoulder. He hummed sadly, strumming his guitar. "Mi hermano pobre," the man sniffed. "My poor, poor brother. Whoever could have done this to you? Your sad state is leaving me melancholy." His face suddenly twisted into a snarl as his strumming stopped, one foot kicking Cordo in the side. "Get up, you fool. We don't have time for this." "Why yes, bro," Cordo whimpered, rolling over and pushing himself to his feet. "I'm not sure he knows what melancholy means," Coby muttered. Off in the distance, Robin shivered, growing angry over the misuse of words. She wasn't quite sure why. "Oi, Coby," Mary grunted. "Who's this clown?" Pointed chin and context clues say this is Captain Largo of the Amigo Pirates. "He's wanted for 37 million and has a devil fruit." "You don't say," Mary snarked, gesturing to the net she had eaten her way out of. "So 28 and 37, right? That's 65 in total." She smirked. "Now they have a chance against one of us." "Let's not get cocky," Coby warned, eyeing the brothers who did the same in return. Captain Luffy has beaten enemies with bounties far higher than his own. These two could simply be underestimated by the Marines. "Who cares about that?" Mary smirked. "If they can take us on, then they might be worthy of fighting Uncle Usopp and Chopper on even ground. Besides, you and I haven't pulled out the big guns yet." "Speaking of guns, move." The Rosette and the Fairy dove to opposite sides, bullets from Cordo's guns ripping apart the ground. His guns chased them, each hand following one of their paths. Largo smirked at this and downed a pitcher of boiling water. Where he got it was a mystery. "Agua caliente net," quickly, he spat out a net of steaming water at Coby, who vanished with a cry of "shave." The young man blurred, one gray-green fist all but materializing in Largo's gut. The pirate captain wheezed, the sound catching Cordo's attention. "Big bro, are you alright?" the shorter man asked, forgetting their other adversary. Mary took this break in the bullet stream to pivot on her feet and charge Cordo. "Three-point carve," she yelled, roundhouse kicking his face, bending down to kick up into his gut, and then slamming her horns into his chest. Cordo let out a gasp, the air knocked from his lungs by the blow. Unfortunately, Cordo was made of sterner stuff than Mary had though, the pirate bear hugging the girl before she could get out. He squeezed. "Ah!" Mary fake screamed before smirking. Poof! She dissolved, leaving behind nothing but clothes and rope piled over a wooden heart. "K?" Cordo demanded. He'd never squeezed someone into non-existence before. "Sorpresa, cabron," Mary's voice hissed with venomous delight, her form rematerializing within her clothing. She jumped upward, her horns making contact with Cordo's chin. The blow gave him whiplash, the sudden force rolling his eyes into the back of his head. He crumpled, Mary standing over his form and doing a mocking victory dance as rope slithered out of her clothing to tie up Quarto. She managed to just finish as a metal net with small needles encircled her, knocking her off and out of the fight. Not again, damn it. Mary, Coby called, his swords deflecting a similar net as the one that trapped the Klabouterman. Largo glared at the young man he was fighting and spat a net of mucus at him. The rosette blurred with a cry of, "Shave," and reappeared far to his right. Largo shot another net at him. And another. And another. The cycle repeated, nets of various substances slowly overtaking the natural ground and limiting where Coby could stand. Finally having enough, Coby cut through the next net of plant and thorns. Shave. Unseen disaster. Largo didn't have time to react. The flat sides of each of Coby's swords impacted each side of his head. The rival pirate's head rung, the trauma dropping him like a sack of potatoes. The islanders rejoiced as the party renewed itself with full swing. Though Largo seemed to be unconscious, his nets remained solid, leaving Mary stuck in her painful containment. That wouldn't last long as Usopp rushed over, the girl he'd all but claimed as a daughter dissolving once more. The sniper reached into the net with reckless worry. The needles on the net stabbed his fingers, drawing blood but not deterring him in the slightest. He pulled Mary's heart and clothing from the net, allowing the girl to reform herself again. Fully aware of Yoko watching, Mary flung her arms around the pirate's neck with a cry of, "Uncle Usopp." Yoko watched the battle and the resulting celebration with mixed feelings. It was nice that Mary wasn't hurt at all and the attacking pirates were easily defeated, but her pirate stigma, the one thing she had trusted most in the world, was slowly crumbling. Sure, the thought had crossed her mind that the Straw Hats were still biding their time before their attack, but that brought up the question of why they would go through such lengths to defend the island first. Wouldn't it be easier for them to have let the amigos run wild and steal the plunder later? And Mary had made it clear that the Straw Hats weren't the plunder and raid type of pirates. Something Yoko wasn't sure she believed or not. It was all too confusing. "Why are you doing this?" she blurted, her voice causing the party to come to a screeching halt. "Why did you protect us?" "'Cause you were nice to us and we wanted to," Luffy answered after a moment's pause, 2 legs of meat in his hands. "Guys like that aren't real pirates. They're just assholes. Real pirates do what they want for the adventure, not for treasure." "I bet," Yoko stammered. "That doesn't make any sense." "Don't think about it too much," Nami insisted as Usopp, Mary, and Coby returned. Mary separated from the bunch, grabbing Yoko's arm and leading her away. "I'm gonna talk with Yoko," she called over her shoulder. "Be back later." "Have fun," Luffy called as the 2 girls vanished into the trees only a minute before Boss the Beetle, larger and more powerful than before, landed on the hillside, his battle cry shifting to a confused rumble when no challenge appeared. "Oh hey, Beetle," Luffy laughed. "Let's fight." The first 7 members of the Straw Hat Pirates waved at the island in the distance, Little East Blue becoming a spot in the distance. The rest of the crew, sans Mary and Amy, watched on with confused smiles. They weren't quite sure what had happened, but they felt like they'd missed something. "This is the life." Amy sighed from the shade of her parasol, Sanji on his knees next to her as she took a glass of freshly squeezed hard lemonade from the tray in his hands. She was wearing a yellow sundress and the lemon earrings she had worn as a member of Baroque Works. Robin, under her own umbrella, muttered an agreement around the straw in her own drink. Grace sat in the sun by the opened pool, the dark picture of a crumbling thriller bark at odds with the cheery weather. She was dressed in a bright blue shirt with red spots, green pants, and hiking boots. Brook played his violin somewhere behind them, the music playing over the sounds of battle from the observatory. Currently up there were Zoro, Jin, Coby, and Mary in a free-for-all duel. As some of the crew below watched, Mary was blasted out of the now vertically revolving windows. Frankie was tired of replacing the broken ones. She was wearing a red tank top and khakis under a jean jacket. The ship girl flailed in the air for a moment before launching a rope out of her sleeve, the rope tying itself around the flagpole and pulling Mary around. Directing her own momentum, the horned girl spun around the outside of the observatory before re-entering via the opposite window as a blade on her wrist cut through the rope. "Thank Goda that Usopp's not here right now," Nami muttered, walking over from where she had been checking the giant log pose set next to the steering wheel with Luffy. Can you imagine what his reaction would be to seeing Mary pull a stunt like that? "Kya ha ha ha." Amy laughed. He'd have shit himself with worry before climbing the mast to try to protect her. "I really don't know what they're doing inside on a day like this after dealing with Thriller Bark." "I mean, it has been almost 2 weeks now," Nami defended, running her left hand up her right arm. She frowned, feeling goosebumps, as Jin was knocked from the crow's nest with Coby planting both feet in his stomach. Jin pulled his headband free, allowing him to explode into lightning before the 2 crashed to the grass. Coby managed to roll away his momentum as Jin materialized behind him. Coby had dug through his wardrobe to find the Triceratops shirt he had worn on Water 7 and had paired it with red shorts. Jin was more covered, dressed in jeans and a long-sleeve shirt of tan color. "We've got a problem," Usopp yelled, running on deck with Chopper hot on his heels. The sniper waved a newspaper in the air until Luffy snatched it from him and handed it over to his wife. "Thank you, Luffy," Nami nodded, pecking him on the cheek. "Now let's see here." She froze, her eyes scanning the headline over and over without comprehending. "Danger, the deadly mystery of disappearing towns." "Oh no," Nami whispered, Luffy's shocked face reading the article over her shoulder. "What is it, Donna?" Jin questioned. The sounds of fighting from above stopped, Mary probably having picked up the dark emotions below. She and Zoro poked their heads out of the window. "There's been an attack on the East Blue," the navigator announced, freezing all motion on the ship. "Several islands have been completely destroyed, and the most recent one had people on it. The Marines say each island was hit by a meteor, but it's too deliberate to be an accident, Luffy?" Both Nami and the rest of the crew turned to look at their captain, his face uncommonly serious. "Our turf is in the East Blue," he began, referencing the home islands of their East Blue members, "but I don't think the asshole behind this cares about that. There are 14 of us on the crew," Amy thought aloud. "Of that, 7 are from the East Blue. That's half of us." "Yo-ho-ho," Brook chuckled reflexively. His purple ascot around his neck now bore the stitched pattern of a skull with an afro and a purple cane. "What shall we do, Captain?" "Our adventure can wait," he finally decided. "This attack on our home can't." Nami, set a course for the East Blue. "Right away, Captain," Nami answered as the first members brightened at the thought of going home. As they did so, a great shadow covered the ship. Looking up, the crew could see nothing of the sun behind a literal floating island. "Whoa!" Luffy and Chopper gasped. Their eyes turned stars staring up at a monolithic ship literally flying above them. It was monstrous, the hull made of what looked like the top of a mountain that had been broken off and flipped upside down. A row of long oars stuck out of each side, propelling the flying ship through the air. On the top was a large, square building. "That should be impossible," Frankie gasped. "This is the Grand Line," Robin responded. "I don't give a shit if it should be possible or not," Nami cut in as her goosebumps returned. "There's a hurricane coming ahead of us, we need to move." "We can't just leave them," her husband argued, jumping up onto the figurehead of the ship and waving at the flying vessel with both hands. He. "There's no way they can hear you, Dun," Jin offered from the deck. "The odds of that." Jin stopped himself at the sight of a small, gold and orange conch shell floating over to the ship to rest in Luffy's hands. "Is that?" "It's a tone dial," Usopp nodded. "I guess it would be easy to get to Skypia with a flying ship." "Here, Nami," Luffy called, passing the shell to her. She caught it nimbly, raising it to her mouth and pushing the button on the top. "Turn hard to port. There's a spontaneous hurricane coming dead ahead." Finishing her message, she threw the shell back to her lover and turned to the rest of the crew. "You all got that, right? Move it." "Yes, ma'am," they cried, everyone but Luffy moving immediately. The captain turned back to the flying ship, waving the shell at it. The conch tugged at his arm a little before he let go, watching in awe as the dial floated back up to the ship. Shaking his head, Luffy jumped into the fray behind him as the Thousand Sunny started to turn. Within seconds, the ship had changed course, now sailing 90 degrees from its initial path. The ship above them slowed to a stop as if the people at its controls were confused. Just as Nami had predicted, a hurricane brewed to life within a minute, the fierce winds ripping at Sunny's sails. The flying ship turned and chased after the sea-bound pirate ship in the hopes of escaping the storm. The crew of the Thousand Sunny panted on the deck of their ship, each tired after a hard storm. In the confusion, most had forgotten about the flying ship, so only a few didn't jump when a large man with swords for legs below the knees touched down on the grass after floating from the ship in the sky. Well, he rumbled in a deep, thick voice, "Aren't you an impressive lot?" He seemed on the older side with wrinkled olive skin and a liver spot under his left eye. Golden blonde hair bellowed down to his legs, part of a ship's steering wheel sticking out of his head like a wooden mohawk. His clothing looked to be made of worn, expensive materials, the brightest of which was a vertically striped yellow and muted orange trench coat. His legs were missing from just below his knees, each having been replaced with one sword. A bushy goatee and lit cigar completed the man's look. "Who are you?" Chopper asked, still panting from the storm as water dripped from his soaked fur. Next to him, Coby and Grace laid spread eagle on the grass, pools forming around them. Grace was coming too, but a harsh wind had knocked Coby into the railing, sending him into unconsciousness. "Gee ha ha ha." The man laughed. "I'm nothing but an old pirate impressed by the skills of the rookies." "You must have been sailing for a long time," Amy thought aloud. "Indeed I have," the pirate laughed, "but I've never seen a navigator predict a sudden hurricane like that. Which of you is the one that used the tone dial?" "That would be me," Nami answered, more than a bit of pride laced into her words. "That was some pretty good work, baby doll." "Don't call me that," Nami hissed, her happy countenance flipping instantly. Luffy stood next to her with his armoring a hole into the older man. The blonde held up his hands uneasily as a drop of sweat rolled down his brow. The wedding rings on the captain and navigator's fingers seemed to flash in the sunlight. "Easy there," he chuckled. "I wasn't expecting such animosity." Still, he grinned, showing his pearly whites. "That was some fine work. I wouldn't mind having instincts like yours on my crew. Where are you headed?" "We're headed to the East Blue," Grace supplied. "There's something going on that we want to check out." "Is there?" The man chuckled. "Well, I suppose I can spare some time to help you. The calm belt is a bitch to sail through. That is, if you can't fly. Lucky for you, I always repay my debts, so I'll help you with the powers of my float fruit." He paused, reaching down to touch one of Zoro's weights. With a single gesture, the dumbbell rose into the air and began orbiting the man. "It only works on objects," he said, cutting off the members that were going to ask to fly. "I can make myself float, but that's about it." "We still don't know your name," Robin told him, the man almost jumping in surprise. "How careless of me. My name is Shiki, but the Marines call me Shiki the Golden Lion." "That's such a badass name," Frankie whispered to himself. "Now why don't I help you across the calm belt by making your ship float?" Before anyone could answer, Shiki spun around and tapped the mast, the Sunny slowly rising into the air to sail alongside the flying island. Shiki didn't wait for a thank you before floating himself back to his ship. "I'm not sure if this is cool or scary," Grace muttered as her head finally cleared. She nudged Coby beside her, but he stayed unconscious. "I say it's freaking awesome," Usopp put in, running to the railing with Luffy and Chopper hot on his heels. The trio watched over the railing as the sea got further away from their now floating ship. "I don't like this," Nami muttered to herself, the goosebumps coming back. This time, they weren't related to the weather. The Thousand Sunny floated along, dwarfed by even the figurehead of the island ship next to it. Some of the crew had chosen to change while they traveled. Jin now sported a t-shirt reading, "Cole is Virgio," some of the letters hidden under a black jacket. Long pants came down to his hiking shoes and a dark bandana with his personal Jolly Roger was tied around his head, covering his headband. Amy and Grace had changed, too. The sisters had chosen the same style, sporting jean pants and Crimin brand t-shirts that showed off their figures. Amy's was, as usual, pale yellow while Grace had opted for tie-dye. Rather than her usual hat, Amy now covered her hair with a brown cowboy hat that complemented her blonde hair. Grace, on the other hand, had realized her hair was growing out and left her hat behind, her red hair flowing over her shoulder and down to her hip in a simple braid. Mary had changed her clothes as well, a tank top with a sheep design just reaching her khaki pants. Sandals flopped on her feet as she walked, her hammer bouncing along in one of her belt loops. Coby was still dressed in his Triceratops shirt ensemble from before. Having to not sail their own ship provided the crew with some downtime, said time most of them used to watch the cloud speed by below them. Coby began to shift into consciousness just as Luffy, Usopp, Chopper, and Mary awed the grouping of floating islands the Sunny and Shiki's ship approached. The boy sat up, an ice pack falling from his forehead, as Shiki returned to the deck of their ship. "What do you think?" he asked through the cigar in his mouth, the Sunny now flying over the islands. "Every one of these islands is being held aloft by my own powers. This here is the best damn base you'll ever find, a floating paradise. Welcome to Marivel." "That's amazing," Luffy gushed as Chopper and Grace knelt beside the pink-haired boy. "What happened?" Coby questioned, one hand reaching up to rub his cold skin. "That storm we had knocked you into the railing," Chopper answered, pulling some pain relief pills from his bag. "You missed most of the trip, but a cool guy is helping us get to the East Blue using his devil fruit." "What? Who?" He called himself Shiki, Grace answered, Coby just managing to swallow rather than lose the pills from a spit take. "You mean Shiki the Golden Lion, the merciless rival of the Pirate King Gold Roger?" Coby's surprised shout echoed across the deck, his words bringing a halt to the smaller conversations around. The silence hung in the air for only a few seconds before it was shattered by laughter. "Gee ha ha ha," Shiki laughed from where he had placed himself by Nami, "so one of you does know me." Luffy stiffened from his captain's seat on the Sunny's head. He turned, throwing his arm toward his wife, but he wasn't fast enough. "Now that everyone is awake, let me introduce you to Marivel, your graveyard." Shiki wrapped an arm around Nami's waist and arms, his other shoving into the grass deck and releasing his powers hold on the Sunny. The ship plummeted from the sky, the wind whipping past the pirate's ears failing to cover Shiki's maniacal laughter as he floated with the woman under his arm. "Your navigator is mine." "Luffy, Nami." The captain punched his other arm forward as his crew flailed through the air around them, his rubber body nearly reaching the blonde. Shiki smirked, circling his fingers slowly. The Sunny mirrored his movements, her mast swinging around like a giant bat. Each straw hat was launched, the crew scattered to the winds and lands with nothing but Shiki's laugh and wind in their ears. "J-I-I-I-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-A-A. Nam-E-I." Nami breathed in and out slowly, tension draining from her body before she dove into the pool before her. Her dive was perfect, projecting her through the water. Opening her eyes, Nami scanned the bottom of the pool rather than the warm plants and glass walls she had become too familiar with over the last week. Something caught her eye, a gray square against the uniform blue of the pool floor. Satisfied, Nami let herself float to the top of the water, swim to the other side, flip, and swim back. She climbed out of the pool and made her way to the hammock that held a white towel. She didn't towel off for long, the room had no breeze to cool her wet skin, but she did take a seat to stare at the ring on her finger. "Where are you, Luffy?" No sooner that words left her mouth than when a trumpet fanfare sounded, dragging the startled woman's attention to a tan canvas with 3 silhouettes. Her surprised look quickly fell into one of disappointment. The canvas dropped, revealing the 3 beings on the other side as they began what seemed to be a well-rehearsed dance number. The first and leader of the group was Shiki the Golden Lion, the pirate who had kidnapped her a week ago. To the left of Shiki was a gorilla with dark pink fur and a pink suit jacket and yellow and green floral fedora, 2 long fangs jutting out from its lower jaw. It also had green on yellow floral shorts and a white scarf. To Shiki's right was a man dressed as a clown, face paint and all. His blue hair matched parts of his colorful outfit as well as his enormous shoes. A long scarf bounced around his neck, defying the laws of gravity behind him. Covering most of his outfit, which left a good portion of his chest bare, was a white lab coat. With a final 4-part trumpet chord, the trio finished their dance with a gesture toward the bikini-clad prisoner. Seriously, the dance is ridiculous. Go look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. "Don't even look at me," Nami sniffed, turning away from the men. "Cold as ever, baby doll," Shiki chuckled, taking a few steps forward on his sword legs. "Don't call me that," the navigator hissed, glaring at the pirate captain. "Aha!" the clown gasped, running over to his captain. Each step of his shoes let out a pronounced fart sound, each one making Shiki flinch. "Are those really the only pair of shoes you own, Dr. Indigo?" Shiki demanded, rounding on the man. The clown froze on one leg before performing his elaborate series of claps and hand gestures as if to convey some message. "Spit it out already, doctor." "I just remembered I forgot to tell you something." "You can talk?" The captain's gaping was followed by the slow claps and chuckles of the gorilla, dragging a startled expression from Shiki. "Grandma?" "That's obviously a gorilla," Indigo yelled, slapping the back of Shiki's head. As one, the 3 struck another pose like some traveling show. Nami blinked slowly, unamused. Turning away from them, Nami's feet carried her from the squabbling trio until her hand came to on the glass surrounding her prison. She stared out at the snow beyond. Where did it all go wrong? Shit, Luffy yelled, massive trees toppling over about 100 feet behind him. At his side ran Jin, Grace and a bridal carry. The girl rapidly mixed paints together, doing her best to keep the proportions right as the electric devil jumped over logs and rocks. Cresting the hill behind them came their pursuer, a giant, flat crocodile. Said crocodile snarled at them, its bulk bulldozing through all flora in its path. "It's catching up," Jin yelled, sliding under a downed tree the captain jumped over. 2 more minutes, Grace insisted from his arms, mixing a dark powder into her paint. Running full tilt, Luffy and Jin blew past the forest's boundary onto what once was a stone plaza. Nearer the far end rested a fountain and 2 statues of a unicorn and a lion. They and the fountain before them were covered in moss and ivy. The pirates spun around, waiting for the crocodile to emerge from the woods, but a giant pink octopus with blue spots slithered out of the trees instead. "The hell?" Jin demanded as he and the captain turned to run from this new creature, a screech alerting them to some new threat. They fled right, avoiding the giant praying mantis that flew in from over the cliff at the end of the plaza. The octopus roared its challenge to the insect, curled tentacles punching out toward it. The mantis nimbly skirted the attack, its bladed arms slicing out and through the octopus tentacles. The sliced appendages toppled to the ground, the kraken staring at them for a second before turning to the giant bug sitting on the old fountain. Both yelled a battle cry, but before the octopus could turn, the mantis blindsided it, throwing it away. The octopus rolled to a slow stop and did not move. The giant bug alighted itself on the decrepit fountain again and cried out its victory, chittering loud until a pair of massive paws locked each of its arms to its sides. A black bear with white stripes and arms twice the length of its own height almost lazily swung the mantis through the fountain headfirst. The bug crashed to the ground, surrounded by debris. The bear approached, undeterred by the cries of the now red-eyed and foaming creature. The bear grabbed the mantis' claws and pulled the insect into a bear hug. The praying mantis' voice cut off abruptly as the bear pile drove its head into the tiled earth. As seemed to be the custom of the island, the bear yelled its victory over its fallen foes, panting until a forgotten scent reached it. It turned to the pirates, a fire in its eyes. "You wanna fight?" Luffy demanded, jumping up. Jin followed his example, golden tonfa slowly building in momentum. Grace rose as well, careful to keep her new mixture from splashing. Luffy and the bear charged. meeting each other in the middle of their battleground. Luffy jumped yelling, "How about a gum pistol?" The creature sidestepped the attack faster than any beast its size had any right to be, its arm smacking the pirate off into the forest. Jin came in from below, his tonfa coming up together to impact the monster's jaw with a crunch. The bear staggered backward, Jin's weapons coming in once more. The beast staggered from the force to its gut. From around Jin ran Grace, the girl showing a newfound speed as she dashed around the dazed bear, painting its fur into a rainbow. The bear roared at her as she backed up, but the smaller pirate smirked, undaunted, as the bear came toward her. "Try this," she said, pulling a packet of oil from a pouch. She tore the packet, the quick-lit oil inside igniting upon contact with the air. She tossed the fire, the bear having too much momentum to dodge. Colors trap. Artisan explosion. The paint on the bear exploded, burning through its fur instantly. The smoke cleared to show a thoroughly charred husk of what once was the bear. "Holy hell, Grace," Jin swore as Luffy landed his jump from the forest. "What ya put in that paint?" "Oh you know," she waved off. "Gunpowder, magnesium, C4, benzene, nitroglycerin." "Hey, Jin," Luffy called from over by the octopus. "Come fry this for us, I'm hungry." "Yes, Don," the logia responded. A stomach rumbled from next to him, Grace scratching her cheek in embarrassment. "I don't have any more rice crackers," she muttered sadly, as if that explained the rumblings. "Come on, man," Frankie called behind him, Amy and Robin pausing as the cyborg turned to watch their skeletal musician. Brook didn't answer as he stared at the small, old temple they'd climbed over. The group of four stood on a long, stone bridge with massive, artificial pools on either side. Something catching her eye, Amy turned to stare in horror as a massive, green shark with two torsos, one in front of the other. The shark was a total of 20 feet long. "Holy shit," Amy squeaked, grabbing Robin to hide behind her. At the same time, a chittering sound drugged the men's attentions to the temple. Out of its front came a black swarm of ants, hundreds of them, each with tiny weapons and armored, grabbing the girls and bolting away from the ants. The insects run past the cowering Brook, ignoring him as they ran for the other three. The shark, taking notice, turned and began to approach the bridge, jumping out of the water. Dropping the girls, Frankie pulled the skin-like covering from his right hand. And then the ants jumped. The cloud of black flew over the trio, impacting with the shark. In seconds, the ants ate the entirety of the shark, leaving nothing but bones that crashed into the water on the other side. The ants themselves landed gently on the bridge. "Hey, it's like me now," Brook mused, his eyeless gaze on the floating bones of the shark. Shaking his skull, Brook hurried toward his crewmates. "Are you all alright?" "We are for now," Amy grumbled. "You'll be fine, though." "Oh, why? They want meat," Frankie grunted, "not your dried up, old bones." "So I'm not good enough for you, huh?" Brook yelled, jumping over the flesh and blood pirates and charging toward the ants with his cane sword out. The insects charged as well, ignoring Brook altogether. Finally clearing the swarm, the musician sauntered to a stop, replacing his sword into its sheath slowly. Seeing this, Frankie replaced his glove. The cyborg, archaeologist, and chocolater began walking toward the ants without a care. The insects jumped just as Brook locked his blade into place. 3-verse humming. Arrow notch slash. A wave of panic flowed through the cloud of ants, each one feeling its tiny back break before darkness claimed the entire colony. They fell like rain around the pirates, Amy going so far as to open her umbrella. They paused behind Brook, who was still motionless. "I may be nothing but bones, but I'm still sensitive about my appearance. So tell me, do these pants make my butt look fat?" Nami Swan. Robin Schwan. Amy Schwan. Grace. Mary. Where are you? "Shut up already," Coby and Usopp yelled, trying to grapple and muffle the enraged chef before some other bohemian creature crawled out of the forest to confront them. "It's been a week," Usopp continued. "Just shut up and let us rest for a little." A growling grew from behind them, the three turning slowly to see a giant, green caterpillar with a mouth of razor-sharp teeth. "Run!" Usopp cried, Coby switching into his hybrid mode to grab him and Sanji before bolting. The caterpillar gave chase, following them to a tree overlooking a cliff. Panicking, Coby threw his crewmates to the side and jumped, grabbing a hanging vine. The monster steamrolled off the cliffside, roaring. "That was too close," Coby breathed as its voice echoed to nothing below. Coby," Sanji began, Usopp still and pale beside him. "Don't freak out, but you've got a cat." "What? He trailed off, a rumble reaching both his ears and his hands. Slowly, the rosette turned his attention upward. There, resting upon the branch over him, was a massive, blue saber-toothed tiger with 6 legs and 2 tails. The blue eyes of this tiger bored into the zone as Coby's vision followed one of the cat's whiskers down until seeing his own hand. Without warning and as quickly as he could, Coby jumped back toward the cliff, swinging from vine to vine as the incensed tiger slunk from its resting place to reveal its true size. "Oh no you don't," Sanji and Usopp yelled. "Tabasco Star." Concasse. The giant cat's eyes widened in shock and pain as its flaming tongue was trapped within its burning mouth, the cook's foot forming an indent in its skull as its chin forcefully met the ground. Coby landed behind Usopp, his hybrid arms catching something that sent him skidding backward into the sniper. A sort of compact bowl wiggled in his hands, smoking. "The hell is that?" Usopp cried. Two holes opened on either side of the trio, an entire herd of the bulls appearing in the trees. Coby tossed his bull into the air, cutting it in half before sending a .32 caliber phoenix to cut down another one. Still, more and more rained down, shattering and cracking the cliff. "We're going down," Sanji screamed, the cliff giving way beneath them. Monsters were nothing to the Straw Hats. Snakes that could swallow the Lord of the Sky whole, mincemeat, massive dinosaurs with antlers, breakfast, an entire woolly mammoth, a pet to ride. The constant blizzard was a different story. It's left, Zoro argued, his forehead and Mary's pushing against each other. "That's the way out." "No, it's right," Mary growled. "The wind is blowing that direction, so there's warm air there. The way to go is the hardest way to move. Not all who wander are lost, but you sure as hell are." "You want to say that again, half pint?" Chopper sighed over his crewmates squabbling, using his human form to keep the little girl they'd found half an hour ago warm. They'd been stuck in this freezing tundra for the 3 days and had recently captured a mammoth to carry them. They found a little native girl shortly after, passed out and about to be eaten. She was short, 4 feet at best, with straight red hair that brushed her shoulders and a bird-like face. Pale pink feathers, frosted over from the cold, lined the lengths of her arms, and her little purple and white dress did nothing to protect her from the cold. Clutched in her nearly frostbitten hands was a small plant with a pearl-like flower. Slowly, her eyes began to open. "Where am I?" the little girl asked, her stutter either from the cold or fear of the gorilla-like face that first filled her vision. The sounds of squabbling and the feel of the warm, furry whatsit she sat on reached her a second later. "Oh good," Chopper smiled. "You're awake." "Where am I?" the girl asked again. "Who are you?" "You can call me Chopper. Tony Chopper. Behind me are Zoro and Mary. We found you freezing and about to be eaten by a huge monster, so we saved you. You're on the back of a mammoth right now. What's your name?" I'm Shao," the redhead answered carefully. "How long has it been?" "We found you maybe 6 hours ago, but we've been on this island for 3 days now." "What?" she questioned, sitting up. "Why are you still in the winter zone? It only takes half a day to get across." She scanned the horizon before pointing ahead of them and to the left. "You can see the edge of the island over there." Chopper felt his eyes twitch as the arguing behind him stalled, his head half turned, one eye glaring at his crewmates. "We have been wandering around in this blizzard for 3 days, the zone growled. He did it." Nami rested on the hammock her captive had provided, never letting the old pirate out of her peripheral vision. Shiki and his gorilla hadn't moved much since Indigo had yelled something about a new breakthrough and ran off. Letting out another sigh as the light bounced off the water of the pool in just the right way that it glinted off her wedding ring, Nami let her mind wander to Luffy. Shiki and the gorilla either hadn't noticed her ring or didn't care. The telltale sound of Indigo's shows finally appeared, the door to the room banging open seconds later to reveal Indigo with something covered in a tarp. "This is it, Captain," the scientist voiced with a glint in his eye, dropping his cargo. "A new genetic mutation." The clown pulled a sheet from the item, showing a cage as tall as he was. Inside looked to be a mix of a peacock, a duck, and a chicken, the creature as tall as the navigator. Its feathers were mostly yellow with spots closer to brown dotting its wings. Clawed, slightly webbed feet supported the bird from below. A red rooster's crown crested the creature's head and a large, rounded beak protruded from under its large eyes, said eyes surrounded by red, flame-like shapes. Finally, an orange peacock tail with green designs almost as tall as itself stood folded behind it. "A guitar?" Shiki questioned seriously. "It's obviously a bird," the clown protested. "OOHH, ooh," the gorilla yelled, pounding his chest. Indigo's eyes drooped as his moment was ruined. "Are you pounding your chest to try to impress the girl?" the doctor asked. Shiki's jaw dropped, his eyes widening. "I thought you were my mother for a second there. Does everyone in your family look like a freaking gorilla?" Indigo demanded, smacking the back of his captain's head. The trio ended their act, striking another pose. Nami blinked before the cage opened, the bird flapping onto Shiki's shoulders. It splayed its peacock-like tail before the trio and bird were engulfed in a flash of electricity. "Stupid guitar," the blonde yelled as the shock faded, grabbing the bird and throwing it away. "Leave him alone," Nami demanded, leaving her hammock and running to the creature's side. "Is that the mutation you wanted to show me, Dr. Indigo?" "Why yes," the scientist muttered, still dizzy from the shock. He shook his head, clearing it. "The gigafowl has evolved to release bursts of electricity while fully immune from them itself. We won't be sure how it works until we dissect it." You won't touch him, Nami cut in, placing herself in front of the downtrodden fowl. The gigafowl huddled behind her, tears forming in its eyes. And what was all that about evolutionary breakthroughs? Well, you'll learn it when you join my crew, Shiki began, so I might as well tell you now. See, these islands have always had a rapid evolutionary growth, some species changing so much as to be unrecognizable after 3 or 4 generations. Our research narrowed the source down to a local plant known as IQ. With that in mind, I've had my men harvest every last IQ plant on the islands and distill it into a concentrate so potent, it can make an animal mutate in hours and become violent to the point of insanity, conquering challenges with nothing but brute force. You've never seen such vicious creatures, and it's these perfect weapons that I'll unleash on the East Blue until the government crumbles to my demands. Gee ha ha ha, gee ha 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 ha. You're a loony, Nami hissed. I'd never betray the East Blue or my nakama. I'll never join you. Assuming they're still alive, Shiki smirked. I doubt it after a week with these beasts. Nami gulped, telling herself that they were still alive. They had to be. Are you sure you don't want to join me now? Disappointing, but that makes forcing you to grovel later so much sweeter. You'll end up on your knees begging to join, baby doll. Just remember, I'm always willing to grant a favor for one of my own. Sorry, doctor, Shiki said, turning away from Nami and the gigafowl. I don't think this one will be useful to us. Shiki eyed the bird without turning. But it seems my new navigator has taken a liking to it. I think I'll let you keep it, baby doll. Call it a gesture of goodwill. With that, Shiki snapped his fingers as his trio made their exit, the gorilla pounding his chest again. Nami waited for several minutes until she was sure they were not coming back anytime soon before releasing the breath she'd been holding. She reached out, petting the large animal's head, a gesture the duck responded happily to. This was it. Come on, she told it, assuming it understood enough to follow. We're leaving. Leaving the duck's side, Nami loaded a backpack and slipped into the pool, swimming to the far end. The duck followed her, just as graceful in the water. Reaching her first destination, Nami sucked in a breath and dove. The duck followed without pause. He joined the orange-haired woman as she pulled the cover from the bottom of the pool, revealing a pipe system wide enough for the duck to fit. What a flaw in Shiki's design plans. Understanding her plan, the duck all but scooped the girl up, rocketing through the water as soon as she had a grip on his feathers. They hurtled through the water for a time, blasting out of a ring of water clinging to Shiki's main island. Nami took that time to open her eyes and catch her breath, noticing that they were falling toward a volcano filled with water. The two dove into the water, a blast of electricity coloring the surrounding air yellow. The gigafowl alighted on a seeking that had fallen to its shock before realizing the girl he had befriended was no longer on his back. Panicking, the duck found her floating like the fish. He grabbed her, pulling her from the water and gently pecking at her face, a worried expression showing his concern. She groaned, breathing. The duck gasped, pecking her harder. Knock it off, Nami roared, punching the bird. It skidded before jumping to its feet, a look of relief and joy on its face and electricity sparking around it. Nope, the navigator ordered as she raised a hand, the bird pouting without touching her just outside her reach. Wah! You did save me, Nami conceded, dropping her hand. Thank you. Wah! Now where are we? The navigator glanced around. Trees, 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 ship, trees. It's the Sunny, she cried, jogging down the mountain toward where their ship had landed, its sturdy atom wood showing no signs of damage. Suddenly, something exploded from the trees to her right. Nami slowed to a stop on the mountainside as a trio ran from the forest. Oh, hey, it's the Sunny, a familiar voice laughed before a roar split the air. One of the trio grabbed the other two and ran in her direction just before 3 giant scorpions and a massive lion followed their path out of the trees in pursuit. Nami, Luffy gasped, catching a glimpse of her from where Jin was dragging him and Grace. You escaped. Take care of them first, the orange-haired woman cried. Wah! A mass of yellow flew overhead, impacting the creatures with a blinding light and the smell of ozone. The pirates turned back to see a duck they'd never met perched over the steaming corpses of the other monsters. They blinked. Huh, that was awesome, but lightning's my thing. This scorpion is great, Luffy cried, Jin and Grace humming their agreement. Nami, you need to try some, isn't that right, Billy? Wah! Who's Billy? The navigator asked, stepping out from behind the boulder she'd used to change. She now wore a short top striped red, yellow, then green and a pair of short jeans cut off before her legs. This guy, her husband laughed, tugging on the duck's cheek. Billy let off a charge of electricity, the power running over the rubber man and into the logia. Jin wavered for a second before balancing out. He's got a big bill. Hey, Nami, can we keep him since we couldn't keep the beetle? I don't know, Nami responded. We had to get out of here first. Should we wait by the Sunny for everyone else? Grace asked, rear-pian claw from beside the cooking fire. Nami walked over, setting herself down by her beloved and stealing his claw. For his part, The only reaction Luffy had besides grabbing a new claw was snagging one last bite out of the one she took. "No way." The captain answered around his mouth full. "That's boring." "Don't talk with your mouth full," his wife admonished. "She's been fine this long," Jin thought aloud. "Shisu, stand, another few days. And Billy being able to fly. Makes finding the others a hell of a lot easier." "We'll leave as soon as we're done eating," Luffy agreed, tearing off another bite. "Fine, but let me get my clean attacked first." Sanji, Usopp, and Coby woke up in a boat, their clothes sopping wet. Unsure of their location, Sanji poked his head up over the rim, eyeing the world beyond the boat. "Guys, there's something wrong." "What do you mean?" Coby questioned as he poked his head up next to Sanji. On the shore stood a village of plain-looking houses. Older women and young children went about their daily lives, the most surprising thing about them being feathers that reached along their arms like pseudo-wings. "What's wrong, Sanji?" Usopp hissed from the boat. "There's no young ladies here. That's your problem?" Coby yelled, smacking the chef. "Oh, you're awake," woman's voice said, the three pirates turning to see an old woman with black hair. "You sure have us a fright when you fell out of the sky like that. We thought you'd all died." Bending down, the woman set a trio of steaming mugs on the dock beneath her feet, sitting next to them just before the men scooped them into their hands. "Thank you, miss, madam," Coby and Sanji nodded, Usopp only managing a simple, "Thanks." "Oh, do I look like a madam to you?" The woman waved off, her feathers waving. "I'm sorry," Coby muttered, "but why do you all have those feathers?" "Oh, these? Don't know. We've all got them. Are you all getting enough to eat?" Sanji questioned. "You're all much too thin. And why aren't there any young women or men around?" "Well, we could do better," the old woman admitted awkwardly, her voice slowly shifting from embarrassment to sadness. "Most of his life from hand to mouth, but we manage. It wasn't always that way, but everything changed when Shiki showed up." "Shiki?" the pirates yelled. "Yeah. All of the men and women were taken to work in the palace. From the notes we've gotten, if they don't work, we die. Shiki's got us all under his thumb. It will be a good day when he leaves for the East Blue and get down." The woman lunged, pressing the pirates into the bottom of the boat, hissing at them to be quiet. Poking their heads up just far enough to see, the straw hats were greeted to the image of a giant transponder snail with purple skin and a blue shell. "What is that?" Usopp hissed. "It's a surveillance transponder snail," the island native replied lowly. "That's how Shiki keeps tabs on us." They stayed crouched until the snail moved away, the woman then assuring them it wouldn't return for about 8 hours. Thanking her, the trio started up a hill into the town. Finally, the exhaustion of the past week caught up to them, the pirates all but collapsing by a small set of stairs. Usopp froze, staring at the top of the steps. Seeing this, Sanji glanced that direction. "Oh, hey, it's you," the chef said, his words mixing with Zoro's. Usopp, Chopper cheered, running down the stairs and flinging himself at the sniper for a hug, Mary doing the same. "Zoro-sensei," Coby greeted with a wave. "Sleep first, shrimp," Zoro muttered, "talk later." Without any more preamble, the assimilated pirates collapsed into something of a disjointed, snoring heap. Crawley Davidson, la la la, la la la, la la. Frankie hummed along to Brooke's song as he directed the Crawley Davidson, a giant crawfish he'd forced into becoming a motorbike, through an expanse of desert. Robin sat sideways on the bike behind him. Behind her was Brooke, sitting backwards as he strummed his violin. Amy floated behind them weightlessly, her umbrella connected to the bike by a chain of Robin's arms. "This is the way to travel," Amy called down. "Hey, I see a castle or something." "Is that a town?" Frankie questioned, the crawfish beneath them jerking backward. "Ow," Brooke whined as the animal-turned bike skidded to a stop and jumped backward. "I bit my tongue. Not that I have one." "What the hell?" the cyborg demanded, punching the creature. "Bikes don't jump backwards, stupid." "The poor thing's trembling," Amy muttered, landing next to it. "It's not listening to me is what it's doing," Frankie growled. "I guess we'll have to walk." Sighing, Frankie removed the modifications from the crustacean and the quartet continued forward through a ring of fat, white trees with a pungent aroma. "I guess we'll check out whatever's up there," Amy shrugged. "I'm hungry." "You and me both, Lil, sis," Frankie responded. "Wah," Billy cried, his flight coming to a sudden stop as he turned in midair, climbing higher. "What's wrong?" Luffy demanded over Nami and Grace's screams. Billy quickly landed on a smaller piece of floating island, all but crashing as he retched and panted. The riders dismounted, 3 of the 4 fretting about Billy. "There's a village," Jin called to his companions worrying about the duck, unafraid to fall from such a height. "Looks like it's surrounded by a ring of trees." "Those are the same type of trees Shiki has surrounding his palace," Nami noted. "I wonder if the smell keeps the animals out." "Is that it, Billy?" Luffy asked, the duck responding with a sad, wah. "Best thing we can do right now is plug his nose and keep going," Grace suggested. "It's strong, though. I can smell it from here." Shrugging, the pirate stuffed plugs into the duck's nose and mounted him once more, the giga fowl completing the last leg of the journey. Their landing was accented by a cry of, "Nami Swan, Grace-chan." "Hey, Sanji," Luffy laughed as the four sat down just outside the village. The chef was not alone as Zoro, Usopp, Chopper, Coby, and Mary watched. "I'm so happy you're alive. I was so worried about you this past week that I couldn't even sleep." "No kidding," Usopp grumbled. "We got into a fight every hour because the moron wouldn't stop screaming your name." "We're still missing Robin and Amy," the chef gasped, ignoring the sniper. "They're probably avoiding you," Zoro groused. "Oh?" Sanji muttered, glancing back at the swordsman. His ire rose, memories of Thriller Bark's dock coming to his mind. "Why aren't you looking for Robin so you can swoon over her? Afraid you'll get lost?" Zoro sputtered, unable to answer. The clapback received a round of laughter from Coby, Mary, Jin, and Nami. Grace slid from Billy's back and hurried to Coby, eager to tell him that she put his training to use. "It's so great to see you all again," Luffy smiled. "Oh, this is Billy, by the way." "Wah," the duck saluted. "I'll wonder where the others," Jin thought aloud. "They'll be fine," Zoro waved off. "The four of them are too strong for some stupid animals to beat them." "Mom, there's a giant bird outside," the little girl some of the pirates knew as Xiao gasped, turning the pirates' attentions to her in the doorway of her home. She quickly tensed, passing out and starting to fall backwards before her mother caught her. "Oh my, you all have become quite the little party. Why don't you come inside and rest?" "Most of us are good," Luffy shrugged. "You should go on in, Nami, after what Shiki put you through. I bet you could use some rest." His voice held a tinge of worry. "I guess," she replied, kissing him before stepping into the house. The door closed, Nami just able to hear Sanji lamenting, again, at his stolen Nami Swan, before Luffy punched him with a cry of, "Mine." Laughter and yelling resounded through the bar as beer, rum, and other drinks emptied and refilled rapidly. Frankie, Robin, and Brooke watched this from the second floor, casual but ready to fight or run should the need arise. "I'm not seeing our crew," the cyborg frowned, "but what's with all the pirates? They've got enough cutthroats to start a super war or something." "Each crew has their own eternal pose, so we can safely assume they're all supposed to be here," Robin noted, nodding to one of the many food-laden tables below them. Neither pirate answered. Through Brooke waylaid a passing barmaid, swapping out his empty teacup for a fresh one. She stood about as tall as Amy with red hair tied up in a ponytail. Her clothing consisted of a purple and pink dress with a short skirt and small heels. Her arms bore pale pink feathers reaching up from her wrist and past her elbows. "Pardon me, miss," he began, "but would you be so kind as to show me your panties?" "No way, creep," the barmaid answered, jumping higher than any normal person could. She raised one leg, giving Brooke a single second of the vision he wished for before axe-kicking his skull into the floor. "Excuse me," Robin said as she landed. "Are those feathers on your arms?" "Oh, these? I don't know." She shrugged, looking at Robin with a pair of chocolate eyes. "I get the feeling we want to be birds." "That doesn't make any sense," Frankie responded, a bottle of cola in hand. "I don't think you can turn into a bird just because you wanna." "No, without a bird zone or salmon," Amy slurred, stepping over with a bag of coins. Her winnings from a drinking contest the others had tried to warn her away from. Tears streamed from her eyes, drawing Robin and Frankie's concern. "So about those panties," Brooke muttered, the barmaid stepping on him as she smiled and excused herself. "Ms. All-Sunday, Amy cried, throwing herself over the other woman. "I don't know what to do." "I cannot believe you let yourself get drunk," Robin sighed. "I'm ruined, Ed." "What do you mean, Ms. Valentine?" Robin questioned. I, the blonde hiccuped. "At Blue Island East Place, Poor." She struggled to find the word in her drunken state. "I don't know if I'll want to marry Jin." "Ow, what?" Frankie gasped, stumbling over the railing. The shipwright managed to catch himself and hauled himself back up. Did he super propose or something? "I did on *hic on accident," Amy wailed, her tears suddenly drying as lament turned to anger. "How the hell was I supposed to know given a damn name was offer in Marion? And why the hell hasn't he given me an answer? Am I not good enough fair? I am." She shifted back into a blubbering mess. "Help me." "He hasn't responded?" Robin asked as Brooke pulled himself from the floor. "No, and that makes it worst. I don't even know if he knows." "If he doesn't know, then what's the problem?" Frankie cut in, Amy punching him over the railing for his stupidity. What if he does know? What if he doesn't like me like that? I like him. Like, a lot like, but do I like him? Do I want him to like me? I don't know, wah?" "That's something y'all don't see every day," a nearby pirate laughed, getting a better look at the group over his mug. "Hey, you're the Straw Hats, aren't y'all? You don't seem like the type to join Captain Shiki, but on the winning side now." "That's why we're here," Robin answered, rubbing soothing circles on Amy's back. I'm a little confused, though. Do you know why he's forming this brotherhood of pirates? Ya don't know why? Joking, can't you read? He rummaged in his coat before pulling out a paper. It's right here in the news. Take a look. You mean? Robin gasped as Frankie pulled himself back to the second floor. Those meteors are Shiki's doing? Captain Shiki's a clever bastard, ain't he? The pirate from the bar laughed, Robin and Frankie reading the newspaper he had offered. Amy rested at Robin's feet, starting to sleep off the alcohol in her system due to a lullaby courtesy of Brooke. There's no way the government can overlook this. I see, Robin nodded, but what's his exact goal? After he destroys the East Blue, he's going to conquer the whole stinkin' world. The pirate waved off. Not like there's anything there to miss, anyway. It all starts after the assembly tonight. First we have dinner, then he lets those monsters of his out on the East Blue. Those things are bad news, Frankie shivered. It'll be a slaughter if he does that. If you want an omelet, the pirate shrugged. Like I said, not like there's much to miss in these eggs. I'm glad I'm on Shiki's side, one of the pirate's crewmates broke in. No kidding. To Captain Shiki. To Shiki, most of the bar roared. Y'all better get changed, the crewmate laughed. Tonight is formal wear only. So there's a dress code for the end of the world. Robin chuckled mirthlessly. Good to know. I heard he's got a demonstration planned. A warm-up before the East Blue or something. See, there's a village on the island he's left alone just fair tonight. Watching those people scream is gonna NKY blinked. There are people here. Grandma. Mommy. Xiao jumped over a sleeping Luffy as she hurried into her home after completing her errand, passing the other sleeping pirates. Shiki's leaving. Are you sure? Her mother gasped. Yeah, everyone's coming back. I saw Shu's daddy with my own eyes. He said everyone else will be back soon. Daddy and sis should be back anytime now. After all this time? Xiao's grandmother questioned, sitting up from her bed. It's like a dream. The old woman had large, green splotches on the left side of her face, the results of a disease known as daft. As they had explained to the pirates, daft was caused by inhaling particles from the daft green trees that surrounded the village. The particles weren't dangerous in small amounts, but long-term exposure leads to the spots growing until they cover the entire body, paralyzing the victim. Xiao had met Zoro, Mary, and Chopper because she had been trying to find the cure, a small plant known as IQ, but one plant was not enough. That plant now sat in a small cup of water, taunting them but too valuable to throw out. I can hardly believe it, Xiao's mother cried, scooping her daughter into a hug and sitting on the bed. After so long, that evil Shiki is finally going to leave. Then he'll be the East Blue's problem. Nami frowned from her spot wrapped up in a blanket. They don't know, she thought, wincing. One hand touched the gold bracelet she had received from her sister after Arlong's defeat so long ago. Carefully and with a hoarse whisper, she got to her feet. Luffy. Nami pushed her way out of the house, moving her way towards the back. Luffy. Stay back, the captain ordered, he and the other Straw Hats watching the sunset in a tense semicircle. Said sunset poured through an arch the pirate were sure was not there before. Shiki the golden lion standing atop it. If you want to help, help Jen. Reunited at last, baby doll. Stop calling her that, Luffy yelled. That was cold of you to leave, baby doll, the blonde continued, ignoring the other captain. You didn't even bother to say goodbye. You sure know how to hurt a guy's feelings. The only one whose feeling I'm worried about hurting are my husband's, Nami bit back. We know about your scheme to destroy the East Blue. So, I think you know sinking ship when you see one. You know you're better off with me than with these lowlifes, baby doll. Shut up, Luffy demanded. If you think you can get away with trying to steal one of my crew, my wife no less, you've got another thing coming, bastard. Oh, what are you gonna do about it? Break you in half? Let's go. As one, the 9 pirates charged the elder outlaw, Luffy reaching him first with a gum-gum rocket. Shiki shifted to the side, but was surprised to find one of Luffy's legs ready to catch him in the torso. Even as Shiki brought one sword leg up to counter, and hopefully slice off a chunk of the offending party, Luffy's leg was already moving to dodge. The older pirate's eyes narrowed as he flew upward, unsure if his thoughts were right. Storm clouds he was sure were not there a second ago rumbled above them, lightning striking somewhere nearby. 72 caliber Phoenix. Zoro and Coby called in tandem, their flying slashes mixing on their course to Shiki. Scowling, the pirate kicked them away before having to dodge Usopp's Firebird Star. Power Ram Shoot, Sanji yelled, launching Mary at their airborne foe. Gordian's Knot, the Clabouterman announced, twisting through the air. Shiki's frown deepened as one of his legs kicked upward to cut the ball of rope in half. Mary was just able to avoid death by catching the next sword on her horns, the force sending her plummeting. Adrenaline Amber. Grace yelled after Coby took off running, catching the ship girl in an adrenaline-boosted haze, spinning her momentum away and releasing her. The rosette shaved in front of Shiki, his hybrid form already swinging. Unseen Disaster. Arm Point. Cloven Hoof Sakura. The golden lion was unable to avoid both attacks, his sword legs blocking the ancient zone as Chopper's hooves pounded into the pirate's back. Shiki grimaced as the attack left pick hoof marks along his back, manipulating his fruit to spin quickly. The force knocked Coby and Chopper backward, just in time for a bolt of electricity to fire at the man. 10,000-watt lightning shot. Shiki dove out of the way, only to have his vision filled with Jin's angered expression, electricity flowing over his blurry form. Spinning death, Shiki's arms shot up, both covered with a black substance that negated the lightning sparking from Jin's tonfa. To think you would make me use not only my arms, but my haki as well, your teamwork is truly. Kankase, gum rifle. Whatever Shiki was about to say died on his lips as Sanji and Luffy sandwiched him between their attacks, Sanji's steel-toed boots going through Jin. The lion's strangled cry turned to rage, his fists and flight allowing him to punch those around him into the ground. It's about time you worms learned your place. In the dirt, he raised one hand, gesturing upward. Lion's threat, earthbind. No, Luffy yelled before the ground began to rupture around them. Grace, give me something. Observation orange. The painter answered. Luffy's world shifting. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as every one of Luffy's senses went into overdrive. Shiki floated above them. 8 giant lions made of dirt rising out of the ground and closing in on the group. He could smell the fear of his crewmates around him, their minds screaming for something they could do. Worst of all was Nami's cries, fear and worry overriding everything else in her mind. Get Captain Luffy out. Koby's yell came at a snail's pace, one of his Sabaku no Kiba blades rising to point at the lion between them and Shiki. Focus on that one. Luffy didn't like it, but the others seemed set on that plan and they didn't have time for a new one. Each pirate prepared their most powerful attacks, a gum cannon, Diable Hambi, 108 and 72 caliber phoenixes, 100,000-watt lightning shot, carving hoof Sakura, color trap. Artisan explosion, a dozen exploding stars, and Gordian's knot smashed into and through the lion head, rendering it nothing but a memory and crippling its 2 neighbors. Not wasting any time, Coby grabbed Luffy and spun, using up the last of the adrenaline amber and throwing his captain at a considerable speed toward their foe. Gum Gatling. Earth wall. As the name implied, a wall of dirt flew up between the 2 airborne enemies, but it seemed so slow from Luffy's point of view. This is for my wife. The East Blue native's fists met the wall at every one of its weak points, tiny bouts of black lightning erupting from each impact and destroying the defensive move. Luffy didn't stop there, continuing the attack to rain punches down on Shiki, who frantically tried to block. Taking a risk, Luffy continued his attack with one hand while the other came up to his mouth. Third gear. Shiki's eyes widened as his opponent's arm swelled, flying away from the Gum Gatling. Maybe I underestimated these worms, he thought, dodging and blocking lightning, flying slashes, and explosions. I better finish this. The eye he kept on the captain widened as the air in the rubber man's arm transferred to his leg. Gum. Though Luffy could see it coming, he was too slow to dodge the black-clad fist that punched him, driving him backward and scraping his shirt. You know, I lied to you before. I can't control the flight of creatures. Their stuff, though. With a flick of his wrist, Shiki sent Luffy hurtling into the dirt next to his crew by his shirt, just in time for the earthbind to reach them. Several tons of dirt came crashing down on the straw hats, twisting and pressing before condensing into a rising pillar that contracted. Strong the straw hats may be, but no paradise-level pirate could resist that much earth and stay conscious unless they managed to avoid most of it. Luffy, Nami screamed, dropping her. The pillar finalized, the faces and some select limbs of her crewmates coming out of the dirt. Jihahaha, Shiki laughed, landing beside the young woman as she fell to her knees. Your friends were stronger than I expected, baby doll. I'll give you that much. You don't have to worry, though, they're still alive. Just taking a dirt nap. You're going to attack the East Blue, Nami stated. Yeah, so what? Don't you dare lay another finger on my friends or the East Blue. You're getting ahead of yourself, baby doll. I told you, I'm willing to do a favor or two for one of my own. Right now the only thing that threatens me are the cyclones of the Grand Line. Having a navigator that could predict them, well, there's not much I wouldn't exchange for that. Nami's eyes shifted from Shiki to the pillar, one hand moving to the golden bangle she kept on her wrist. Keepsake of the dead? Shiki questioned. Don't be stupid, Nami bit back instinctively before her voice lowered again. I got it from my sister, back in the East Blue. If I did choose to join you, would you leave my friends in the East Blue alone? Jihaha. Well, I couldn't promise the whole East Blue, but I'd be willing to leave your home alone. As for your friends, if they don't attack me, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Nami paused. Don't do it, Mrs. Nami. Mary. The navigator jerked at the voice, her eyes being dragged to Mary, her form cradled inside Usopp's within the pillar. Conscious, Shiki muttered. I'm surprised, Mrs. Nami. What would Captain Luffy say to something like this? But Mary, there's no buts about this, Captain Luffy would say, go to he. Insolent pest, Shiki frowned. The rocky had knocked Mary out with tumbling to the ground. A massive slice of earth floated over the pillar, easily meeting the size of the village. What do you say, baby doll? Fine, Nami gave in after several seconds and the lowering of the slab to the top of the pillar. Not good enough for me. Slowly, Nami kneeled before the stronger pirate, tears in her eyes. Please, Captain. If you'll spare any island with my former crew's Jolly Roger, I will join your crew as your chief navigator, please. That's more like it, Shiki grinned. Welcome aboard, it's hard. Learning that there are opponents you could never beat, but that's part of growing up. Gee ha ha ha. Reaching into his robe, Shiki withdrew the tone dial from when they'd first met. I'm not some lowly kidnapper. For honor amongst pirates and all that, I'll let you leave a farewell message to them. You make sure they don't come back, okay? Grabbing the conch shell with tears in her eyes, Nami pressed the apex and began her goodbye. Coby woke to something slapping him none too softly, the smell of smoke reaching him a second later. Concerned, the zone's eyes shot open, Frankie's face swimming into view. And Nami's gone. Luffy's voice cried from somewhere nearby, I was too weak. She's trying to save us in our homes, Mary offered with a scowl. This is Eni's lobby all over again, but with bigger risks. Shaking his head, Coby pushed himself upright as Frankie moved on to waking Usopp. Taking in his surroundings, Coby found that, once again, he was one of the last ones awake. The rest of the crew were scattered around the boulder-strewn area, quiet as Chopper treated their wounds. Beyond them burned the remains of the village that had taken them in, smoke wafting into the sky. What happened? The ancient zone asked. Shiki released the monsters on this poor village. Robin answered. We were too slow to stop them. What now? Zoro grunted from beside her. I don't know. Luffy's tone was downtrodden, broken. It looks like we have three options, Grace offered as she helped Coby stand. 1. We can leave and get killed by Grand Line weather in a week. 2. We can try to join Shiki. Yo ho ho, Brook chuckled mirthlessly. I'm the last one to join this crew and even I know neither of those is a valid option. Then we'll kick down door number 3, Jin growled, a cigarette on his lips as he helped Amy get over her hangover on the insistence of Robin and Frankie. We go and get Dodonna back. Now you're speaking our language, Frankie smirked, punching his hand. It's not every day we get to rescue a princess and save the world, Sanji said around his own cigarette. Princess? Robin questioned. She's going to be the queen of the pirates, the chef answered as if it was obvious. Shiki's crossed us, and now we're royally pissed off. Bahahaha. Mary laughed, that lion bastard. Language underestimates the East Blue. Let's show him what we have to offer. A wavering voice began. Are you all from the East Blue? The pirates turned to see Xiao's family, her mother the one to speak. Most of us, Jin muttered. Our crew began there. I can't believe I said those things. Tears streamed from the woman's eyes. I can't believe I said Shiki was the East Blue's problem now. Xiao, Chopper blinked, his eyes on a conch shell in the girl's hand. Where did you get that? The girl raised the shell, allowing the crew to recognize Shiki's tone dial. I found it nearby with this ring and snail. May we see those, Xiao? Coby asked, the native passing him the shell, snail, and golden band. Though he held the shell and baby Den Den, the zone handed the wedding band to his captain. Go ahead, Luffy muttered, cradling the ring, play it. I love you, Luffy, and I'm sorry. The captain's pupils shrunk at the sound of his wife's voice, his grip tightening. If nothing else, I wanted you to hear that. What the hell is this? We should listen to the whole thing, Captain, Robin insisted. Whichever woman just told you to listen is right, Luffy, the recording continued, Luffy blinking owlishly. Don't give me that look. I know you better than you do. The recording of Nami sighed. And I'm so sorry. Joining Shiki seems to be the only way to save you and our homes. Shiki's agreed to leave our home islands alone and give you all a free pass to run. I don't know how I'll make it. There was a pause. I hope you can forgive me, Luffy. Go find another navigator. Go find some way to live without me. If you can, that will make one of us. Shiki's taking me to his palace at the highest point of the islands. He's a legendary pirate who fought the Pirate King himself. Don't come because I don't think you can win, but if you feel the same way I do, then come prove me wrong, and save me from the darkness again. I love you, Luffy, goodbye. Though it was small, Luffy let a smile grow. He recognized that tone in her voice. Guys, he began, his smile widening. Get ready. We're going on a rescue mission. Cheering filled the clearing. If we're doing this, we're doing it without holding back. Everyone, I'm lifting the ban. The Golden Lion dies tonight. One moment, Captain, Robin stated, holding up a finger. If you wish to crash their party, you must know that there is a dress code. After all, death comes well dressed. Shiki slowly approached the ring of daft green trees that surrounded his palace, frowning under his gas mask. Dr. Indigo's message was, unfortunately, correct. The older pirate stopped before two men, also in gas masks, as they held down his new navigator in the piling snow. The East Blue native was dressed in a black dress, but her beauty was marred by the green spots that grew over her face and arms, the onset of daft. Letting his eyes wander, Shiki took note of the dynamite placed at the bases of the nearby trees. Going to use my own plan against me, baby doll? The pirate frowned. I guess that's why you joined my crew in the first place. How? Disappointing. I agreed to your conditions. Why? You never intended to keep our deal, Nami scowled, panting. My hometown burning. My friends grieving the loss of their loved ones. I won't let that happen. Though she couldn't see his scowl behind the mask, Nami could feel it as the pirate grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. You should have been more patient. I was going to leave your sister alone. Shiki shoved Nami into a tree, the young woman letting out a cry of pain that got louder as the daft spots grew. Jihahaha. I guess you underestimated how powerful the poison of the daft greens is. A real pirate doesn't blubber on about family or home. Pathetic. Tossing her into the air, Nami was suspended by 24 steel rods stabbing the ground, none of them injuring her. They did, however, lock her in place. Either way, you still show a lot of potential. If you're fortunate enough to survive until the end of the General Assembly, I'll gladly take you as my navigator again. After all, I've got a soft spot for feisty women. Jihahaha jiiihahaha. He turned, walking back to the palace. Luffy. Shiki scowled as Indigo's shoes. Not so much ruined as faltered the mood of his triumph. The serving of the ceremonial sake was almost finished, his 50 pirate captains all just waiting for the grand moment of their victory. Finally, Indigo finished pouring the final cup. Shiki stood. Not that I need to remind you, but the East Blue is the weakest and most expendable of the 6 seas. Though it will be mourned, there is nothing in it to be missed, so be as thorough with your carnage as you want. Grabbing his own, larger saucer, Shiki raised it, the other pirates mirroring him. This is the birth of the Golden Lion pirate fleet. Captain Shiki. The pirate froze, one eye twitching as one of his lackeys ran into the room. You're interrupting the ceremony, he frowned. I'm sorry, sir, but you need to hear this. Finally reaching his captain, the pirate whispered, a large pirate ship with a straw hat Jolly Roger has landed on the grounds. Is that it? Don't waste my time and go kill them. Well, sir, we tried. They're here now. What? Shiki hissed as glowing slashes cut one of the paper doors at the other end of the hall. Said door all but exploded inward, some blinding light obscuring the other side. Its pair was punctured by a foot, though that wasn't quite as memorable. No, Usopp, a voice said, you gotta do it with flair. Wait, I'm still. The other door launched off its hinges, allowing more light in. They'd managed to hack the speakers because an epic trumpet fanfare flared as they entered. The figure stuck in the door quickly freed itself, scurrying back to its peers. There were 12 of them in all, the group forming a semicircle inside the opening. Each was dressed in a black suit or a dark dress, several carrying large guns. From the light behind them walked their captain, his suit partially covered by a black captain's coat worn like a cape. It fluttered and told and helped but snarl at the showing. So you want another round, Shiki muttered, replacing his cigar with a fresh one. Color me surprised. The Straw Hats did not answer, stepping forward until they made a ring in the center of the room. You're planning on attacking the East Blue, Luffy stated as his crew came to a stop. Yeah, so? And Nami? She's okay? Sure, Shiki smirked. She's peachy. Shiki's goons around the room chuckled ominously. Something tells me he lies, Grace frowned. You don't say, Coby muttered with the same tone. Jihaha. You sure put on a dangerous front. It was a nice show, I'll give you that. But surely the 13 of you don't expect to walk out of here alive, do you? As if on cue, the walls of the room collapsed inward, revealing all 50 of the crews Shiki had recruited, everyone armed to the teeth and filling the first and second floors. I thought only one of you would be stupid enough to try to sacrifice yourselves for your home. I guess it's a crew trade. You're a suicide squad. You're as dumb as you look, Luffy shot back. We aren't a suicide squad, we're your unlucky 13. And Nami wouldn't sacrifice herself, moron. She joined your crew to attack from the inside, on a cue of their own. Every Straw Hat raised the guns they carried. We won't lose the same fight twice, Shiki the Golden Lion. Just like that, chaos exploded as the East Blue pirate crew unloaded every piece of ammo they carried into the surrounding pirates, hundreds falling to their initial barrage. I'm out of ammo, Amy pouted, none of the Straw Hats fazed by the destruction and gore left behind by their first attack. Several of the crew had fired with deadly aim, at least their targets weren't screaming in pain. There's never enough ammo, Frankie replied, tossing his empty cannon away. What a shame, Jin sighed, pulling out his tonfa. I guess we'll have to get up close and personal. Usopp, Chopper, Grace, go look for Nami, Luffy ordered, throwing his coat and suit jacket off to reveal his blood-red button-up. I get the feeling she's somewhere near those threes around the palace. Coby, keep them safe. Right. Kill them. One of the surviving pirate captains yelled, the army surging forward. Luffy didn't bother to even look at them, his crewmates joining the chaos and throwing away anyone in front of their captain. Luffy's eyes were set on Shiki as he tried to move into a back room. Give me back my wife, Luffy yelled, punching the legendary pirate. What did you do to Nami? Cretaceous charge. Firebird star, colors trap, rainbow of emotion. Can you smell her, Chopper? Usopp demanded through gritted teeth as another soldier burned away under an attack Usopp thought they would survive. No, the reindeer sniffed, shaking some poor impaled mook off his antlers. I can't blame you, Coby shouted, throwing Grace into the air, cutting down a trio of enemies, and catching her again in one motion. The daft green around here is bad enough for me. I can't imagine how it is for you. Over there, Grace yelled, pointing toward a light from a ring of trees. There she is, Usopp confirmed. The group turned, charging toward the outskirts of the palace grounds. Nami. The area exploded, the sonic wave blasting the Straw Hats backward. Coby was the first to recover, rushing forward with a wobbling charge toward their navigator. Nami laid on the snow, steel rods stuck in the ground around her. It was a miracle that the explosion only left her with minor burns, but that could be attributed to the stiffness of the daft infection spreading across her skin. Wah, Billy, Chopper called, the gigafowl landing on the snow beside Nami. Go find Luffy if you can. Wah, let's get her out of here, Coby ordered, passing the woman off to Usopp and Chopper before changing back into his Dino mode. Grace grabbed his horns and swung on as he passed, several roars ripping through the snow behind them. Oh, shit, Usopp cried, the four running from the incoming stampede of mutated animals. That blast blew a hole in the barrier. Colors trap. Art is an explosion, Grace yelled, the land behind them exploding again. Let's hope that worked. RAAAWWRRRRR. I don't think it did, Usopp screamed. The group ran inwards, rounding a corner and slamming a door as the monsters invaded the castle. Finding the coast clear after a couple minutes, the group tried to sneak back outside in search of the IQ laboratory. Well, you maggots sure have made a mess of things. Shiki's voice gave the pirates pause, their gazes slowly turned to see him floating above them. What a shame, baby doll, but you made your choice. Lion's threat. Imperial lions. Out of the snow around them rose a half-dozen giant lion heads, each channeling the wind into a deafening roar. Now die. The lions rushed in before bursting one by one. The cause of this landed between the group and Shiki, the pink sheen of his skin a stark contrast to the white snow. Steam bellowed from his skin, casting an imposing image. How many times do I have to say this, Shiki? Luffy questioned, cracking his knuckles. Stay away from my crew. Keeping Shiki in his peripherals. Luffy glanced back at his friends as Billy landed beside him. Luffy, Nami smiled from Chopper's arms. Hey, everything will be just fine, he assured her. Guys, go find a cure. I'll deal with Shiki. Give him hell, Luffy, Usopp called, already on the way out. It's just you and me now, Luffy stated. I won't make the same mistakes twice. Let's dance. This is it, Chopper stated, shifting so Grace could melt the lock with her acid paint. It smells of chemicals. The room inside mirrored a greenhouse of sorts, the right side made of glass and the left concrete. Every tray bore some kind of spherical, pink and white plant. While most of them were planted in dirt, several were uprooted and soaking in some dark pink fluid. The group entered the room carefully, Usopp carrying the navigator. It looks like they're using the moonlight to grow these plants, Chopper observed. Based on what Nami was able to tell us and what we know of the animals, it can be theorized that these IQ plants act like my rumble balls do, but for all creatures. Huh, neat, Grace shrugged, understanding, while Coby blinked in confusion. Chopper's nose twitched. This way. They followed the doctor up a short flight of stairs and into an upper room. A shelf desk wrapped around the wall, covered in notes and chemicals. Other shelves and cabinets littered the walls, filled with chemicals of all kinds. Piro Piro Piro. Who's there? Coby demanded, his swords following the sound. On a ledge above them sat a clown. Impressive, Indigo complimented. I wasn't expecting anyone for several more minutes. Not after I lost that green-haired swordsman in the halls. Are you Shiki's head scientist? Chopper asked. Indeed I am, Dr. Indigo, at your service. Give us the cure for Daft, now, Grace ordered. Oh, you mean this? Indigo pulled a tiny vial of purple fluid from his coat before throwing it behind him. Oops, my finger slipped. Piro Piro Piro. Bastard, Coby growled. Usopp, Coby, Chopper muttered. Take care of him. Grace and I will synthesize a cure from his notes. Right. Gunpowder star. Usopp's pellet covered the area Indigo had just occupied, the clown flipping away from the smoke. Adrenaline amber, Grace whispered, marking her design on Coby's neck. Let's go, Doc, Coby growled, shifting into his hybrid form. 5-point style. Meteor swords. The clown dodged again, Coby and Usopp corralling him out of the room and away from Chopper, Grace, and Nami and into the greenhouse. 72 caliber Phoenix. Chemical juggling. Indigo cried, intercepting the flying slashes with will-o'-the-wisps of green flame with a purple center. Watch it, you oafs. These IQ plants have more worth than your pathetic sea. Oh really? Usopp smirked, grabbing a nearby IQ plant. IQ star. No, Indigo cried, trying to catch the plants he could. They were moving too fast, however, and the majority splattered on the walls and floor. Eyeing the ruined plants, the clown's form trembled. You know, what's one greenhouse in the grand scheme of killing UBAFOONS? Chemical juggling? The same will-o'-the-wisps from before grew from Indigo's gloves, forming an arc over his head before the Mad Doctor launched them at the pirates. Coby and Usopp tried to intercept, but there were just too many, the chemical balls exploding. Green fire licked at the tables and plants just outside the smoke. Ha! Let's see you survive the power of my chemical fruit, East Blue Trash, Piro. Cretaceous charge. Gah! Indigo jumped at the yell, reacting as quickly as he could to the charging Triceratops coming for him. Mass juggling flame. A massive flame grew from the clown's hands too quickly for Coby to dodge, not that he would have had anywhere to turn in the aisle between tables. The attack exploded underneath him, launching the ancient zone to his left side and into a table of juiced IQ while sending his swords in the opposite direction. One down, several to go. Coby! Usopp yelled, you bastard, Firebird Star. The battle between Usopp and Indigo reached Coby in a muffled haze through the ringing in his ears. He felt heavier than he was used to. Carefully, the zone lifted one hand to rub his head, but was surprised to find that he didn't touch skin or scales, but flat horn. Trying to shake the dizziness away, Coby turned, catching a glimpse of himself in the glass. He gained weight, his form a squatter version of his hybrid mode. Bone plates now ran along the outsides of his arms and legs and down the entirety of his back like armor, leaving his front bare. The bone plates on his back sported dozens of small spines that promised traction and pain. The most notable change was in his face, his forehead horns now bending to frame his face while the horn on his nose was flat, shaped up toward his forehead and over his cheekbones like a mask. More bone grew over his crown, its edges rough and dangerous. Finally, his tail had grown 4 spikes, 2 on each side. All in all, he now looked like a cross between a Triceratops, an Ankylosaurus, and a tank. I don't know what the hell just happened, Coby rumbled, his voice deeper than he was used to, but I don't really care. Like Zoro-sensei says, trust your gut. I'll call this armor mode. Rolling tank. Indigo was so focused on Usopp, he was unprepared to be bowled over by a spinning ball of bone and meat, Coby's new form steamrolling over him and plowing into the opposite wall. That might have been a bad idea, the Rosette groaned, upside down with his back stuck in the concrete. Mother of Mercury, Indigo swore, pushing himself to his feet. What? Oh I see, how interesting. You want to tell us what's going on? Usopp asked. Why ever not? The clown laughed. You'll be dead soon anyway. It seems the IQ reacts with the animal DNA present in zone fruits, causing the user to mutate like the animals of these islands. Fascinating. I wonder if it affects the user only or the fruit itself. His eyes narrowed. I'll keep you for future study. Like hell you will, Coby and Usopp yelled. Coby tried to change form to free himself for the wall, and he did, but he was unfamiliar with the form he became. His next form was taller than the previous, rivaling Brook in height. While tall, his limbs became shorter and wider, thin upper arms leading to buff lower arms and hands with thick, clawed fingers. His horns now twisted clockwise, obscuring some of his vision as their points met in front of his forehead. His tail was now wide and flat and his crown covered the top of his head like a helmet. Drill mode, spiral horn. Using his jump and spin maneuver perfected over months of practice with his 5-point style, Coby threw himself at Shiki's right-hand man. Indigo tried to block the zone, a thick, gelatinous mix of chemicals ballooning out of his gloves, but Coby's twisted horns drilled through the defense and bloodied the doctor's hands before he could jump away. What a pain in the ass, Indigo muttered, tossing his red-stained gloves away and pulling out an orange vial. The clown splashed its contents over his hands, the solution closing and healing his wounds instantly before he pulled on a fresh pair of gloves. Now. Firebird Star. I'd almost forgotten about you, Indigo scowled, Usopp's attack exploding against a ball of chemical fire. The resulting smoke cleared to show Indigo pointing at Usopp. Magnesium firework. An arrow of fire launched from the scientist's finger, flying at the sniper with a sparkling wee. Upon contact, the arrow exploded into its namesake. Usopp felt his skin burning as the force launched him backward. Indigo only had time to smirk before having to jump away from Coby's raking claws. Chemical juggling. Carving paw. Moving as fast as he could, Coby used his claws to slice or redirect the chemical spheres, more than a few slamming into his tough hide. Willing himself to go faster, Coby felt himself change once more. Koby's limbs rapidly thinned, increasing in speed as his claws lengthened. His horns changed once more, the two on his forehead shrinking until they were basically non-existent while the other grew thin like a needle. His body became lithe with wiry muscle while long needles of bone grew from his elbows and knees. His tail shifted from flat to long, ending in a painful-looking barb that swished, cutting through the air. His feet narrowed, slicing the ground with LLY. His crown curved backward slightly, covering the top half of his hair. Slasher mode. Prehistoric Ripper. Tensing his legs, Coby shot toward their foe, his nails slashing chemical balls in half as he danced his way around them in mere seconds. Reaching the Golden Lion Pirate, the Rosette brought his claws over the clown's torso, carving 3 cuts across the doctor's chest. Indigo stumbled, one hand idly coming up to feel his own blood. Frowning, the doctor spewed a black chemical that sizzled on the floor, eating away at the tables and concrete while forcing Coby back. So this is it, huh? What a shame. I was so looking forward to seeing Captain Shiki rule the world. Chemical juggling. Hydrogen death. Raising his hands, Indigo began gathering his attack. A ball of blue fire that rapidly expanded, but before it could come to fruition, the pirate felt a chill spread from his heart. Looking down, Indigo saw a scalpel, still quivering, embedded in his chest. Wah! Stay the hell away from my home, Usopp hissed. Indigo's attack, unfinished, dissipated into the surrounding air as the doctor fell to his knees. I'm sorry, Captain Shiki. Indigo cried, a single tear rolling down his cheek. With that, Dr. Indigo closed his eyes for the last time and crumpled. Wow, Coby breathed after a moment. How are you holding up, Usopp? Coby turned to see the sniper with his face buried in a nearly empty bag of potting soil, retching. Coby couldn't blame him. This was probably the first time Usopp had aimed to kill. That's it, Chopper and Grace yelled from the upper room. Coby's new form scaled the stairs in less than a second, reaching the doorway as Chopper tipped a vial's contents into Nami's mouth. Almost immediately, her breathing eased and her eyes opened. You did it, the Rosette smiled, Grace tensing at the sound. I knew you could. The girl turned to see Coby as his slasher mode faded into his human form. You're the one that bought us the time we needed, the redhead deflected, her cheeks rosy. And I'd do it again 1,000 times, dinosauric dork. I'm so glad Luffy and I skipped the flirting stage. Nami, the teens all dog-piled the poor navigator as Usopp hobbled into the room. Easy, easy, she pleaded. Not so tight. The fighting continued to rage throughout the palace, the animals of Marivel adding another layer of chaos. The bodies of slain pirates and animals littered the compound, though none belonged to the members of a certain East Blue crew. Robin coughed as the paralyzing powder of the giant moths she'd just killed started to override her motor functions. Shit, she hissed, her arms going numb. I need to find someone. Something massive crashed behind her, Robin just managing to turn as Shiki's gorilla came into her view. Snatching her up in one paw, the gorilla punched his way out of the room and into the snowstorm outside. Kya-ha-ha-ha. Amy laughed, her umbrella deflecting bullets and swords alike. Now this is a party. You're telling me, Jin laughed, bashing in another pirate's face and shocking their heart into cardiac arrest. Yo-ho-ho. Indeed, all this excitement rattles my bones. Three-mast galleon. Mary backflipped away from her now unconscious foe, completing the back-to-back square of pirates as their opponents surrounded them once more. Channeling her inner Jin and Luffy, Mary cracked her knuckles. Let's show these mooks who the real bosses are around here. End of chapter 116. High Seas Hijinks. Love is in the Paint, Part 2. Set after Skypia, Coby had learned early on in his time with the Straw Hat Pirates that crazy was absolutely normal and that everything should be expected. Climbing down from the crow's nest after evening duty, the one thing his did not expect was to see a shorter redhead giggling to herself as if waiting for something. Coby sighed. Who is it this time? Grace jumped, having not heard him approach. Despite her face trying to match her hat in shade of pink, the girl smirked around a rice cracker. Let's just say our dear captain might be down a shirt. Oh no. Closing his eyes for a second and sending a silent prayer to the one true Goda for mercy, the Zone turned toward the figurehead where his rubber captain was staring out over the sea, blissfully unaware of the pink paint that stained the back of his shirt. As Coby watched, his teacher began a slow trek toward the teen. No, Zoro-sensei, don't. Oi, Luffy, Zoro called, not noticing or not caring about the paint. The witch, I mean, your girlfriend's yelling for you. Oh, thanks, Zoro. Luffy seemed to turn in slow motion. Coby almost tried to shrink into himself in preparation while Grace got more excited at the idea of the upcoming chaos. Luffy's eyes landed on Zoro. And nothing happened. One could tell the paint was having some effect by the way the captain slid off Mary's figure rather than jumping or bouncing, but his only showing for any affection toward the swordsman was a slightly uncharacteristic pat on his arm. Luffy strode across the deck without his usual boosiness, patting or side-hugging every crew member he passed. Reaching the two younger teens, each of Luffy's rubber arms wrapped around each one, pulling them into his sides. "I love you guys," Luffy mumbled. "You're the best nakama I could have asked for." Releasing them after one more squeeze, the captain turned around and started up toward the upper deck. "Is it just me?" Jin began with a waver in his voice, "or is Luffy acting weird?" Luffy's always been touchy-feely, Usopp waved off, his chemistry set spread out before him. "Not that I'm for your scheme, Grace," Coby began, "but are you sure you mixed that paint right?" "I'm certain," Grace answered with a cute pout, digging a list out of her pocket and checking over it. "And I added extra endorphins because it was Luffy, but why doesn't it have any effect?" "Oh, my beautiful Melorienes," Sanji sang, exiting the kitchen with a platter of desserts. "I made you all something special from the bottom of my heart." "Why thank you, Mr. Cook," Robin said, taking the snack from the blonde. Next to her, Amy reached for her own. "I believe Ms. Navigator is somewhere on the upper deck." "Thank you, Robin dearest." Sanji noodled toward the stairs only to freeze a second before reaching the first step. Nami's voice echoed across the ship. "No, Luffy. We can't do that here. Wait, what?" Nearly everyone floundered, a puff of purple smoke engulfing Usopp's head as he dropped his chemicals. His coughing echoed across the silent deck. "Come on, Nami," Luffy's voice whined. "Just real quick." "No, Luffy. Last time you couldn't control yourself and almost damaged the trees." "We won't get too wild," the captain argued. "You don't like being pressed against stuff anyways, we'll stay away from the trees." "What does that bastard think he's doing?" Sanji demanded, taking only one step before Jin had him pinned in a full Nelson. Sanji still impossibly balancing his tray. His visible eye caught fire, threatening to burn his hair. "Let me at him, I'll teach him some manners." "I said no," Nami stated. "You might usually be on the bottom, but you can't control your arms. You'll still hit the trees. Then pin them like you did last time." "Oh Goda." Zoro's face heated up in a rare showing of emotion, this time embarrassment. "Are they talking about?" "So it seems," Amy chuckled over Robin's quiet laughter. "I knew Luffy was a bottom." "That's not the issue here," Coby complained. Grace still as a statue beside him with her eyes as wide as saucers. This prank had spiraled way too far. "Come on, Nami." Now the crew could hear the pouty face Luffy had to have. "We haven't fed each other tangerines since after that rainbow fog stuff." "Rainbow mist," Nami corrected, "and none of these tangerines are ripe yet." Usopp blinked. "Wait, so they aren't talking about that?" "It appears not," Robin waved off. "My apologies, Ms. Goldenweek. It seems your love paint does not affect the captain the way you had intended." I just wanted to mess with the captain. I didn't think things would get that awkward." "In what world does eating tangerines involve being on the bottom and pinning arms?" Usopp demanded. "At least it wasn't me this time," Jin commented, rubbing his forehead. "Ah, come on, Jin," Amy teased. "I thought you and Sanji looked cute together." "We don't speak of that." Both Jin and Sanji roared in tandem, Zoro letting out a bark of laughter. "At least you can improve," Coby tried, awkwardly trying to console the redhead. "I'd rather not," Grace responded as pleased moans started making themselves known from somewhere in the trees. It appeared Nami had found a ripe fruit and Luffy got his way. At least, Grace hoped that was the case. "I think I'll forget about Pink for a while." "Yo-ho-ho-ho," Brook laughed, dancing through ranks of enemy pirates. Bullets and swords tore at his suit, but no damage marred his flesh. Because he didn't have any. Even so, these poor pirates were no match for the 4 straw hats that stood their ground in what had been the meeting room. "Thunder wave," Jin yelled, crashing his tonfa together. The resulting pressure wave was, as Frankie would have put it, super effective, charged with electricity, paralyzing more than a dozen pirates that had charged him. "Rubble bullets," Amy cried, covering the man's back. The rubble she had picked up and thrown absorbed the air around it, gaining 150 kilograms before impacting a trio of pirates like buckshot, throwing them across the room. "You don't need to cover my back," Jin reminded her, only half focusing on the woman whose sword he blocked. "Attacks go right through me." Amy placed herself back to back with the logia, facing away so he couldn't see her red face. "What? I can't protect my crewmate, now?" she questioned, opening her parasol to block a barrage of gunshots. "Dense shield." That's not what I said at all." Pushing the blocked sword up, the electric devil bashed his opponent in the side with his gold-plated weapons. "Don't put words in my mouth." "Yeah," Mary agreed, an unconscious Mook trapped in her rope having become an improvised flail. "Just put your tongue in it and save us all the drama." "Mary," the two yelled. A bullet passed through Jin's face, but he was too shocked to notice. "Bahahaha. Yo-ho-ho-ho," Brook laughed, cutting his way back over. "Shall I play a ballad for you too? Maybe, Here Comes the Bride," he asked, aiming an invisible wink at the female of the pair. "I think you should start a funeral dirge," the new voice commented. The few low-level pirates that remained parted for a trio, 2 men and a woman. Their presence outshone any of their previous enemies that night. The man who spoke was bald, scars littering his skin. Muscle bulged from under his suit and a battle axe poked out from behind his back. "And who are you?" Amy asked, using the tip of her parasol to carve a trench in the floor as a show of power. "We're your opponents," the woman rumbled. She was heavy-set in a pink dress. The word love was tattooed across her forehead with the O X'd out. Framing this and her rough face spilled curly, purple hair. In her hand she brandished a giant warhammer. "They call me Hammerfall Guarine. I've got a bounty of 45 million. She speaks the truth, the other man smiled, holding a rose up to his lips. He was incredibly handsome with wavy, light blue hair and emerald eyes. His suit was a fashionable red and black tuxedo with long coattails. He bowed with a flourish and a wink. "Please. The Marines call me Razor Petal Hanabira. My sharp wit has earned me a bounty of 61 million. And I'm Minos the Raging Bull," the first man said, the top half of his body shifting into a black bull with massive arms and deadly horns. 40 million. Oh, can I do our introductions?" Mary asked, bouncing on the balls of her feet. "Please?" "Sure, whatever," Jin waved off. "Yes," Mary cheered before striking a pose with 2 fingers held up in a V. "First off, I'm Ghost Ship going Mary worth 15 million. The skeleton behind me is the humming swordsman Brooke worth 33 million. The beautiful blonde you see is worth 28 million to the government, Miss Weightless Woman Amy. And the big man of the room, in more ways than one." "Mary," Jin flushed. "What the hell? Is our very own electric devil Jin with a bounty of 100 million, she finished. "And Jin, I know everything about everyone from before Eni's lobby. For instance, I know that Amy keeps a V." "Shut your mouth or I'll shut it permanently," the blonde growled, grabbing the Klabouterman before she could react. "Besides the logia, this'll be a piece of cake," Guarine chuckled. "I'll take the squirt and the skeleton. Minos, get the girl. Hanabira, get baggy eyes. We'll join you when we finish." "You sound pretty confident," Jin stated, sparks crackling over his tonfa. "Let's show these bastards why we're going to be the crew of the Pirate King." "Moo," Minos roared, charging the group. They jumped, separating to avoid the zone while Jin shot at him with finger guns. The condensed lightning bullets bounced off the bull's tough skin as he skidded to a stop, turned, and charged Amy. Razor petals. Jin jumped instinctively as rigid rose petals stabbed into the ground where he had been standing. He looked up to see Hanabira approaching him, his rose looking much more solid. "I shall be your foe. Let us see if you can overcome the powers of my sharp fruit." "Yo-ho-ho," Brooke chuckled, taking a battle stance. "That leaves us, mademoiselle. We're gonna kick your ass." Mary rushed the woman who swung her hammer. Mary smirked as the weapon reached her, destabilizing into her heart just as the weapon hit. For all intents, it appeared as if the hammer went through her head before the Klabouterman reformed. Battering ram. Mary's smirk died slowly as she registered pain from her horns. It felt like she had headbutted a brick wall. A hand grabbed one of her horns, lifting the girl up until she was eye to eye with the woman. "I'll finish you off first, annoying brat." A Dubade right hand strike. Brooke cut in, his flying stab forcing Guarine to release his youngest crewmate. "You need to be more careful than that, Mary. Do try to bring out more Robin next time." "Sorry, Brooke," the Klabouterman muttered sheepishly. She turned back to their opponent, her entire countenance shifting. Copying Chopper, Mary brought her hands up so she could see Guarine through her pointer fingers and thumbs. Analyze. "Yo-ho-ho. Have it thee." Brooke launched forward, his cane sword being intercepted by the woman's hammer before it could reach her neck. "You're strong for having no muscle," she grunted, shoving his sword away. Brooke stepped back, the wind from her weapon sending his afro into a frenzy. Bone crush. "Oh my." The skeleton jumped, dodging her powerful swings with his lighter form. "That could knock the breath out of me. If I had to breathe." "Yo-ho-ho," skull joke. Her style focuses mostly on offense, Mary muttered to herself, but her weapon's pole has plenty of scratches from defense. It's almost overbalanced, but she counters that with her thick skin. The best way to counter her would be to tie her up so she can't use her strength or cut her ligaments so she can't move. Taking a breath, Mary jumped backward as Minos tried to steamroll her. "Your fight is with me, bullshit," Amy yelled, flying past Mary in the bullzone's wake. 5,000 kilogram kick. I am." Amy, Mary cheered before charging Guarine as she caught Brooke in the sternum. She launched the musician away as Mary fell into a baseball skid, sliding under her while weaving rope around her ankles. Grabbing the ropes so they would pull taut, the ship girl reversed her momentum into a kick to the woman's head. The pirate captain tried to stumble, but it was a vain attempt with her feet being yanked the other way. Timber. "Cheeky bra." Hammerfall Gorin hit the matted floor with a thump. Grabbing her weapon and pulling her legs up, the pirate twisted, smacking Mary before she could react. Brooke snatched the Klabouterman out of the air, spinning her momentum away. "Damn it, that's becoming a habit," the girl frowned. "Yo-ho-ho, then you need to stop getting thrown. It's not my fault I'm small." "Why don't we attack together, Mary?" Brooke offered as Gorin tore apart the ropes holding her. She's dangerous to us alone. Her last attack knocked me out of my body. Literally. I'll take the right, you take the left. Works for me. As one unit, Mary and Brooke moved to form a pincer maneuver. Woven whips. Gavotte leaped forward. Thorn throw. Mary and Brooke cut off their attacks as massive thorns missed them by a hair's breadth. Jin materialized next to them, blood leaking from a wound hidden in his hair. His opponent, Hanabira, landed next to Guaber's sword as sharp as a real one in hand. "How are you faring, Lady Guarine?" the sharpening man asked, flicking Jin's blood from the sword. "Fucking peachy," she grunted, the two of them the antithesis of each other. "You okay, Jin?" Mary questioned. "I've had worse," he answered, though not since eating my fruit. "As you can see," Hanabira bragged, running a finger along the flat of his blade with the sound of a whetstone. "My powers allow me to sharpen anything into a fine point or blade. My study of such weapons has been extensive. Uncouth bludgeoning weapons are simply no match against me." "Who you calling uncouth, bastard?" his female ally growled. "Certainly not a beauty like yourself," Hanabira answered. "I'm simply saying that the only one of these pirates who could hope to best me is the undead swordsman, but his bounty is far lower than my own." "I say, you have much more class than any of the animals here on this island," Brooke complimented, "your companions included." "I'll grind your bones into bread," Guarine muttered darkly. Felling hammer. Rushing in, the woman swung her hammer at the three straw hats. Brooke leapt over the weapon while Mary ducked. Jin tried to phase around the blow, but was in for a nasty surprise when the attack blew him away. "I fought enough devil fruit users to know to set seed prism stone into my weapons, moron." "Oh, Jin grumbled, just having enough awareness of his surroundings to flip over minnows as he sped past, electrocuting him through his thick skin. 10,000 kilogram press. Amy yelled, cratering the floor between Guarine and Hanabira. The two pirates just managed to get out of the way before her parasol struck Guarine in the side, batting her away. Amy followed, yelling, "Back off." Brooke and Mary glanced at each other from the corners of their eyes. Or Mary got the feeling Brooke did the same thing she did. They shrugged together. "I suppose we are your foes at the moment," Brooke announced, running toward the man. Hanabira did not answer, swinging his rose. A half dozen of the flower's petals detached, soaring toward the skeleton. Brooke leapt to the side, several volleys of these sharpened flora coming for him as he approached. Gavotte forward leap. Hanabira raised his sword, the weapon parrying Brooke's jab. He stepped backwards, hastily avoiding the undead swordplay. "Your bounty may be higher than my own," Brooke intoned, keeping the young man's eyes on him, "but I've had almost 90 years to perfect my swordplay." Sensing an opportunity, Hanabira slashed, his sword separating Brooke's skull from his neck. As the skeleton's form slumped, Mary appeared just behind it, catching the flesh and blood pirate wide open. "Sinking axe," Mary shouted, coming out of a front flip. Her extended heel caught her foe in the collarbone, crumpling him. He opened his eyes painfully, now on the floor. "Yo-ho-ho-ho." Brooke's skull laughed in front of him, a dangerous gleam in his eye socket. "Farewell." Hanabira's eyes widened as a coldness grew from his stomach. He began to black out as Brooke removed his sword from the man's back, blood pooling under him. Mary picked up Brooke's skull as the musician's body wiped the blood from his sword. "The Zoro inside me says that was dishonorable," the Klabouterman sighed, handing him his head. "The Robin, Usopp, and Mrs. Nami and me are cheering." "'Twas not a fatal blow," Brooke waved off, replacing his skull. "Not if he has any willpower, that is. Shall we assist our companions?" "Go help Jin with the Minotaur. I'll end the catfight over there." "Where the hell did that clown go?" Zoro demanded, rounding a corner into the middle of a long stretch of corridor with no door or hallway behind him. The snowstorm that raged outside the castle blew his short hair. Sensing something was off, the unmistakable grunting and howls of a gorilla reached him a second later. Taking a couple steps to the railing in front of him, Zoro took in the courtyard and the tower just beyond. "Oh, like hell you're going to marry Robin. You damn dirty ape," Sanji roared from the courtyard, fires of passion melting the snow around him. Zoro followed his eyes to see a pink gorilla on top of the tower, Robin clutched in one hand. The swordsman's eyes narrowed, silently agreeing with the chef. "Help!" Robin got out, still paralyzed from her battle with the giant moths. Said chef, still burning, took to a length of rope tying the center of the tower to an unloading point on the ground. A baboon wielding a pair of nunchucks tried to slide down the rope, but was cut in half by Zoro's .32 caliber Phoenix before it could get far. Sanji entered the tower, lights flashing from the windows marking his progress upward. The cook exploded from the top of the tower in a spray of rubble, his fire-wrapped leg on a course with the gorilla. The gorilla's empty fist came up attempting to block the pirate, but it was unprepared for the red-hot kick that burned and broke its middle finger. "OOHH," the gorilla cried, reeling. Sanji spun overhead, building momentum. "Kansase," the chef yelled, bringing his leg down on the gorilla's face. The ape crashed through the ceiling of the tower and through every level of stairs before coming to rest on the ground floor. Robin, having been released from the monkey's hold as soon as the final blow was struck, still had trouble moving on account of the moth's paralysis. "I've got you, Robin Schwan," Sanji called, leaping from the tower to catch the woman in midair, only for her to vanish. "You good, Robin?" Zoro asked from the grass, holding her in a princess carry. "Yes, thank you, Mr. Swordsman." "Zoro, you bastard," the blonde spit out before falling to the ground in a poor, undignified heap. The snow around him melted and steamed. "Oh dear," Robin giggled, allowing Zoro to help her stand. "I wonder what is bothering him." "Shitty mosshead," she cook cried. "Everyone get inside." Nami's voice ordered, dragging their attention to the railing where the navigator and those who had been sent to look for her stood. "There's going to be a cyclone and I'm going to direct this ship straight into it. You're really getting on my last nerves," Shiki frowned, eyeing the beheaded rookie before him. Steam refracted the pink gloss of Luffy's skin as second gear continued to speed up his blood flow. "Why don't you keel over like a good little dog and die?" "Because you threatened my home, my crew, and my wife," Luffy answered. "For that insult, you'll pay with your life." "Gee ha ha ha. You fool. We are in completely different classes." Bringing up his hands, Shiki's arms began to reflect the pink shine as they were covered in a black substance. "You should feel honored, Straw Hat. I'm breaking an oath from long ago just for you. I vowed to never use haki on an opponent so far beneath me, much less a single pirate from paradise, but you seem to be an exception for far too much." Blah blah blah, Luffy waved, eyes shadowed by his hat. Was Shiki seeing things, or was the snow bending around him? "Can we get on with this? I want to kill you before going home and sleeping with my wife." "You insolent worm," Shiki shouted, insulted. "Lion's threat, Imperial Lions." "Let's go, Billy," Luffy yelled, the giga-fowl swooping low for the team to grab on just before the snow lions could impact. Shiki growled and gave chase, hovering behind the rookie and bird as they tried to run. With that, their fight became an aerial battle covering the entire island. Jet pistol. Slashing waves. Luffy's attack struck home, driving the older pirate into and through a floating plateau. The raven-haired pirate had no chance to capitalize on it, however, his mount taking evasive maneuvers to dodge the flying slashes Shiki had kicked at them, said slashed proving their edge by cleanly cutting though some floating island debris. "Go, Billy. Let's see if lightning works." Wah, the giga-fowl banked, approaching Shiki as the floating pirate exploded from the rock. Billy launched a bolt of electricity toward the ruler of the floating islands, but the man backhanded the attack with his black-clad hand, the act taking them by surprise. Luffy was unprepared for the blonde to launch himself toward them, grabbing Luffy by the throat and pulling him from Billy's back. Shiki turned, slamming Straw Hat into the rocks beside them. "Your power is nothing against mine," the older man hissed, the younger clawing at the hand choking him. He couldn't move his throat, Shiki's hand cutting off Luffy's breath like it would any other person. "I will take everything you love. It's a shame you won't be alive to see it." Luffy's eyes hardened, black lightning sprouting from his fingers as he began to pry Shiki's hands away. He managed a good breath before the legend's hold redoubled. "Oh no you don't, Straw Hat. I want to watch the hope leave your eyes right here." Wah! Shiki did not expect the electric shock or the 200-pound bird that slammed into his back. Luffy, being immune to electricity, took full advantage of his foe's loss of focus, pulling one of Shiki's hands away while the other grabbed the steering wheel stuck in the man's head and twisted. Finally free, Luffy went into freefall before Billy caught him, soaring a good distance before Shiki recovered. "Stupid guitar," said Pirate growled as he began to give chase once more, exchanging long-range attacks with the East Blue native and his mount. Billy flew like a giant, mutated bird possessed, leading Shiki toward the edge of the island before banking around the floating waters. Slashing wave, Shiki shouted, his attack cutting several tons of water from the rest of the foe ocean. Taking control of that, the older pirate let a superior smirk spread over his face. Billy had no time to dodge, the liquid breaking into cubes that dwarfed the fighters before condensing on top of him. Shiki watched, grinning, as his opponents struggled within the water, Luffy's second gear ending. "That must be a pretty miserable death for a devil fruit user," Shiki laughed. "Don't worry, I'll make sure your wife and friends join you soon enough. If they aren't dead already. Maybe I'll keep one or two of them for myself, for testing purposes, of course. Gee ha ha ha. Bada bada bad up. Bada 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 bad up, bada calic." Navigation to Captain Shiki. The voice of the man's head navigator yelled through the snail in the captain's hand. "Come in, Captain, it's urgent." "What is it, Captain Shiki?" "There's a cyclone coming in. We need to turn toward the east." Shiki turned, gazing out in the direction his navigator had given. "An afro?" Shiki gaped, the black clouds growing in the distance. "No, Captain, a cyclone. Just what I needed," the pirate sighed, hanging up the snail. Taking his time, The pirate turned the islands toward the east as his prisoner starting to suffocate in the watery trap. I don't have the time to watch you drown, unfortunately. Farewell, boy. Kicking with his swords, the legendary pirate sent a dozen flying slashes into the liquid prison. Luffy had just enough wherewithal to grab Billy as the attack tore through the water, falling to an island below with a silent scream. Shiki laughed at the immobile form of Straw Hat Luffy below, the Gigafowl grieving for him until a strong wind pulled at his clothing. Turning east, storm clouds began to swirl. Concerned, the legendary pirate flew back toward his palace. It was silent for only a minute, the howling winds filling the void between floating islands. Hey, Billy, Luffy grunted. Can you still fly? Wah? That's what I like to hear, the captain nodded, forcing himself to stand with a battle cry. That bastard is going to pay. Let's go catch him with his guard down, flying upwards. The pair passed Shiki in a dozen seconds, disappearing into the storm clouds. He's still alive, the old pirate snarled. He moved to give chase. Shiki! Nami's voice interrupted him. He turned, finding her clinging to the lightning rod of his palace. Most of her crewmates called her name from below worriedly. Give it up. You can't win against us. Nami, Luffy gaped. What the hell are you doing? Get somewhere safe. Shut up, Luffy. I have just as much right to protect you as you do me. Nami, Chopper and Coby yelled from below. The dynamite's all set. Dynamite? Shiki gasped. You placed dynamite? That's right, Nami answered, stabilizing herself against the wind with her cleam attacked. The palace, the lab, the whole island, too. We'll blow it all to hell. Your plans are over, give up. Don't fuck with me, Shiki roared, raising 2 mountains from either side of the island. I spent 20 years on this plan, far too fucking long for it to be destroyed by one tiny, pitiful, weak crew from the motherfucking East Blue. Shiki pulled his hands together, the floating chunks of rock doing the same. Billy, get Nami, Luffy ordered, jumping off the bird. The Gigafowl swooped in, grabbing the navigator a fraction of a second before the earth could crush her. The miniature mountains shattered, raining dust and rock on the fleeing Straw Hat crew members below. Stupid guitar, the blonde snarled. Your fight is with me, Luffy shouted. Third gear. Bone balloon, blowing air into his arm. Luffy transferred that air into his leg and flipped, raising it into the clouds. Down on the ground, his crew fired every electrical charge they could into the clouds around him while running to their ship. The hell? Shiki blinked, surprised by the absurdity of the situation. Didn't I kill you? Just die already? I'm not the one who's gonna die here, Shiki. This is what you get for threatening my home, my crew, and my wife. Luffy's foot began its descent, lightning striking it. A black substance of some sort, something Luffy remembered having been called hockey, grew from the point of the lightning, almost conducting the charge until it covered his leg. I am the most powerful person in the world, Shiki denied. You can't beat me, raising lances of earth from the island below. Shiki covered them with his own hockey and launched them at the descending kick in a continuous stream of earth and spears. The dirt did little more than spark, break-in attack failing. Shiki tried to protect himself by raising an entire slab from the ground below as a shield. Elephant Thor axe. Luffy roared. Not like this. Roger. Shiki screamed as the foot smashed through the old pirate's defenses, driving him into the island which shattered under the force. The Sunny launched with a coup de burst as the cracks in the ground spread beneath the ship, simultaneously activating the dynamite spread throughout Shiki's palace. Luffy panted, losing his third gear as the buildings and island below exploded. Mushroom clouds of orange, green, purple, and every other rainbow of colors bloomed from the buildings, the chemicals within riding the dynamite's shockwaves. Unable to control his descent, Luffy vanished into the colored clouds. Billy took to the air, leaving the Sunny and the pirates calling his name behind as he flew into the dust cloud colored with the chemicals and antidotes from Indigo's factory. The thousand Sunny floated, Shiki's flag having become nothing but a parachute to hold it aloft as massive chunks of island rubble rained around it. All was still. Finally, after a minute of quiet, Billy appeared from the cloud, Luffy's tiny form perched on his back. That's what I'm talking about, Frankie cheered, Usopp and Mary spinning beside him. Thank goodness I'm the only dead one here, Brook cried, clasping Chopper's hooves in his hands. Chopper nodded through his happy tears. I can't believe we pulled it off, Amy shouted, grabbing Jin and kissing him without thinking about it. She didn't seem to realize what she'd done, releasing his static Y form and cheering. Jin crashed to the deck, static pulsing over his form in time with his heartbeat. Coby slumped against the railing, Grace falling next to him. Both of them were asleep before their heads hit anything to rest on, namely each other. He did it, Usopp yelled, throwing and catching Mary like a father with their child. He saved everyone in the East Blue. He still looks stupid like that, though, Sanji muttered around a cigarette and a smile. Yeah, Nami whispered, tears running down her face, as Billy landed with the sleeping form of their captain. Yeah, he does. Mrs. Nami? Mary asked, hugging Billy's neck, can we keep him? Nobody noticed the form of Shiki as his unconscious body sank beneath the waves far below. Nor did they see any of his followers unfortunate enough to fall from the crumbling island and join him. Without Shiki's powers to hold them aloft, the islands began to fall, plummeting toward the sea below. "What about Shao?" Chopper gasped. "I think you'll find your answer up there," Robin smiled, pointing to a flock of humans with feathers on their arms. The people were flying, dancing through the air in celebration. The IQ in the explosion must have finished their evolution, Chopper breathed, more to himself than anything. "Amazing," Nami sighed, collapsing into the furry doctor. Nami, down below, the islands finally reached the sea, churning the ocean into a watery hell of massive waves as the islands settled into place. A fleet of marine ships watched the spectacle, many of their brigs already full of the pirates that had tried to run. "That's the Straw Hat Pirates," one of the vice admirals yelled, pointing to the descending ship. "Prepare to fire, capture them." Try as the Marines did, the Straw Hats slipped from their fingers, much to the lament of both the Marines and their prisoners. Chopper cleared Nami from bed rest a couple days later, though he told the others she was still weak from some lingering daft green particles. She emerged onto the deck from the doctor's office clad in one of Luffy's oversized shirts. Production of a nest for Billy slowed to a stop as the younger members of the crew swarmed her, asking how she was. "I'm fine," the navigator insisted, brushing Coby, Grace, and Mary off. "Honest. I feel great." Sensing something, the younger members parted as Luffy approached them. "Hey," he said, holding out her wedding band and baby Den Den. "I think you dropped these." Taking her hand, the captain gently replaced them on her ring finger and wrist. Nami just couldn't help herself, jumping into his arms and kissing him like the world depended on it. The rest of the crew smiled as he swung her around. This was one more victory toward their goal of making Luffy the king of the pirates. "Damn," Fleet Admiral Sengoku hissed, lacing his fingers before his mouth. "We didn't make a single difference, did we?" "Nope," Vice Admiral Garp grinned, crunching on a rice cracker. "My grandson handled it, though. What do you think? Is this enough to offer him that position?" "I doubt he'll accept," Sengoku growled back, glaring at the crumbs his friend was leaving behind. "Or even answer. You realize him turning the invitation down will result in the raising of some of his crew's bounties, correct? Not the supernovas, but some of the others like his wife at least." "Bah, he'd see either way as a good thing. Garp, this is the last time I indulge your fantasies of your grandkids becoming Marines. Both of them have proven to be too much of a thorn in the Marines' collective ass, just like your son. As I see it, either he accepts and we get rid of Moria, or he refuses, nothing changes, and we're still stuck with that shaped gecko. I will offer Straw Hat 2 chances before Portgas D-Ace's execution." Garp frowned. "So you're really going through with it?" "Yes," Sengoku replied, stamping a message and sending it away. "I am." It was a sunny day on the Grand Line, the waves around the ship nothing but a calm, undulating blue. Most of the crew were spread out along the grassy deck, amusing themselves with training or pleasure activities. The only crew members unaccounted for were the captain and navigator, the navigator having never shown up since the storm that night and the captain claiming he was feeling sick and needed a nap. This was the worst excuse many of the crew had ever heard, but he never told them the truth before disappearing. Either way, the weather was much too nice to be holed up indoors. Zoro, Jin, Sanji, Mary, and, surprisingly, Usopp found something to do in a free-for-all battle royal on the grass, focusing on hand-to-hand or hand-to-foot combat. By the looks of things, Sanji was winning with Zoro as a close second. Usopp continued yelling about protecting Mary, but gave almost as good as he got with a pair of dial-studded gauntlets to give him a handicap. Brook stayed out of the fighting, playing a swift battle tune on his violin. Off to the side, Coby and Chopper examined Koby's new transformations, studying each one and discussing the possible pros and cons each one offered while comparing them to Chopper's. The Doctor and Grace had stolen Indigo's notes and several IQ plants from the greenhouse where the clown had met his demise, so Coby now cultivated a field of the small bulbs in Robin's flower garden. It was a lucky turn since it appeared he needed them to force his transformation until his body or fruit they weren't sure which adjusted to the mutation. A packet of IQ gummies now bounced against the Rossett's hip. Up on the top deck, Frankie sat beside Billy's nest just within Nami's tangerine orchard. The cyborg putting the finishing touches on a leather saddle strapped to the duck's back. Sure, Billy was comfortable with people riding him without one, but having a saddle meant he could carry provisions, weapons, and ammunition for the rest of the crew. The saddle also came with a pair of steel and copper talons that strapped over Billy's feet, not that he knew how to use them yet. Amy, Robin, and Grace watched the brawl from a trio of deck chairs on the second level, Grace covered in bruises where she had tried to match the fighters with her limited training. Amy had to admit her sister did better than she had been expecting due to Koby's training, admitting as much when the poor girl had been launched from the fight by Mary. Around the artist's neck hung a necklace with a seed on it, an emergency plan for the future. Said seed was from a mutated tangerine Nami had found after their escape from Shiki, though the pirates didn't know if it had been the golden lion's float fruit or something else. Based on its design, they suspected not. Whatever devil fruit it was, it had been extremely colorful with a gray, mushroom-like stem, and the crew had agreed that if any of them needed a power-up, it would be Grace. "Any luck, Miss Valentine?" Robin asked, snapping the blushing blonde out of her staring at a certain logia. "And not yet. They just keep breaking." Amy was not supposed to be idle, a stack of glass cups on a table beside her. Having been inspired by Luffy's third gear and discussed the theory of her powers with Chopper after their defeat of Shiki, Amy was now seeing if her kilo fruit would allow her to not only change the mass of objects, but also alter that mass to change the object's size or shape. She'd had no real luck so far, but had found that trying sometimes resulted in the cup cracking or shattering, or her fingers expanding. She'd come to the conclusion that if she could alter the mass and shape of a brittle substance like glass, other objects would be easier. "Does something feel wrong to you all?" Chopper asked suddenly, his fur standing on end. "I don't feel too good." "I know what you mean," Coby agreed, his animal instincts going haywire. Jin and Mary seemed to pick up on this, calling the fight to an end as the surroundings started to darken. "That doesn't look good," Frankie commented, leaving Billy to hurry to the steering wheel near the front of the ship. "Someone go get Nami, we've got a superstorm coming." "I'll do it," Robin answered as the rest of the crew started preparing the sunny for stormy weather. Allowing herself a little smirk and marking something from her mental bucket list of evil acts, the archaeologist carefully made her way toward the captain's bedroom. "Oh yes, Captain. Yes." Standing outside the bedroom door for a few seconds, or as long as Robin could allow to maximize the unsuspecting spouse's embarrassment, the raven-haired woman quietly knocked on the door and opened it. "Captain. Nami," Robin called with a smirk. "We've more important things to be doing than each other." "Robin," the couple yelled, hastily trying to cover themselves, though Nami found that task a little more difficult from on top of Luffy, wearing only his hat. Robin didn't bat an eye at the situation she had interrupted. "Sorry to interrupt," Robin said, her smirk showing she wasn't sorry in the least. "I'm afraid we have an incoming storm and need our navigator and captain." "Give us a minute," Nami screamed, grabbing Luffy's arm and using its abilities to slam the door. Robin chuckled outside the room as she overheard the couple bantering inside. Luffy bounded out of the doorway first, shirtless, leaping into the storm preparations. Nami exited a second later, only dressed in Luffy's red vest that hung down over her hips, buttoned up to preserve her modesty. "If you say anything about what you saw," she threatened. "I needn't say anything," the older woman waved off. "Everyone already knows. Though based on what I just saw, you're a very lucky bride." "Our Robin, I wonder, can he use his third gear too?" Robin, "Oh, you don't need to worry about me," she laughed, messing with the younger woman. "I'm not going to go after your husband. I've already got my eye on something just as impressive." "Robin," Nami cried, her face glowing. "What? You don't want to know how I know? I can bloom eyes, and he's very—" "For the love of Goda, stop." "Oh fine," the archaeologist mock pouted. "Anyway, the storm?" Her hand waved, indicating the plumes of spinning water that were rising out of the ocean around them. Each one rose out of a whirlpool, spinning so quickly that the water inside was pushed against the flow of gravity, squirming as if alive. This snapped Nami out of her embarrassment, the younger woman bending over the railing. "These look like sea serpent currents," Nami yelled down to the crew. As she watched, Zoro and Coby worked together to slice one of the currents apart, the water crashing down on them in a blob rather than a spiral. Amy and Grace pulled on the steering wheel, but it wouldn't budge under the force of the currents. Chopper clung to the mast, panicking. The magnetic flow of water makes them move as if they're alive, being attracted to ships above water. "That doesn't even make sense," Chopper wailed, weapons left. Lightning shot, 72 caliber Phoenix, cannonball barrage. Sky Dragon Star. Gum Gum Gatling. The crew members with ranged attacks deployed them, beating off the currents as best they could. It was a fine show of teamwork, but it didn't seem like the Sunny was getting anywhere. "Mary, what's our course?" Nami demanded, hopping from the third story to the second over the railing. "West by northwest, Mrs. Nami," the wood fairy called back from the top of the mast, willing the ropes to secure the sails by themselves while she broke currents above her with cannonballs. She was not alone, Billy clinging to the crossbar and ready to fly should she fall. "We aren't moving very fast, though, almost backwards." "Shit," the orange-haired woman hissed. "Sanji, Jin, go get a coup de burst ready. Grace, you're on support. Give everyone a chemical boost. Amy, stay on the wheel and put us in paddleboat mode. Robin, help secure everyone. Everyone else, focus on not letting us flip." The storm raged, the brig sloop inside it stght through the howling wind. It almost sounded like there was something else roaring, too. Something roaring in defiance. "There," Usopp yelled over the wind. "I can see it, the edge of the storm." The sniper's shout filled the spirits of his crewmates, their force against the storm almost doubling until a massive current rose in front of them. "Holy shit. Frankie gaped. That's not good for our current situation, Brooke cried. Get it, current? Amy, just like the knock upstream. Take us up that current. What? Frankie and Brooke gasped, Amy giving a nod to Nami's instruction. Finally wrestling control over the rudder, Amy propelled the Sunny up the rising current, circling the spiral half a dozen times before the top crashed into the ocean, turning the current into an arch with the Sunny on top. Now, coup de burst. Pulling the lever, Amy launched the pirate ship into the air, the thousand Sunny flying over the rest of the sea serpent currents and into the calm waters beyond. The Straw Hat pirates flopped to the deck or leaned on the railing, sopping wet and exhausted. Oh my goda, Usopp huffed. That was almost as bad as the first stretch. Almost, Jin panted. We're more experienced now, that was worse. No kidding, Coby sighed. I still think you all are lying about that. Shut up, Zoro, she. Laughter began to bubble from the captain of the ship, slowly spreading through the crew until every member was shaking in an attempt to breathe right. Gee guys, Mary panted as the laughter subsided, resting against Billy. I can hear her. That last current was enough. Sunny's alive. Ow, what? Frankie yelled. I can't super hear anything. She's so small right now, Mary stated with a smile. It's not much, but she's there. She's like a faint chanting in my head. Nakama, 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 over and over. Sounds like we have a new crew member, Luffy smirked. You know what this calls for? Party? He paused, yawning. Maybe a nap first, then party. Pirates groaned as bright daylight pelted them from above, an evil that had been long gone when the rum has stolen them hours before. The sea was calm in this area of the Grand Line, a sure sign that they were approaching the halfway point. Not being a heavy drinker, Coby was one of the first to wake. Shaking himself out of his groggy stupor, he pulled himself out from under a mumbling grace and tracked down his shirt in short order. He'd only in a couple mugs. He thought. He really wasn't sure. Finding his shirt without too much trouble, Coby turned but jumped away when he came face to face with a bat, the rodent-like flyer offering a message tied to its leg. An easily recognizable seal in red wax shone prominently on the paper. Captain Luffy? The Rosset called over his shoulder, never taking his eyes off the bat. Captain Luffy? Anyone? What is it? Nami demanded from the railing outside her and Luffy's room. Some of us are still getting over that sky rum we had last night. We have a letter. From the Marines. Nami's eyes widened before she hurried back into the room, hauling the still shirtless and half asleep Luffy over the railing. The captain crashed to the deck with a jolt, jumping to his feet. Coby took the letter from the Marine bat, acting as a middleman to not startle his captain more than was necessary. Get up, you lazy bums, Nami yelled, not caring about Coby's worries. We've got important mail. Nami Swan is beautiful when she's insulting us, Sanji noodled from the crow's nest roof. Freaking sea witch, Zoro grumbled from underneath Billy in his nest, the rest of the crew pulling their gear together as Luffy read the letter. Well, Frankie questioned, don't super leave us hanging? As does destruction. Luffy began. Wait, I should start over, shouldn't I? Straw Hat Luffy, you hold a powerful reputation in the eyes of both pirates and Marines. Fear and admiration ride your wake, as does destruction. We, the Marines, have chosen to offer you a mutually beneficial deal that will allow you the freedom to fight without the looming threat of the law. If you accept this deal, you will be named one of the 7 warlords of the sea, replacing Gecko Moria. You will be expected to pay a tribute of your plunder to the world government, steal only from pirates, and attend any meetings called. In return, both you and every member of your crew will be granted full immunity from any legal action up to and including execution for past crimes in accordance with your cooperation. The Marines are also willing to offer you any favor, within reason, for your acceptance. We look forward to your answer, Fleet Admiral Sengoku. P.S. You should accept this deal, brat, come visit your dear, old grandpa. Luffy, this is amazing, Nami smiled. They want to make you a warlord. That shows that they respect you, Grace commented. If you take this deal, we would all be safe from the Marines for as long as you did what you were told, but that involves taking orders, Zoro finished. Those meetings would drag us away from our adventures and you'd end up going off without them anyway. If you accept and then leave, they might come down on us harder. What do you think, guys? Luffy asked, turning to his crew. He knew what his answer would have been if it was just him, but some of his crew might want immunity. Is the protection worth becoming dogs of the Navy? Of course not, Robin answered, surprising several members of the crew. Out of everyone, I thought you would be most likely to want this deal, Mary blinked. They would take away my bounty, sure, Robin waved off, but they demand I translate the poneglyphs for them or teach someone to. Besides, I'd never work for the group that destroyed my home. I'd never be able to look my old man in the eye if I worked for the government, Usopp frowned. Having a bounty brings in more fear, Amy smirked. If we accepted, our bounties would never rise and we couldn't do things like Eni's lobby again. Yo-ho-ho, Brooke chuckled, running his bow across the strings of his violin. I suppose we have our answer. Yup, Luffy smiled, taking the pen Nami offered and writing a quick response on the back of the paper. Nami stole the message and pen afterward, translating her husband's writing into readable letters. She then handed the paper to the bat, which promptly took off. "What did you super say?" Frankie asked. I said, Luffy began, as kindly as I could, "Go to hell." The red line loomed above them, the Straw Hats staring at the great landmass with awe. No one spoke for a good while, each speechless in the face of the massive strip of land that split the world in two. Those from the East Blue had seen it before, but they didn't exactly have time to bask in the shadows of the red line when they were sailing over it and dealing with an island whale afterward. For others, they had never seen such a sight, leading every member to dwell on how far they had come. "We've covered half the world," Luffy smirked with a rare show of brainpower. "One more stretch and I'll be the king of the pirates." "Then I'll be the queen of the pirates," Nami smiled beside him, taking his hand in her own as her eyes took on a gleam. "Then we'll be the richest couple in the world and I can map everything. I came to be the world's greatest swordsman," Zoro nodded. "The pirate king deserves no less." "I'll be strong enough to correct every wrong I see," Coby yelled. "I'll be a great warrior worthy of Elbaf and my father. I'll find the all blue. I'll conquer Decida, stole some of my crewmates, with real friends beside me," Jin grinned. "We came from the South Blue 3 years ago as slaves," Amy began. "Now, Grace finished, we're chasing our dreams with reckless abandon, to become the best across the globe. I'm going to find a cure for every disease. I came to this sea 5 years ago from the West Blue," Robin sighed. "I'm halfway to learning the true history. I came over Reverse Mountain when I was just a baby over 30 years ago. Frankie Dream is coming alive beneath us. My ship is going to reach the end of the world. Ow." "Bahaha," Mary laughed. "I'm on the adventure of a lifetime on my own 2 feet. Yo-ho-ho-ho, to feel the sun on my face as I sailed to meet Laboon once more," Brooke smiled. "Not that I have a face anymore. Yo-ho-ho-ho." "Wah," Billy yelled, joining in. "Wah, wait," Coby frowned. Did you just say Laboon?" "Oh, indeed," Brooke nodded. "He's a friend my crew left behind at the start of the Grand Line. We promised to come back for him after our adventure, but I'm all that's left." "That was you?" the East Blue members of the crew and Mary yelled. "What's going on here?" Frankie questioned. "Have you all super met his friend?" "Yeah," Coby spoke up, resting an elbow on Grace's shorter shoulder. His eyes stared into the distance. "We almost sunk running into him. Laboon is an island whale by Reverse Mountain. He's massive and we're lucky Captain Luffy managed to slow us down enough that we only lost Mary's figurehead in the crash." "You're telling me," the Clabouterman scoffed, feeling her choker. "I've got the scar to prove it." Brooke swallowed. "Somehow, you've seen Laboon? How is he?" "He's doing great," Luffy chimed in. "He's giant. He was real lonely when we met, slamming his head into the red line and all that, so I got into a fight with him. After that, I painted our flag on his snout so he couldn't hurt himself anymore and promised to come back and fight him again when I became the Pirate King." "Yo-ho-ho," Brooke chuckled, tears running down his cheekbones. "Is it coincidence your crew saved me, or is it fate that brought us together? Laboon, I'm coming back for you, I promise you." "Sunny's growing," Mary announced. Her chants change. "Nakama, promises, Nakama, promises." When she can talk, those will probably be her main philosophies. Those and naps and raging parties. "I never thought to ask," Robin thought aloud, "but do you have all of our knowledge, or just a mix of our personalities?" "Well, that's a hard question to answer," the Wood Fairy responded with a so-so gesture. "See, I don't have any of your memories, but I have bits of your most prominent knowledge and muscle memory, proportional with how long you were on the crew while I was forming. I've got a lot of East Blue in me, but only a little bit from you, Robin, and Zip from Big Bro Frankie. Maybe an idea of the language of the poneglyphs, but not enough to understand off the bat. I've also got your best physical aspects, like Uncle Usopp's blood pressure and Captain Luffy's immune system. Unfortunately, Chopper put in, you picked up some of our worst traits, too. How Zoro's sense of direction fails to work with some of Robin's intelligence and Nami's navigational skills is a mystery." "Hey," Mary pouted. "I'm not that braced for impact." The Clabouterman hit the deck, some of the faster members finding something to grab before the Sunny rocked. Waves sloshed over the railing, dousing the pirates as a rabid sea king rose off their starboard bow. It growled at the pirates, receiving blank, half-lidded stares in response. "Hey, Zoro, Coby," Luffy said. "I'm hungry. Let's catch lunch." The Sea King started to back away worriedly as the collective stomachs of the whole crew growled in unison, every member realizing they hadn't had breakfast after their late morning. "I've got a better idea, Captain," Amy smirked, raising her umbrella. "Let Sanji and me handle this. We'll pre-tenderize the meat." "Ready, Amy-chan?" Sanji asked, the woman balancing on the chef's leg. "Parasol shoot." Amy slammed into the stomach of the monster, lifting the beast out of the water as she reduced both her mass and its own, carrying the gagging monster toward the Sunny. She dropped it on Jin's waiting tonfa before falling on its neck. the beast coughing up something before relinquishing its hold on life. Ah! Whatever the Sea King had eaten screamed, plowing into Sanji. Next to them landed an orange starfish with a Rastafarian beanie. "I made it," the starfish cheered. Jin stuttered, "is that?" "It's got a tail," Grace gaped. But, Frankie gawked, but. What had landed on Sanji sat up, showing lime green hair down to its shoulders. From above the waist, it was human, clothed in a yellow and pink t-shirt that hugged its voluptuous form and contrasted with the orange, clam-shell-shaped backpack she wore. From the waist down, however, there was nothing but a tail covered in shiny, pink scales. Her worried, black eyes widened as she began to fret over the chef. A mermaid? Mermaids, Sanji sighed dreamily, blood trickling from his nose. Mermaids. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." The mermaid above him apologized. "You're not hurt, are you? Please say something." As their unintended guest tried to get more than one word out of the cook, Billy the gigafowl waddled over and gently sniffed her, though she didn't seem to notice. "So, Coby tried. Mermaids look exactly like the myths say." "We've never met a mermaid before," Jin muttered with some reverence. "Sure you have," Frankie countered with a wave. "Didn't you know Granny Kokura is a mermaid?" Objection. Several of the male crew members replied, some of them turning to start taking the Rabbit Sea King apart and avoid the mental image of the old woman in stereotypical mermaid clothing. "Hi," Mary greeted, skipping up to the merfolk on top of the chef. "I'm Mary, what's your name?" Surprised, the mermaid turned to the Klabouterman, the pirates behind her coming into view. "There's a lot of humans," the mermaid screamed, surprised. "More or less," Mary answered nonchalantly, giving a small wave. "Not everyone's a human. Chopper's a reindeer. Big bro Frankie is a cyborg, Brooks a skeleton. Billy here is a lightning duck, and I'm a wood fairy. Who are you?" "Oh, I'm Kami," the mermaid responded, shaking Mary's outstretched hand. "Where am I?" "You're on the Thousand Sunny, the ship of the Straw Hat Pirates," Nami said, stepping over. "We killed the Sea King that ate you." "Ah, pirates. Yo-ho-ho," Brooke laughed, stepping forward to bend down in front of the mermaid. "If it's not too much trouble, Miss Kami, would you be so kind as to show me your panties?" "Mermaids don't wear panties, you moron," Mary shouted, headbutting the skeleton in the chin, causing his skull to pop off. Kami screamed, prompting Sanji to calm her down while yelling at Brooke. Mary continued, "If you're going to ask someone, at least do it right." "That reminds me," Luffy spoke. "Sanji, lunch? What about that made you think of lunch?" Usopp demanded, smacking the back of the captain's head. "Shut up, shitty rubber," the cook shouted. "Can't you see I'm living a man's romance?" His eyes turned into hearts. "Oh sweet Kami, I never want to move, but if you wish, I would happily carry you anywhere." "I don't see the big deal about mermaids," Luffy pouted, crossing his arms, miffed at being denied instant food. "Yeah, they're cool, but Nami's prettier and she doesn't need carried around." "You're sweet, Luffy," Nami smiled, patting his cheek before turning a stink eye on the chef. Luffy blinked, picking up on his wife's mood shift. "Should I kick his ass for you?" he asked. Meanwhile, Grace had taken an interest in the starfish that had landed only a couple steps away, poking it with a dry brush. "Hey, stop that," the starfish complained, "that tickles." "I've never met a starfish that could talk, so?" "What do you have over here, sis?" Amy asked, bending over beside her sister. "I don't think most starfish have faces." "Excuse you," said Creature sniffed indignantly. "I'm Papagu, the premier fashion designer for Crimin brand clothing." "I think Dodonna has several shirts of that brand," Jin thought aloud, cutting through the Sea King with a dagger. "Yeah," the blonde agreed. "I do too. It's good stuff. Really comfortable, if a bit pricey." "Why thank you," Papagu smiled, puffing up. "I take great pride in my work." Now, turning around, the starfish walked over to the green-haired mermaid and tugged at her arm. "Kami, we need to get going. We were supposed to be back at Takoyaki 8 yesterday." "Ah, you're right. Oh, we need to call Hatchin to tell him we're okay." "Would you like to borrow our transponder, Snail?" Robin offered. "I've got one." Kami waved off, pulling a white den from her backpack and dialing in a number. The snail rung for a few seconds as Kami hopped off Sanji, much to his disappointment, and over to the mast's bench. The call connected with a soft click. "Hey, Hatchin, it's me, Kami. Papagu and I are okay. We got eaten by a Sea King again, but we're fine. Where should we meet you?" There was silence on the other end. Hatchin? "This ain't Hachi, sweetheart," a masculine voice growled from the other end. "You're talking to Macro of the dumb Macro gang." "Wait, I shouldn't say that about myself." "That's not good," Coby muttered. "Where's Hatchin?" the mermaid demanded. I am tied up right here, and we're planning on selling him pretty soon. Octopus fishmen go for a decent price on today's market." "Nuu," a new voice cut in. "Don't come here, Kami, I'll be fine. I let my guard down, but I'll get out of here, so don't come to save me." "Shut up, suckerface," Macro growled, the sound of him punching Hatchin passing through the snail. Anyway, we've got your friend about 13 miles east of the Sabadi archipelago. Did I mention that's the base of the Flying Fish Riders, the group we've teamed up with to beat Hachi? Because it is. See ya in a bit. Now, how do you turn this thing off? This. The snail started beeping. That's not it. Aha. Cha. The snail went to sleep as the call ended. Oh no, Papagu, Koby fretted. What are we going to do? I don't know, the starfish responded, crossing his arms. I'm guessing Hachi went looking for us since we're always getting caught by the macro gang, but ended up getting caught himself. Captain Luffy, I demand that we help. The pirates and their guests turned toward their pink-haired member, some of them blinking in surprise as Coby continued. From the sound of it, those guys are slavers, and I don't care if they're selling humans or fishmen, pirates or civilians. Slavery is nothing but wrong. I won't stand for it. Luffy grinned. Well, okay. I guess we have to help now. That was well said, Shrimp, Zoro complimented, ruffling the boy's hair. Even Crocodile wouldn't stoop to slavery, Amy agreed. Let's crush these bastards. Nami, set a course east. Luffy cheered. We've got a slave trade to break. Sure thing, sweetheart, the navigator responded, jumping on Billy and directing him toward the wheel. Let's get moving, everyone. I suppose I should tell you about what you're getting yourselves into, Papagu said as the Sunny began her eastward course. See, human and fishman trafficking is big business around here. There are crews like the Macro Gang and the Flying Fish Riders all over these parts. The Macro Gang has been after Koby for a while now. Yeah, Koby put in. They've caught me over 30 times. That's, Frankie struggled with his words. That's not something to super brag about. You mentioned a Hatchin guy before? Zoro pointed out. And who are the Flying Fish Riders? Hatchin's a friend of mine, Koby answered, and my boss. I work at his floating takoyaki stand. The fish guy said he was a octopus fish man, Jin muttered, scratching the stubble on his chin. Sounds kinda familiar to me. Nami shivered, prompting Luffy to wrap her in a comforting hug. She snuggled into his protective embrace. I doubt it, but if it is him, he'd probably be the best of the group, she whispered. What do you mean, Nami? Luffy answered, equally quiet. Arlong and most of his crew were assholes, but Hachi was always nice to me. He was mostly just along for the ride, I guess. I'll never be his friend, but... Who was Hachi, again? Nami couldn't resist the small smile that graced her lips at Luffy's forgetfulness. Helping her had been so instinctual that he didn't even remember who they fought besides Arlong himself. He was the pink guy Zoro fought. That makes sense, Coby mused from nearby, his sensitive ears picking up Nami's voice. Zoro-sensei said something about fighting an octopus fishman back in Kokoyashi. I never encountered the fishmen, so I can't say anything about them, but what are the odds that it's the same guy? Knownness? Grace put in, 100%. I'll believe it when I see it. Jin waved off. What about those flying fish guys? They're a kidnapping gang. Popogger Duval wears this huge iron mask. No one knows what his face looks like, but they're good at what they do. It's said that if they set their sights on you, your good is gone. We've got a problem. Usopp yelled from the wheel. Fish incoming, look up at 2 o'clock. Following Usopp's directions, the crew looked skyward to see a trio of men riding giant, blue fish through the air, each fish outfitted with a set of motorcycle handlebars. Hell yes. Mary cheered, running to Billy and throwing his saddle on. Time for me to show off. Language, Mary. Usopp cried. Let's go, the ship girl exclaimed, mounting the giga fowl and pointing upward. Billy let out a wah and took off, Mary using her powers to trail a trio of cannonballs behind them. What are you doing? Mary's surrogate uncle fretted from the ship. I can't let her have all the fun, Amy said, readying herself to join the aerial battle. But Robin stopped her with a hand on her shoulder. Robin? Let her do this, the archaeologist advised. She needs more battle experience than we do. Up above, Flying Fish Riders 1, 17, and 28 split off with cries of alarm. The bird flew through the air they just occupied. Bahahaha. Mary taunted from Billy's back. You think you have the advantage? Give me a break? You've got nothing on us, Cannonball Barrage? Scatter, Rider 1 ordered, flying away with a cannonball on his tail. You can't get away from me, go. Billy, urging her mount on. Mary gave chase to the apparent leader. The two danced through the air, the fish flying with long, swinging movements. She's on my tail, dive, Rider 17 called, prompting Rider 1 to go into a nosedive. Billy pulled up, the splash from Rider 1 entering the sea getting him and Mary wet. Shaking the water off, both Ship Girl and Giga Fowl were surprised to see the two remaining fish riders coming for them from opposite sides. We've got you now, girl. Try again, Mary responded as they got closer, jumping up and away from Billy, now. Wah, with a cry, Billy released some of the electricity stored in his body, arcs branching away from him and shocking the riders. The shock knocked said riders from their mounts with twin shouts of alarm, crashing into the water as Billy caught Mary again. A sound alerted them to Rider 1 emerging from the water behind them. Cannonball barrage. Mary yelled, pulling one of the cannonballs from before to her hand and throwing it like a baseball. She manipulated its momentum as it flew, striking the tail fin of the flying fish just before the rider could answer an incoming call on his transponder snail. Screaming, the rider could do nothing as his fish spun like a downed plane, a sound like a sputtering engine coming from its lips. Lifting riders 17 and 28 on the remaining 2 cannonballs, Mary urged Billy toward where Rider 1 would surface, smirking down at him as he did. "Now, why don't you come aboard and take us to your leader? Bahahaha." After 10 minutes and a soothing tune from Brooke, the Straw Hats had set a course for another rescue mission. "Master Duval, we've got some bad news." "Bad news?" The man who answered was much taller than the normal person, boasting a height of over 9 feet when standing straight. His most notable feature was a metal helmet with 3 cross-shaped holes in the visor. They looked cool, but could not be considered practical. "The flying fish have returned, sir, but their riders are missing. They haven't answered our calls. It seems like the pirates got them." "In that case, prepare the usual. These pirates have that mermaid with them and probably want the octopus. They can't have them without a fight. Have you heard which crew it is?" "No, sir, like I said, they won't, or can't, answer their snails." "Try one more tea," Duval began, but his order was cut off by the ringing of the transponder snail in the jacket of his lackey. His eyes narrowed. "Answer that." "Hello?" the lackey asked, doing as he was told. "Oh, hello," a voice on the other end responded, the snail smirking. The voice faded a little. "Are you sure you want me to do the bit?" "Why are you asking that now?" a female voice muttered from the background. "Just do it, I want to hear them pissed off." "Anything for you, dearest," the male voice cleared his throat. "Hello, you've reached the Crap Cafe, would you like to place an order?" Tied up behind Macro and his 2 minions, Hachi stiffened. Duval's lackeys didn't seem to notice, staring at the snail with dumbfounded looks. But you called us," the lackey on the snail answered. "I wouldn't mind some sushi," one of the Macro gang members sighed, drool dripping from his lips. "Shut up," Macro ordered, smacking the stupid fish man and grabbing the snail. "Who is this?" "Me," the voice asked. "You can call me Mr. Prince. Next to me is the lovely Miss Valentine. We will be your servers this evening. Catering should arrive around 3 this afternoon. Please have the payment of 1 captured fishman ready to deliver upon our arrival." I don't get it," the majority of the lackeys muttered together. "Kyahaha. Listen up, maggots. We're going to reach your base by 3 o'clock today. Either give us Cammy's friend willingly or we're going to take him from you by force, kicking your asses in the process. You have an hour to decide. I hope you make the right choice, for your friend's sakes." "Oh yeah?" the human lackey questioned, snatching his snail back. "And who should we say is calling?" "Weren't you listening? I'm Miss Valentine and my partner is Sanji. I'm hungry." A new voice interrupted. "Make me some food, I want octopus." "Goddamn, Luffy," the woman yelled. "You ruined our threat. Go ask your wife for a tangerine or something." "But Nami's working on maps right now, and you know how she gets if someone disturbs her then." "We're still here," Duval growled, grabbing the snail. "I know who y'all are, Straw Hats. If y'all come to my boss, I'll kill y'all like I've always wanted, Black Leg Sanji." She, Luffy laughed. "I don't know what you did to piss that guy off, Sanji, but he talks stupid." The snail clicked suddenly, ending the call and going to sleep. Duval's anger was almost palpable as he threw the poor snail back to its keeper. "We've got an hour," he yelled. "What are y'all waiting around for? Move."